A legendary hero slays magical beasts and protects his nation from the enemy country Kalisa. Santra's holy knight, Payan Parciel, stands before his massive white dragon. The blonde, red-eyed knight looks on with a stoic and resolute expression. His holy title demands a life of strict and unwavering abstinence. A young silver-haired girl in a ragged tunic looks on with a sad and lonely gaze. Payan Parciel kneels before Princess Anastasia, announcing he has come to serve as her escort. Anastasia runs away, completely stunned and bewildered by the knight's sudden arrival. In this current life, she discovers that the holy knight is actually her biological father. She recalls being scorned by the royal family for her dirty appearance and common origins. Falsely accused in a previous life, the princess was executed by being burned alive. Tragically, her 9th attempt to escape her grim fate resulted in another premature death. Reborn as a baby, she laments her heavy head and the mystery of her recurring suffering. She was born from a forbidden affair between the holy knight and the princess. A baby cries as she wonders if she has earned divine wrath through her birth. She resents her father for neglecting her while he lives in splendor, and she suffers. The silver-haired girl vows to get revenge and squeeze everything she can from her father. Anastasia uses magic while dreaming of the day the knight becomes her dedicated escort. Every cycle begins with her waking as a newborn held in her mother's embrace. In the dark of night, her mother promises a villager woman she will return for her. A heavy thud sounds as the hooded woman pleads for the villager to care for the baby. The villager woman hesitates, explaining that her own family is in a difficult situation. Overjoyed by the vast treasure, the woman agrees that the payment is more than sufficient. The baby cries "Abu, Abu" in a desperate failed attempt to protest her abandonment. Looking down with tearful eyes, the mother offers a final, silent apology to her daughter. The woman laughs off the baby's energetic wails as the mother turns her back. After handing over a letter of instructions, the mother says her final goodbye and departs. Anastasia rages internally at the irresponsible human leaving her in this hellish situation again. The woman gleefully tells her family they have hit the jackpot with the baby's arrival. The baby looks on with a skeptical and confused expression at her new surroundings. A new life begins once more. A bright day dawns over the village houses as the scene shifts. A young man named Andy berates Anastasia for her slow progress while cleaning. Though trapped in a 4-year-old body, she maintains a mental age far beyond her years. The hands of an ornate clock mark the start of her 10th life cycle. Andy insults her for being a burden who fails to earn her keep. Anastasia ignores the boy's taunts, considering him a completely insignificant part of her life. A sharp thud sounds as Andy angrily kicks a bucket of water toward the bro. A loud crash echoes as the bucket hits the wall after Anastasia effortlessly dodges it. Anastasia notes that this is the 6th time the boy has tried to strike her. Andy is baffled and enraged that a small child managed to avoid his attack. He points a finger and accuses the girl of being a cursed witch from the start. A sharp smack sounds as he insults her mother for abandoning her own child. He mocks the girl for foolishly hoping her mother will ever return for her. Andy threatens to kick her out, claiming no one needs a scruffy girl like her. Anastasia critiques Andy's clumsy form, mocking his unreachable dream of becoming a knight. Andy continues his tirade, mocking her small stature and physical appearance. The boy stomps away in a huff as his mother calls out his name. Her attention is taken by a rhythmic clatter sounding from an approaching carriage outside. Hearing a rhythmic clatter, Andy opens the door to investigate who would ride a carriage all the way to their village house. A luxurious white carriage adorned with ornate glowing lamps comes to a halt outside. Andy excitedly identifies the knightage flag on the carriage, hoping they have come to recruit him following his recent entrance test. As Andy and his mother celebrate their perceived good fortune, Anastasia watches them with a look of extreme skepticism and doubt. The mother's voice rings out with urgency as she tells her husband to wake up immediately. With her silver pink hair and bright blue eyes, the young girl remains stoic and calm despite the growing commotion. A heavy thud sounds as the impressive royal convoy settles firmly in front of the small village residence. A sudden, loud knock echoes through the room as an authoritative man demands to know if anyone is home. Andy swings the door open with a wide, welcoming smile, eager to greet the prestigious visitors he believes are for him. The blonde, red-eyed knight stands before him, his cold presence immediately silencing the boy's cheerful greeting. A chilling aura emanates from the intimidating knight, leaving Andy completely paralyzed and breaking into a cold sweat. Looking down with a sharp, piercing gaze, the knight asks if this is the Windmill family's residence. Andy confirms his identity while internally trembling at the man's overwhelming and terrifying intensity. Without waiting for an invitation, the blonde knight strides into the house and begins questioning them about the princess. A sudden silence falls over the room as the knight stops abruptly in his tracks. His eyes lock onto the small, ragged girl standing quietly near the back of the room. Moving with solemn grace, the legendary hero kneels before the child and softly acknowledges her presence. Introducing himself as Payan Parcial, the head knight of Veritas Castle, he formally announces his mission to escort Princess Anastasia. A sepia memory recalls his time as the great hero who brought a definitive end to the brutal 3-year war. Long before his time on the battlefield, he was known as a man of God who had sworn a sacred and lifelong vow of purity. Anastasia stares back at him, her large blue eyes wide with shock as she processes the weight of his words. The villager man steps forward, shouting in utter confusion at the mention of royalty being present in his humble home. Payan's expression remains stoic as he identifies the girl by her full royal name, declaring her the first princess of Santra. A radiant vision appears, depicting how the girl would look if she were dressed in the finest royal silks and jewels. He explains that Princess Beatrice's confirmed will detailed the girl's identity and her temporary stay with the Windmilled family. The mother protests loudly, arguing that the princess died 3 years ago and was never even married. Realization dawns on the woman as Payan cites the kingdom's laws regarding the rights of the firstborn illegitimate heir. A golden crown glimmers as the knight declares that Anastasia will inherit her mother's rightful place in the succession. He issues a stern warning, stating that any past or future disrespect toward the princess is a crime punishable by immediate execution. Turning his attention back to the girl, he tells her it is time to depart and asks if she has anything to pack. Anastasia looks around her bleak surroundings and softly confirms that she has absolutely nothing worth bringing with her. As they turn to leave, a desperate voice suddenly calls out for them to wait. With a forced and greedy smile, the woman asks the knight about being compensated for the costs of raising the child. Anastasia is revolted by the woman's shameless greed and the sheer absurdity of the nonsense overflowing from her mouth. Payan looks back with suspicion, questioning if Princess Beatrice hadn't already provided more than sufficient fees for her care. The woman continues her act, insisting the previous payment was insufficient for the high cost of child support in current times. Anastasia's anger boils over as she recalls how the woman gambled away the massive treasure her mother originally left for her. To the villagers' immense delight, the knight agrees to have the royal family calculate and send them further funds for their service. A small hand suddenly tugs at the knight's heavy cloak, stopping him from finalizing the financial agreement. Anastasia stares up at the man she now knows is her father, determined to prevent the villagers from profiting from her suffering. Pointing a finger at her foster family, the princess exposes how they overworked her and physically abused her every single day. She tearfully shouts that they are cruel people who denied her food, determined to make them face the knight's wrath. The scene shifts to a map of the continent of Tranquillum, a land ironically named for its supposed peace. Blood splatters across the map, representing a millennium of brutal and unyielding hostility between the divided nations. A decorative frame notes that the most vicious war in the continent's history erupted only 3 years prior. The war claimed the life of the first princess, leaving a portrait of the fallen royal beside the hero who survived. A secret will found after her death revealed a truth no one suspected, the existence of a hidden royal daughter. Walking alone through a grand window's light, Anastasia confirms she is that daughter whom no one knew of until now. Within the castle walls, maids gossip, labeled a disgrace to her family name. The young girl looks down with glowing green eyes and a heavy heart. The silver pink-haired girl questions her mother's choices while reflecting on her origins. Recalling her 9 previous regressions, the child attempts to pilfer a jewel from her family's stash. A mysterious hum sounds as the young girl activates a glowing magical circle within her locket. She realizes the necklace contained barrier magic and a hidden video stone recording. Heart-thumping, the young girl hopes the locket contains a long-awaited message from her mother. A sudden flash precedes the sound of her mother's voice asking for a blessing for her daughter. A memory reveals her mother noting how much the smiling baby enjoyed the blonde man's presence. A heavy thud sounds as the girl realizes the identity of the man in the vision. The vision continues, showing the tender moment the knight shared with his infant daughter. She remembers the knight as the one who consistently rescued her in every past life. Despite their connection, he eventually grew distant and stopped speaking to her entirely. She occasionally felt his distant gaze during formal events at the castle. She wondered about his true feelings whenever their eyes accidentally met across the room. A quick swish sounds as the knight immediately averts his eyes, maintaining his cold distance. Her resentment grows as she recalls his failure to protect her through 9 agonizing deaths. Filled with rage, the girl identifies the irresponsible knight as her biological father. A desperate wail echoes as the girl laments her father's abandonment and falls into deep depression. Realizing she cannot survive alone as a child, she plans her return to the castle. She plots to use her knowledge of the future to turn the knight into her protector. A fierce fire burns in her eyes as she vows to extract everything from her father. The present day finally arrives for their inevitable reunion. A menacing hum sounds as the knight demands verification of the princess's claims of abuse. The villagers desperately offer flimsy excuses and lies to cover up their mistreatment of the child. The girl laughs at their pathetic attempts to deny the truth of her suffering. A bright flash sounds as she prepares to reveal the undeniable proof within the video stone. A low vibration sounds as the crystal projects a magical recording of the foster father's past cruelty. The projected memory shows the foster mother cruelly telling the hungry child to beg for food elsewhere. The evidence continues, showing Andy insulting the girl and mocking her for failing to work hard enough. A terrified shriek sounds as the villagers realize their crimes have been fully exposed to the knight. The boy is stunned to realize the ragged girl possessed the magical ability to record them. She recalls that most magic users in this world are born into high-ranking noble families. Though naturally gifted, her previous lives were always cut short before she could master her magical potential. A sharp glance sounds as the princess forces her father to witness the full extent of her trauma. She knows the knight's pride will not allow him to ignore insults directed at her mother. The recording captures Andy's final insult, accusing her mother of being a witch who abandoned her child. The knight's blood boils with rage as the recording plays back the boy's cruel mockery of her lineage. A panicked scream sounds as Andy stumbles backward, realizing too late that his victim was royal. A sudden glint sounds as the scene shifts to the exterior of the silent village residence. A massive boom sounds as the boy is violently launched through the side of the house. The princess is momentarily stunned by the sheer violence of her father's immediate reaction. The parents stare in utter horror at the destruction and their son's grim fate. A shrill scream sounds as the parents rush outside to their fallen son's side. A sharp crackle sounds as the knight's divine power begins to overflow with barely contained fury. Crackling with lightning-like energy, the knight condemns the villagers for their disgusting greed and cruelty. The knight instructs the girl to sit safely as they begin their journey away from the village. A soft thump sounds as the princess obediently settles into her seat for the ride. A heavy silence falls as the legendary knight finds himself completely at a loss for words with his daughter.
A quick swish sounds as a man awkwardly averts his gaze from the young girl once more.
Anastasia fumes silently as the blonde knight continues to avoid her gaze. She notes with growing irritation that he is deliberately refusing to make eye contact. A fierce resolve burns within the young girl to stop his constant evasion. Trembling slightly, the silver pink-haired child softly admits that she is feeling very cold. He apologizes for the sudden departure, leaving her bundled up like a very grumpy burrito. Staring down at her bare feet, the child whispers that she is still freezing. A look of deep concern and guilt crosses the blonde man's stoic face. Gentle hands reach out as the knight politely asks to lift the young princess. A soft squeeze sounds as he pulls the girl into a warm and protective embrace. She realizes the comforting heat is actually the knight's divine power radiating through her. As the carriage rolls on, she reflects on the unacceptable excuses for his past distance. She views the harsh punishments depicted for royal failure as far too cruel. The knight holds her closer, asking if she finally feels a bit warmer now. Despite the present kindness, the girl remains determined not to forgive his previous abandonment. The blonde knight looks down with a troubled expression, softly addressing the girl as princess. Anastasia gazes up in pure wonder, questioning if the man is actually an angel. A celestial vision depicts the legendary hero surrounded by divine winged beings and cherubs. She enthusiastically describes how his hands burst with power to punish all the bad people. A rhythmic jolt sounds as the man humbly attributes his strength to God's borrowed power. Payon expresses deep shock at how such a young child could manifest advanced projection magic. The princess explains finding a magic stone that captured energy whenever she was being mistreated. He marvels at her innate talent, confirming her identity as the daughter of a great mage. Her anger flares as she realizes he still speaks as if she is someone else's child. She questions how her mother could ever fall for such a blunt and icy man. A romantic vision shows the knight expressing poetic feelings he could never say in reality. She wonders if her mother was actually the one who took the lead in their relationship. Looking at his handsome features, she decides her mother was simply swayed by his long eyelashes. The girl makes a formal request to the man she has now dubbed Sir Angel. She expresses a deep desire to visit a cathedral to offer a grateful prayer for him. The knight hesitates, citing his strict orders for an immediate escort back to the castle. Putting on her most adorable expression, she pleads with him to allow the religious diffant. With the tension finally gone, the young girl is suddenly overcome with a wave of exhaustion. A soft tap sounds as her head drops, falling fast asleep in her father's arms. A steady rhythm sounds as the carriage carries the sleeping child toward the royal castle. A loud shout of outrage echoes through the palace, protesting the arrival of an illegitimate child. Within the grand throne room, a woman argues fiercely against bringing the young girl home. Princess Stella, the girl's second aunt, loudly condemns the situation as a total continental disgrace. Emperor Ferdinand sighs heavily, admitting the situation is not a joyous one for him either. The ruler reflects on the shocking discovery of his late daughter Beatrice's hidden child. Stella shouts in outrage about her sister falling for a common soldier from an enemy nation. A steady click sounds as the eldest aunt, Aquila, intervenes to calm the shouting woman. Aquila sternly reminds the younger princess to maintain royal dignity and avoid using such crass language. Princess Aquila Erica Entimos, the first aunt, asks if the child's father is truly unknown. The emperor reviews the will, which only mentions a Kalisa soldier met in the Forest of Darkness. Stella grumbles about her sister's betrayal and her eventual death at the hands of the enemy king. Aquila warns the emperor that this decision could destabilize the entire foundation of their kingdom. She explains that a recognized princess has legal rights to the throne regardless of her birth status. Stella demands the child be cast out, interrupted by an official entering the palace doors. The brown-haired pontifex, Ismail Bellis, suggests they base their decision on a prophecy that appeared only yesterday. The red-haired Princess Stella is skeptical, noting that no prophecy has been heard in over a century. Standing in the grand palace, Ismail reveals the prophecy describes an arrival who will bring light to the nation of Santra. Stella and the young brown-haired girl react with disbelief, questioning the interpretation of such a vague promise. The monocled man explains that while prophecies are often cryptic, this divination specifically identifies a child of God. Emperor Ferdinand listens intently as it is concluded that despite her origins, the child cannot be cast out of the royal family. A look of stunned silence crosses the red-haired aunt's face as she processes the political implications. The scene shifts to a grand cathedral at sunset, where a voice gently wakes the child upon their arrival. Sir Parciel holds the small, pink-haired girl in his arms as she stirs from her long nap during the journey. Anastasia realizes with a start that she has spent the entire day comfortably asleep on the knight's lap. A rhythmic tack sounds as the knight carries the princess from the carriage toward the cathedral steps. The blonde knight explains his decision to visit the holy site before presenting the girl to the king. Wrapped in a dark cloak, the young girl offers a bright, happy smile that catches the knight off guard. The surrounding soldiers are utterly floored to hear their stoic captain referred to as a holy angel. Sir Parciel shoots a sharp glare at his laughing subordinates, clearly embarrassed by the child's innocent praise. While others whisper about her royal status, Anastasia privately dismisses the prophecy as nonsense and focuses on her own survival. A golden radiance surrounds her internal vow to never let this current life end in tragedy like the others. They enter the serene room of prayer, an ornate hall filled with light and the sound of flowing water. Setting her down, the knight watches as the pink-haired girl walks toward the center of the chamber. The blonde man informs her that, according to tradition, her prayers must be offered in complete solitude. Looking somewhat overwhelmed, the knight excuses himself to give the princess the space she requested. Alone at last, Anastasia kneels on the prayer platform, pleased that her calculated plan is proceeding perfectly. She gazes upon the statue of Lux, the god of light, who is the central figure of the nation's faith. Addressing the silent deity, the girl begins a somber conversation about the nature of her repeated lives. She admits she once believed her endless cycle of death and rebirth was a punishment for her father's past sins. A dark memory shows her bound in chains, trapped in a void of despair throughout her many previous existences. She recalls the agony of her numerous deaths, ranging from freezing cold to the violence of wild beasts. Standing tall, the girl declares that she has endured more than enough suffering to satisfy any divine debt. She reflects on the cruel fact that in every single life, she was never allowed to survive past the age of 12. Moving toward the edge of the prayer pool, she prepares to take a drastic step to change her fate. She looks down at the clear water, her expression set with a dangerous and unwavering determination. With a final plea for a better life this time around, the girl prepares to cast herself into the depths. A massive splash sounds as the small child plunges into the sacred water of the prayer room. Submerged in the cold blue, Anastasia realizes with a shock that the pool is far deeper than she anticipated. She begins to sink, her tiny hands reaching upward as she struggles against the weight of the water. Bubbles rise around her as she starts to regret her risky gamble, feeling the onset of genuine pain. She coughs and gasps in the water, desperately wondering when her intended rescuer will finally appear. Just as her strength fades, a sudden splash sounds as a strong hand reaches down into the depth. Sir Parciel dives in and pulls the drowning girl to the surface, his voice cracking as he calls her name. Drenched and trembling, the knight pulls her to the shore, frantically asking if she is still conscious.
Anastasia coughs violently, her face pale as she recovers from the near-death experience she orchestrated.
Gasping for air, she is confused to see a look of such raw, genuine terror on the knight's face. The blonde man's eyes are filled with tears as he stares at her, looking as if his heart has been shattered.
A loud shout of the knight's name echoes through the hall as a group of people rushes to the scene.
A sharp flinch sounds as Sir Parseal is snapped out of his shock by the arrival of the temple staff. A young priest approaches, using a soft glow of magic to reassure the knight that the girl is safe. He explains that the child simply fainted due to the stabilizing and sleep-inducing effects of the knight's own divine power. Maids and temple attendants gather in concern, wondering how such a young child could have fallen into the water. A woman notes the knight's intense reaction, remarking on how frightened he must have been by the accident. The attendants gently take the girl from his arms, advising the soaked knight to go change into dry clothes. Resting on the knight's shoulder, Anastasia hears his plan to present her to the king tomorrow. A gentle request is made to look after the child during the transition to the palace. The scene shifts to the grand architecture of the holy site, standing tall under a setting sun.
A heavy, rhythmic trudge sounds as a man walks through the corridor with a heavy heart.
A sudden, sharp tap sounds as Sir Parseal stands stiffly by the door in the dim light.
Looking downward, the blonde knight remains silent in a moment of deep, painful contemplation. A faint, rhythmic tremor sounds as his hand shakes with the weight of uncontrolled emotion. A heavy, rhythmic thumping sounds as the man stands in the pouring rain, his expression filled with inner turmoil. He recalls the girl's innocent question about him being an angel and his own internal denial of such grace.
The memory of her bright gratitude only deepens his sense of unworthiness and past failure.
He is haunted by the vision of her small form sinking helplessly beneath the water's surface.
A sense of powerlessness washes over him as he feels unable to protect those he cares for.
He worries that getting closer to the child will lead to a tragic fate like her mother's.
A warning appears alongside a symbolic eye, suggesting some things are better left unseen by mortal eyes.
He reflects on the danger of watching a heart-stirring fate that does not belong to him.
The monocled man cautions that desiring something unattainable can lead to a person's ultimate ruin.
A final dark warning emphasizes that such forbidden desires will eventually destroy a person entirely.
A soft, sliding sound echoes as the knight loses his strength and leans heavily against the wall.
Overwhelmed by grief and memory, Sir Parseal slumps to the floor in the empty palace hallway.
Outside, the cathedral stands quiet and still beneath the vast and starry night sky. A sudden, bright flash sounds as Anastasia's eyes snap open in an unfamiliar and comfortable room.
A quick, energetic pop sounds as she sits up, immediately searching for her lost item in a panic.
Sierra greets her kindly, while the other young priests excitedly announce the girl's sudden awakening.
A soft, fumbling sound follows as the princess frantically checks her clothes for her mother's keepsake.
Sierra holds out the black locket, confirming she has found exactly what the girl was looking for.
Clutching the stone, Anastasia explains that it is the only precious memory she has of her mother. An emotional chime sounds as the priests realize the significance of the magic stone and her heritage. Looking at the unfamiliar blonde woman, the girl curiously asks for her name and rank. The woman introduces herself as Sierra, a high-ranking second-class priest of the Holy Order.
Anastasia is impressed to learn Sierra holds such a prestigious position within the temple's hierarchy.
Two more priests, Rosa and Yus, introduce themselves while gushing over the girl's adorable appearance.
Anastasia reflects on how rare it is to meet such kind people in her many difficult lifetimes.
A bright, cheerful chime sounds as the princess offers a radiant smile of thanks to her new caregivers. A loud, synchronized thump sounds as the three priests clutch their hearts, overwhelmed by her cuteness.
A soft, hollow growl sounds as the girl's stomach reminds her that she hasn't eaten all day.
A loud, chaotic clatter sounds as Sierra frantically orders the others to fetch food for the princess.
A gentle, liquid slurp sounds as Anastasia finally begins to eat the warm soup provided.
An emotional chime sounds as she is moved to tears by the delicious taste of the bacon and potato soup. She marvels at how long it has been since she experienced such comfort and quality in her life. The priests encourage her to eat well, promising even better food awaits her at the royal palace. Anastasia remains skeptical, recalling the terrible and potentially poisoned food she was served in the past. She remembers how the royal maids used to neglect their duties to play, leaving her to suffer alone.
A splash of water sounds as she recalls being forced to do the palace chores all by herself.
Sierra gently offers to wipe the girl's face, maintaining a nurturing and kind atmosphere in the room.
Anastasia expresses her sincere gratitude, calling the group of priests her own personal guardian angels.
The priests mention that Sir Parseal is also known as an angel, noting the girl's nickname for him.
They discuss how the stoic knight was uncharacteristically flustered and embarrassed by the child's praise.
The princess is surprised to hear that the serious knight could react so strongly to her words.
A vision of the knight's tearful face reflects the sincerity and depth of his hidden pain.
Looking away, Anastasia remains focused on her path, mindful of the complicated feelings surrounding her arrival.
Anastasia dismisses the knight's previous terror as simple fear of royal rebuke.
Sierra reminds the princess of her early meeting with the king and suggests more sleep.
Tucked into bed, the girl vows to remain emotionally detached from her hateful father. She swears repeatedly that she will never forgive him, no matter the circumstances.
A sudden, excited squeal sounds as the scene transitions to the following morning.
Looking like a small divinity, Anastasia stands dressed in a pristine white temple gown.
Sierra and the other priests are completely enamored by the girl's adorable new appearance.
While the girl admires herself, the priests gush over how well the uniform suits her.
She recalls a past life where she arrived at the palace looking like a beggar.
Seeing her polished reflection, the girl declares she is finally ready for the upcoming battle. Determined to change her fate, the princess prepares to enter the enemy's base.
A peaceful, rhythmic chirp sounds as the knight and priests gather outside the temple. A quick, light patter sounds as the girl runs toward the group, calling for the knight. She brightly asks the knight if her flashy new outfit makes her look cute.
Sir Parseal remains silent, staring at the girl with a neutral and stoic expression.
The knight acknowledges her restful night before offering to take her to the palace. Anastasia is annoyed by his coldness, wondering if he even understands the concept of cuteness.
The princess waves enthusiastically, offering her sincere thanks to the kind priests as she leaves.
The priests bid her a sad farewell, expressing how much they enjoyed caring for her. Peering from the carriage window, she silently promises to see her angel sisters every day. A loud, rhythmic rattle sounds as the ornate carriage arrives at the Grand Royal Palace. Within the throne room, the king sits flanked by his advisors and two red-haired women. Sir Parseal kneels before the throne, announcing that he has brought the princess as ordered. King Ferdinand commends the knight for his hard work immediately following the end of the war.
The king eagerly asks where his granddaughter is as she hides behind the knight's cape.
Despite her preparation, the girl trembles with deep-seated fear as she feels a woman's gaze. A close-up reveals the sharp, calculating eyes of a red-haired woman watching the child closely.
The royal tree shows Akola took over managing the palace after Princess Beatrice's death. Anastasia reflects on how she was once forced to live entirely under Akola's control.
She recalls being locked in the smallest palace, living in total solitude among Akola's people. A dark memory shows her being executed by an angry mob after being accused of witchcraft. She gazes at the knight, remembering his role during her previous times of suffering.
A map highlights the dark forest located between the regions of Santra and Kalisa.
Noticing her distress, Sir Parseal kneels down and calls out to the princess. He gently reassures the girl, reminding her that the man on the throne is her grandfather. Confused, Anastasia wonders why the stoic knight is suddenly trying to offer her comfort. She steps forward, noting that the knight misinterprets her deep-seated trauma as simple nerves. Steeled by her memories, the girl prepares to face the people who once ruined her.
The king and the two red-haired women watch the child's approach with visible shock.
King Ferdinand declares that her resemblance to her mother makes any further verification unnecessary. The monocled man agrees, noting the girl's striking likeness to the late Princess Beatrice. The curly-haired girl, Stella, scoffs at the child's appearance, while Akola remains ominously silent. Anastasia wonders if her outfit helped change the king's perspective of her this time. She reflects on the king's character, knowing she was never loved by him in the past. She questions the king's religious ignorance while walking down the long red carpet. Looking up with wide, innocent eyes, the princess softly addresses the man as her grandfather. The king notices their shared features as the girl asks if he is truly her grandpa. He formally introduces himself as King Ferdinand and confirms her identity as Beatrice's daughter. He officially welcomes her back, declaring that she is a princess of their country. Overwhelmed by the success of her plan, Anastasia feels as if she is finally in a dream. King Ferdinand leans forward on his throne, asking what Lord Lux said to the child. Looking away with a serious expression, Anastasia recalls Lord Lux appearing in her dream a few days ago. A divine vision shows the hooded god Lord Lux holding a tiny princess, promising she will be freed from suffering and meet her real family. Looking adorable and innocent, Anastasia boldly lies to the king about receiving the divine revelation. A loud, echoing boom sounds as King Ferdinand remains frozen in total, wide-eyed shock. A sudden, loud clatter sounds as the king bolts to his feet and frantically asks the high priest if he has ever spoken of an oracle.
The brown-haired high priest sweats nervously, explaining he only told a few people yesterday and has kept it a secret.
A shocking notification appears confirming the revelation as Akola and Stella watch the scene with stunned expressions. A heavy, rhythmic stomp sounds as the king approaches Sir Parseal, concluding that Lord Lux has not abandoned their region.
Anastasia continues her story, claiming Lord Lux told her his most beloved angel would protect her.
A soft, fluttering chime sounds as Sir Parseal grows flustered, hearing that the god's most loved angel has the strongest divine power. Standing behind the girl on the red carpet, the princess declares that the angel will punish her tormentors and saved her from the water. The king is horrified to hear she fell into the water, while a small Sir Parseal clarifies it was a minor stumble during prayer. Ferdinand reflects on the dangers of neglecting a small child, even for a single moment. A quick, bright ping sounds as the king decides to appoint Sir Parseal as the princess's personal escort.
A wicked, high-pitched giggle sounds as Anastasia celebrates the success of her deceptive plan.
Sir Parseal looks away and apologizes, stating that becoming her escort is not possible. The little princess is visibly stunned by the knight's refusal.
Sir Parseal explains that as a paladin, he is under the control of the royal knights and must fulfill his established duties.
A frustrated, loud wail sounds as Anastasia throws a tiny tantrum over her failed tricks. Akola steps forward, confirming the knight's heavy responsibilities and offering to send a different royal knight to her niece. A cold, blooming floral energy surrounds Akola as she offers a sharp smile, citing the necessity of following royal law. Akola turns her gaze toward the high priest, asking for his official confirmation on the matter. The monocled high priest agrees, noting the potential trouble if Sir Parseal were to be reassigned. Akola tells the king she thinks they should go first, as the princess watches them with a flat expression. A dark, crackling aura surrounds Anastasia as she vows not to let things go their way. A peaceful, rhythmic chime sounds as the scene transitions to the grand exterior of the Ikanis Palace. A low, vibrating hum sounds as Anastasia sits on a sofa, radiating a dark and grumpy mood. A man with brown hair introduces himself as Conrad Mikhail, her new escort from the Royal Second Knights. Anastasia recognizes the man's familiar face, remembering him as a lazy flirt who ignores his duties for maids. A soft wrestling sound follows as Sir Parseal bows and announces he is leaving. A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as the princess reaches out and demands that he wait. A quick, heavy tug sounds as Anastasia lunges from the sofa and grabs the knight's dark cape. Looking somber, Sir Parseal insists that the talented members of the Knights Templar will do their best to protect her. A rhythmic, shaky breath sounds as the girl grips his cape, feeling that life will be cold without her angel. Sir Parseal asks the girl to stop calling him that, and Anastasia curiously asks for the reason. The knight looks away, explaining that being called an angel is disrespectful to the god, Lux. Anastasia is annoyed by his strict conscience and pretends she has forgotten his name entirely. Conrad laughs as the blonde knight introduces himself as Phaon Parseal and asks the princess to call him Parcel. A loud, echoing scream sounds as Anastasia vents her frustration from the palace window. Sir Parseal kneels and tells the girl she can call him anything except for Angel. A bright, sparkling chime sounds as Anastasia offers a radiant and innocent smile of agreement. A soft, fluttering sound follows as Sir Parseal is momentarily stunned and moved by the girl's pure expression. A mischievous, high-pitched giggle sounds as Anastasia imagines herself as a little devil mocking her grandfather. A sharp, ringing sound follows as the knight's red eye widens in total shock at her latest words. Sweating, the blonde knight turns away and insists that her chosen name for him is unacceptable. A loud, indignant stomp sounds as the girl demands to know why he is being so difficult. Sir Parseal looks distressed, stating that her suggestion is against royal law. A soft, pleading chime sounds as Anastasia asks if she can use cute nicknames when they are alone together. A sudden, firm thud sounds as the blonde knight grabs the girl's wrist to stalk her. Sir Parseal informs the princess they will not see each other often due to his distant duties, leaving her feeling deeply hurt. A desperate voice cries out that she will call him by that name whenever she wishes. The girl confronts the blonde knight, asking if he is afraid of being her father figure and is choosing to run away. Her frustration boils over as she labels him a bad person. Tears stream down the child's face as she regrets ever having expectations of him. Looking startled, Sir Parseal addresses the princess in a moment of panic. A loud, echoing wail sounds as Anastasia breaks into a full tantrum, leaving the knight completely flustered. Conrad Mikhail enters the room, surprised to see the stoic Sir Parseal in such a frantic state. The brown-haired knight suggests that having a nickname from the princess should be considered a great honor rather than a burden. Distressed and sweating, the blonde knight looks back at the sobbing girl behind him.
He finally relents, offering a sincere apology and agreeing to the princess's demands.
Sir Parseal somberly confirms that he will do as she wishes. The scene shifts to the palace exterior as the girl plots her next move with Conrad's inadvertent help. At 4 in the morning, King Ferdinand exits the praying room, noting the chill of the early air. A sharp, sudden shout sounds as the king reprimands his companion, insisting that prayer must be the first act of the day. He continues his lecture on the dangers of sloth while walking through the grand hall. Conrad quickly shushes the king, pointing out that someone else is already inside the praying room.
Bathed in a divine glow, Anastasia is found piously kneeling in prayer among blooming flowers.
The king is taken aback, clearing his throat as he observes his granddaughter's dedication. Looking up with innocent surprise, the princess realizes she has been discovered by her grandfather. King Ferdinand stands before the girl and asks why she has come to the temple alone. She claims to have heard the god Lux's voice upon waking and followed it until she arrived at the altar. Ferdinand asks about her escort, and the chibi girl innocently notes that he is nowhere to be found.
A dark, heavy scowl fills the king's face as he accuses the knight of sabotage on his very first day.
The princess pleads for him not to be angry, though she secretly hopes for Conrad's downfall. Softly, the king asks what specific prayer could have occupied her so intensely. Looking at the flickering candles, Anastasia explains that she was begging the heavens for forgiveness.
With a look of deep shame, the girl reveals her internal struggle to her grandfather.
The king is confused and sympathetic, wondering what possible sin such a young child could have committed. A celestial view of the royal estate highlights the importance of her upcoming request. She laments that she hasn't been able to worship for an entire year, considering her forced absence a crime. Horrified by her treatment, Ferdinand assures her that she is no sinner and blames those who kept her from the temple. Anastasia insists that she remains deeply uncomfortable and needs to atone. She begs her grandfather to let her live within the temple so she can be close to the god every day.
A map illustrates her desire to move from the heartbreaking palace to the refreshing proximity of the Great Hall Temple.
She explains that being at the temple clears her head and revitalizes her spirit.
A heavy, stunned gasp sounds as the king is deeply moved by the child's apparent holiness.
He begins to wonder if his granddaughter truly is a divine child. Looking at an angel statue, he concludes that she must be under the direct influence of the god Lux. A decorative frame introduces the report previously provided by Sir Parciel. Within his study, Ferdinand discusses the princess's potential magic with the blonde knight, deciding to delay official testing. A beautiful portrait shows the child, noting that, like her mother, her magic is manifesting at an exceptionally early age. The king stares intensely, questioning why a god would choose an illegitimate child for such a blessing. Standing before the star-topped altar, he admits that human understanding is limited when it comes to divine will. He decides that his only course of action is to observe her closely. Ferdinand finally gives his consent, allowing the princess to stay at the temple starting today.
Surrounding herself with flowers, Anastasia beams with joy as her deceptive plan succeeds perfectly.
A checklist reveals her progress, showing that she has secured a place in the temple and only needs to finalize her bodyguard. The sun shines over the palace as she reflects on how difficult the blonde knight is to manipulate. The princess is welcomed back with open arms by the delighted temple staff. A speech bubble announces Sir Parciel is arrived. A sudden rhythmic pitter-patter sounds as the little girl runs toward the blonde knight, calling him Papa.
Sir Parciel looks stunned and breaks into a nervous sweat.
The little princess offers a radiant smile, thinking this is just the beginning. A young girl with short brown hair excitedly tells her peers that she saw the little princess who arrived yesterday.
A loud, bustling clamor sounds as the temple maids crowd around, eager to know how the girl looked.
The girl describes the princess as a doll with fluffy white hair and big round eyes. The maids wonder why she is staying at the temple instead of the palace, questioning if the royal family rejected her. They gossip about the rumors regarding her biological father. A sharp, quiet hiss sounds as a maid hushes the others, reminding them that the high priest forbade reckless talk. Anastasia watches the temple staff, reflecting on how she seems to be the center of gossip wherever she goes. She acknowledges it is unsurprising people talk about her mysterious parentage and her sudden move to the temple. An acolyte carrying Anastasia asks if she can eat at the large restaurant, worried the crowds might be inconvenient. A bright, cheerful chime sounds as Anastasia beams, saying she wants to eat with her older companions. A soft, joyous hum sounds as the staff members are completely overwhelmed by her cuteness. Anastasia notes that 3 staff members volunteered to care for her since noble maids cannot stay at the Great Temple. A loud, busy hum sounds in the grand dining hall as Anastasia notes that it is a shared space. One of the maids tells the princess to sit while they go and fetch the food. A sudden, bright ping sounds as Anastasia scans the room for the best place to sit. A quick, sharp shout sounds as she points toward a distant table. She spots Sir Parciel sitting alone and is excited to see him without his uniform for the first time. A low, vibrating buzz sounds as she notices that while he is prominent, all the tables around him are empty. She wonders if his difficult personality has made him an object of social shunning. A soft, rhythmic sway sounds as the acolyte carries her over, and she cheerfully greets Sir Parciel.
She calls him Papa again, making him look up with a stoic, silent expression while she mocks his seriousness. She continues her greeting, confident that constant encounters will make him develop feelings for her. A nervous, shaky breath sounds as the staff members ask if they can join him, noticing his judgmental gaze.
A quick hungry chirp sounds as a plate of delicious crepes with berries and syrup is placed on the table. The staff notes how much she enjoys the sweets while she delights in the warm, sugary taste and the milk provided.
Anastasia holds up a fork with a strawberry, innocently asking Sir Parseal if he would like a piece of her cake. Sir Parseal avoids her gaze, sweating as he curtly states that he does not like sweets. She asks why he dislikes them, insisting that they are delicious. A low, whispering mungle sounds as other temple-goers gossip about the princess calling Sir Parseal Papa and using nicknames. A nervous, awkward laugh sounds as the staff mentions his honey-colored hair, though they feel uncomfortable dining with a superior. A peaceful, happy chime sounds as Anastasia smiles, declaring her happiness at being surrounded by angels. A sudden, cold hush sounds as the staff freezes and expresses their internal discomfort with the awkward situation. A sharp scraping slide sounds as Sir Parseal stands up to excuse himself from the table. He somberly tells them to enjoy their meal, while Anastasia asks why he is leaving most of his food behind. She warns him that the god Lux will punish him for wasting food, then playfully adds that an angel shouldn't be punished. Sir Parseal remains silent, looking slightly flustered by her persistence. He feels the weight of everyone's eyes on him as he walks away, the center of unwanted attention. A sudden, heavy thud sounds as he sits back down at the table, defeated. A bright, triumphant giggle sounds as Anastasia praises him for being really great.
She notes that his face is turning red and wonders if he feels any shame.
A high-pitched, mischievous giggle sounds as Anastasia finds great joy in teasing her favorite knight. Princess Akola sips her tea, noting that the rumors now suggest the knight is the king's illegitimate child. Anastasia reflects on her tough strategy of gaining sympathy from the people in the temple first. The brown-haired man with glasses, High Priest Bellis, is identified as a master. The girl wonders if everything was part of Bellis's plan as she looks thoughtful. Princess Akola ponders if the High Priest manipulated the divine oracle for his own ends. The red-haired woman watches the scene with a calculating, sharp gaze. In a moment of internal rebellion, she confesses her secret lack of faith in any god. Akola notes how the king has entered a fierce political battle to protect an illegitimate child. Anastasia stands up quickly, realizing that the temple's favor could determine the royal succession. The girl worries that her grandfather's reliance on the priesthood is giving them too much power. Akola stares with intense resolve, telling her sister that she must face the coming conflict. A few days later, Anastasia lies dejectedly on a red velvet couch. The blonde acolyte looks down at the little princess with an expression of deep pity. He reflects on how Sir Parseal has completely avoided the restaurant since that day. Kneeling beside the couch, the young man tries to convince the girl that the knight is just busy. Anastasia wipes at her eye, lamenting that her papa clearly doesn't care for her anymore. A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as the surrounding temple staff members are horrified by her words. Continuing her act, she cries that the knight must be angry at her and refuses to see her. The two maids exchange a silent, worried look over the princess's apparent heartbreak. Running through the palace grounds, the blonde acolyte desperately calls out to Sir Parseal. The acolyte is visibly sweating as he begs the commander for a moment of his time. Sir Parseal stops and turns his cold, red-eyed gaze toward the nervous messenger. The young man asks if the knight can simply find time to eat breakfast with the princess. Sir Parseal remains firm, stating that such a request is impossible for him to fulfill. The acolyte persists, explaining that the princess is following the knight's lead more than anyone else's. The blonde commander stares off into the distance with a stoic, unreadable face. Another soldier rushes toward the pair, calling out for the commander's attention. He urgently reports that malicious and strange rumors about the princess are spreading through the temple. Hidden in the shadows of a staircase, two maids gossip about the identity of the princess's biological father. Nearby acolytes discuss the scandal of Princess Beatrice spending over a year in the dark forest. A map highlights the theory that the girl's father was a common soldier from the kingdom of Kalisa. The reporting soldier breaks into a nervous sweat as a terrifying presence looms over him. Sir Parseal is consumed by a cold rage, demanding to know who dared to spread the forbidden rumors. The messenger cowers in fear, realizing too late that he has shared far more than was safe. The knight commands him to warn the others that anyone caught gossiping will be severely punished. The blonde acolyte fretfully considers the possibility that the princess has already heard the talk. Sir Parseal looks away, his stoic facade slipping into a look of genuine worry for the child. Seizing the opportunity, the acolyte mentions that the girl is crying because she thinks the knight hates her.
Sir Parseal is visibly shocked to hear that the little princess has been in tears.
The acolyte spins a white lie about her nonstop sobbing, hoping to win the night over. A wave of deep guilt and hesitation washes over the blonde commander's face. He finally relents, promising to come and see her as soon as his duties are finished. The acolyte beams with a triumphant smile, thrilled that his manipulation worked perfectly.
Sir Parseal accepts his fate with a somber, determined look. Watching the knight walk away, the acolyte reflects on how difficult the man is to truly understand.
The scene shifts to the grand, imposing architecture of the temple library. Anastasia spreads her arms wide with joy, delighted to finally have access to the forbidden books. She finds a useful magic tome, wondering if she can hide it among the fairy tomes. A sudden, faint whisper sounds, catching the girl's attention as she looks between the bookshelves. The princess is annoyed by the lack of library manners shown by the gossiping staff. Her eyes go wide as she overhears the cruel rumors regarding her father being from Kalisa. Suddenly, Rosa and the other acolytes burst into the room, calling out for the princess. Anastasia offers a sweet, sheepish apology, claiming her love of books made her lose track of time. The staff members are completely charmed, praising the young princess as a true child genius. The temple stands silent under a starry night as Akola grows increasingly anxious. Anastasia reflects on how the future has already shifted because the rumors surfaced earlier than expected. She recalls her past life where Akola systematically dismantled her reputation as God's child before exiling her. Writing intently, the girl notes this is her 10th life and she must carefully rearrange her plans. In her first life, she was a magical prodigy who gained attention at an unusually young age. Failing to find solutions to disasters caused people to doubt her divine status.
A frustrated Anastasia remembers when the public's expectations for a 10-year-old child were impossibly high.
Framed by Akola, she was eventually discovered with dark magic and sentenced to death.
In her second life, magic power accumulated inside her injured body until it became fatal.
Her third life ended abruptly when she escaped a tent and was attacked by wolves.
Subsequent lives were cut short by freezing, kidnapping, and the cruelty of scammers.
She died selling flowers, escaping the palace, and meeting various violent ends in other cycles.
A faint, curious hum sounds as she stares at her book, unable to remember her 9th death. A quick, rhythmic tap sounds as she writes her new goal, gain power and wealth to escape. She stares with intense resolve, realizing that simple survival requires more than just one strategy.
Anastasia acknowledges that she must maintain contact with Princess Akola despite the danger.
A sudden, loud creak sounds as two maids burst into the room to announce their arrival.
The staff asks if she is bored, but she insists that her books keep her perfectly entertained.
A soft, inquisitive chirp sounds as Anastasia holds up a royal genealogy book to show the maids. She points out the various portraits, noting that every royal family member possesses a middle name. Looking towards Sir Parseal, she laments that she is the only princess without one. She explains that since she was born in secret, she missed the grand temple ceremony for royal names. Anastasia asks if the nobles despise her because she lacks a father, making the staff uncomfortable. She looks down sadly, wondering if she is being punished for the sins of a bad parent. A low, trembling rattle sounds as she clutches a royal medallion, desperate for someone to help her. A sharp, surprised gasp sounds as Anastasia looks up to find Sir Parseal standing in the room. A bright, joyous chime sounds as the girl hops off her chair, thrilled that her papa visited.
She stops and tilts her head, asking the blonde knight why he looks so angry.
Sir Parseal drops to one knee, firmly telling the princess that her blood is noble and rumors are lies.
A soft, confused blink sounds as she listens to him command her to ignore the malicious talk.
The staff members are moved to tears as the commander promises to handle the matter of her name.
A sudden, heavy rustle sounds as Anastasia throws her arms around the knight in a tight hug.
A peaceful, happy hum sounds as she snuggles against him, admitting she feared he hated her.
Sir Parseal looks away with a stoic expression, quietly stating that he does not harbor hate for anyone.
He reflects on the unfamiliar weight of having special feelings for another person.
A mischievous, light giggle sounds as Anastasia notes how stiff and awkward he remains during the hug. The scene shifts to a grand office where the topic of the princess's middle name is raised. Sir Parseal stands before High Priest Bellis, arguing that a formal name is necessary to silence the rumors. Bellis finds it fascinating that a man who never asks for help is now interceding for the child. A quick, nervous twitch sounds as Sir Parseal flinches under the High Priest's insightful gains. Bellis agrees to arrange the ceremony by year-end, but warns the knight not to overstep his bounds. The High Priest stares with a sharp intensity, noting that people might misinterpret the knight's sudden devotion. Sir Parseal turns to leave the office, his duty for the princess finally set in motion.
A grand golden crest appears to announce the arrival of the long-awaited end-of-year festival. A loud, bustling roar sounds as the temple grounds fill with the carriages of gathering nobles.
This marks the first time in 3 years the prayer festival is held due to the recent wars.
Noble women in elegant dresses gossip about how much their children have grown during the hiatus.
Akola sits with another noblewoman as Anastasia approaches, prompting a cold greeting from her sister.
A low, annoyed grumble sounds internally as Anastasia politely greets her aunts while dreading the social obligation.
Anastasia smiles with resolve, promising to remain confident throughout the day.
Akola asks about temple life and invites the girl to return to the palace. Chibi Anastasia politely insists she is treated well while privately calling her sister crazy. Akola accepts the answer but warns that a return is inevitable at some point. Watching the brown-haired princess leave, Anastasia suspects she is hiding a secret plan.
A sudden clear ding sounds as the temple bell announces the start of the festival.
A low, bustling murmur sounds as a large crowd of nobles enters the grand hall. Anastasia is overwhelmed by the massive crowd, feeling the immediate pressure of the event. She tries to compose herself, fearing the nobles will mock her if she appears weak.
Looking toward the entrance, she notes that she must pull herself together as someone arrives. Sir Percival appears in his full military regalia, looking every bit the Grand Commander.
Anastasia is surprised by his formal attire until she remembers the awarding ceremony for heroes.
The blonde commander stands perfectly still, surrounded by a shower of decorative flower petals.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as the little princess reacts with intense, silent panic. She internally scolds the knight, questioning how a man so oblivious can be considered awesome.
The stoic knight shifts his gaze, noticing the young princess watching him from her chair. The two characters remain frozen for a long moment as their eyes finally meet. A soft, respectful bow sounds as Sir Percival acknowledges the princess with a brief nod. Anastasia is left bewildered, wondering if the blonde knight is intentionally avoiding her gaze.
The atmosphere feels slightly different than it did during their previous encounters.
She reflects on how the knight's presence has shifted since their time together at the restaurant. An official calls Sir Percival of Veritas to the podium to be honored as a hero.
A rhythmic, steady step sounds as the commander walks toward the stage with practiced grace.
The noble women in the audience are visibly charmed by the knight's handsome appearance. Nearby noblemen look on with jealousy, questioning if the commander has done something despicable. The king praises Sir Percival for his 3 years of service defending the capital's front lines. A sudden, loud clap sounds as the king officially honors him for bringing victory to Santra. A few sharp, isolated claps sound as Anastasia notes that many nobles are refusing to applaud. The young girl is visibly annoyed, wondering who is trying to get on her nerves. The king takes his place at the podium to begin a prayer for the war victims. He announces that the ceremony for granting Anastasia her middle name will follow the speech. The king solemnly mentions the royal family's loss of Princess Beatrice during the recent conflict. He proudly prepares to present the daughter of the late princess to the gathered nobility. Anastasia steps forward as the king officially introduces her to the silent, watchful crowd. A noblewoman stares with a cold, suspicious expression as the young princess approaches. A heavy, repetitive thump sounds as Anastasia feels the weight of everyone staring at her. The priest announces the start of the ceremony to grant the princess her middle name. A magical diagram explains that ancient letters are burned in a fireplace to select a name. The ritual dictates that the single unburned board will reveal the girl's new middle name. Anastasia prays for a decent name, feeling the spiritual intensity of the holy ritual. A sudden, soft puff sounds as the blessing flame unexpectedly dies out before the crowd. The audience is horrified, shouting that the sacred blessing flame has been extinguished. A sudden, sharp swish sounds as Anastasia looks at Akola, realizing her sister sabotaged the magic. A low, mocking murmur sounds as the nobles gossip about the princess having terrible luck. Anastasia is furious, knowing the ritual was rigged to make her look like a failure.
The priest offers to relight the fire, but the princess coldly tells him it is unnecessary.
She realizes that if the nobles view this as bad luck, the stigma will be permanent. Shadowy figures mock her status as a holy child, using the dead flame as proof. A quick, determined reaching sounds as Anastasia prepares to take a dangerous magical risk. Chanting the word Ignarius, Anastasia summons a massive magic circle to take control of the naming. A sudden, powerful whoosh sounds as a massive purple flame erupts from the ceremonial basin. The gathered nobles are thrown into a state of panic, shouting about the princess's unexpected use of magic. Princess Akola is stunned by the display, realizing that the young girl just performed intermediate magic. Sir Percival looks on with an uncharacteristic expression of shock as the holy ritual continues. The grand hall fills with skeptical murmurs as the audience questions how a child could possess such power. Anastasia remains focused on her plan, knowing she needs a shocking success to win over the crowd. The priest decides to proceed with the ceremony immediately, promising to investigate the source of the magic later.
Several wooden boards are consumed by the swirling purple fire as the ritual reaches its climax.
A single board survives the flames, which the priest catches with a look of intense concentration.
Anastasia waits with bated breath, her face flushed with the anxiety of the high-stakes moment.
The priest holds up the surviving board to announce the name the sacred fire has bestowed upon her.
He declares her official name to be Anastasia Lumiere and Thomas, much to the girl's immediate surprise.
The audience reacts with outrage, claiming it is disrespectful to grant a name that equates her to a deity.
TB Anastasia is left dazed by the result, wondering if the outcome was some sort of divine joke.
As the priest attempts to conclude the ritual, a sudden shout from the audience interrupts the proceedings.
Duke Orleans stands up to confront the king, demanding an explanation before the ceremony is finalized.
He announces that the cabinet cannot accept the ritual, claiming it is an affront to their traditions.
The king demands to know the reason for such a bold and public interruption from the duke.
The duke argues that the royal family has never provided an official statement regarding the identity of the princess's father.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as Orleans claims that Anastasia is the daughter of a common mercenary.
Anastasia is overwhelmed by internal conflict, blaming her mother's past secrets for the difficulties she faces now.
The priest tries to defend her status by citing her mother's will, which officially recognized the girl's royal lineage.
Orleans remains defiant, shouting that it is ridiculous to accept the daughter of a princess and a national enemy.
Many of the gathered nobles side with the duke, vocally rejecting Anastasia's inclusion in the royal family.
The king reflects on the secret trust established regarding the girl's future before she ever arrived at the palace. A grand proclamation identifies Anastasia as the one destined to bring a new light to the kingdom. A skeptical nobleman mocks the idea, questioning if the trust of the late princess still holds any weight. The king silences the duke, unwilling to listen to further insults regarding his granddaughter's bloodline.
He reminds the court of his daughter's sacrifice for the nation, refusing to let her memory be tarnished.
The king remains resolute in his decision, feeling that the name Lumiere is fitting for her future role.
He stares down Duke Orleans, asking if anyone else dares to oppose the royal decree.
A heavy, defeated thump sounds as the duke slumps back into his chair in frustrated silence. Anastasia breathes a sigh of relief, admitting that the public confrontation made her heart race with fear. She looks toward the blonde commander, wondering what thoughts are crossing the stoic man's mind.
A few days later, a maid's voice rings through the palace gardens as she calls for the princess.
The two young guests are eager to know the details of the magical event they heard about.
Anastasia excitedly shows them the magic book she received, leading to a reaction of pure shock. She realizes that her mother's reputation as a genius still carries significant weight among her peers.
A fuzzy memory of being carried by Sir Parciel underscores the girl's deep connection to her late mother. Anastasia becomes curious about the details of her mother's life, hoping to learn more about her past.
Her mother is described as an extremely gorgeous and powerful figure who commanded respect.
The late princess was considered the genius of the century, publishing revolutionary magic theories at a young age. Flashbacks show her surrounded by a circle of adoring nobles who were captivated by her brilliance. Anastasia is moved by the positive stories, noting it is the first time she has heard such praise. A joyful, sudden hug sounds as the girl is promised a future as a legendary magician herself. The scene shifts to a bright sky as Anastasia reflects on her mother's amazing legacy. Walking through the grounds, she privately blames Akola's interference for the recent scandals she had to endure. She remains frustrated with her sister, deciding that all of her current hardships are Akola's fault. Anastasia resolves to grow closer to Sir Parciel, hoping to eventually make the commander her personal knight. A maid explains that the other staff members are busy, leaving just the two of them to spend time together. Anastasia is informed that Sir Parciel is currently busy training new engineers, but she knows the maid sees right through her. Yuz remarks that Asha is in a good mood because they are going on a date together. The two characters celebrate their garden outing with a joyful and energetic agreement. A sudden, excited "whoa" sounds as the pair arrives at the stunning, flower-filled entrance of the royal garden. Yus expresses her gratitude for the chance to visit the exclusive garden, noting that it is magically kept warm during the winter. Anastasia reflects on the absurdity of needing to sneak out of the palace just to reach the garden grounds. A rhythmic, small step sounds as Anastasia strolls through the rows of magically blooming red roses. A joyful, soft giggle sounds as the girl feels a sense of triumph over how well her current life is going. Anastasia notices that a back door has been left open and becomes curious about what might be hidden on the other side. She considers investigating the open door, but decides it is better to return to the maid to avoid trouble. A sudden sharp shoom sounds as a strange magical sensation catches the young girl's attention.
She detects a flow of energy that feels remarkably familiar, though she hasn't sensed it in a very long time.
A soft contemplative no sounds as she realizes she definitely used to feel this specific energy in the past. A heavy creaking sound echoes as Anastasia decides to push the heavy door open and look inside. Stepping into a new area, she mutters a spatial spell as she explores the mysterious grounds. A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as the princess is hit by a wave of painful and overwhelming memories. A sudden, loud boom sounds as a vision of explosions and destruction flashes through her mind. She sees a dark-haired boy standing amidst a battlefield surrounded by armed soldiers and swirling energy. The mysterious youth turns his head, revealing a cold and piercing gaze as the vision intensifies. Anastasia is left reeling from the memory, desperately wondering who the boy could possibly be. A sudden, urgent shout sounds as the princess collapses to the dirt path, clutching her head in distress. A soft, fluttering sound is heard as the girl's wide green eyes search for the source of a voice. Someone calls out to her again with concern as she remains curled on the ground.
Sir Parcial kneels to scoop her up, asking if she is hurt, while she reflects on how he always appears when she needs him most.
A sudden sharp bzzz sounds as the blonde commander declares he will take her back to the palace for an immediate medical exam.
Anastasia quickly insists she is fine and doesn't need a checkup, claiming she isn't in any pain.
The stoic knight looks down with a look of pure disbelief, but the girl remains firm in her denial. A sudden, frantic shout sounds as the dark-haired maid finally spots them by the garden entrance.
Anastasia waves a hand from the commander's arms, letting the maid know exactly where she is.
Yus is shocked to find Sir Parcial there, while the princess jokes that her papa appeared just like a magic trick. Parcial claims he was simply passing by on his way to training, but the girl notes he is already trying to leave. Yus urges the knight to stay and share a cup of tea with the princess, and Anastasia adds her own hopeful plea. A soft, sparkling aura surrounds the girl as she uses her most adorable expression to convince the reluctant commander.
A sudden, happy yay sounds as the soft-hearted knight finally gives in and agrees to stay for a short while.
A sudden, impressed whoa sounds as a plate of decadent, fruit-filled pastries is placed on the table. Yus explains that the treats were sent over by the palace staff after they heard the princess has a fondness for cake. Anastasia suddenly worries if the snacks might be poisoned, despite knowing her sister wouldn't be that obvious. She reflects on a strange sound from earlier, briefly wondering if there might be an assassin lurking in the garden. A soft, trickling sound is heard as tea is poured, while the girl tries to dismiss her nervous thoughts. Anastasia attempts to shake off her nerves as she invites the commander to take a sip of his tea. Yus mentions that she heard the blonde knight specifically enjoys this particular brand of tea.
Sir Parcial admits that it is true he drinks it on occasion, while the maid worries she might be being rude.
Anastasia finds it precious that the stoic man is drinking smile tea while she enjoys her own cup of cocoa. A soft sipping sound is heard as she watches the knight closely, wondering if the tea will actually make him smile. A rhythmic chewing sound is heard as the princess happily eats her pastry while observing the stoic commander. The three characters sit together in the peaceful, flower-filled garden, enjoying a quiet afternoon break. Anastasia reflects on the deep sense of safety and security she feels whenever she is in the presence of her papa. The princess calls out to the knight, announcing that she has a specific wish she wants him to fulfill. The blonde-haired commander looks confused while asking for clarification on her wish. Asha thinks to herself that she must stay near the knight and asks to visit the training grounds. The commander immediately and bluntly refuses her request with a stern expression. He explains that the grounds are boring and not a suitable place for a princess. Determined to go, Asha uses an adorable and teary-eyed expression to plead with him. She becomes frustrated when she realizes her cute attempt failed to change his mind. Asha turns to her dark-haired maid Yus and desperately calls out for help. Yus gives a confident wink and tells the princess to trust in her. The maid claims she has an errand to run and suggests the commander watch the girl. The blonde knight is visibly stunned by the maid's obvious and sudden excuse. He remains silent and resigned as he realizes the maid has trapped him. He mentions the distance to the grounds while Asha looks at him with wide, hopeful eyes.
A sudden, happy pop sounds as Asha jumps with joy after hearing him relent.
Asha excitedly suggests that the commander can give her a hug once they arrive there. She sparkles with pure joy while reaching out toward the stoic, motionless mate. Yus waves them off as the commander reluctantly carries the girl toward the grounds. A sudden, sharp clang sounds as the scene shifts to the stone exterior of the training ground. A sudden, sharp clang sounds as a purple-haired woman duels with a brown-haired youth. Asha is awestruck by the power and intensity of the knights practicing before her. A sudden, sharp clang sounds as the two duelists lock their swords together in a struggle. A sudden, heavy thump sounds as the brown-haired boy is knocked to the ground. Standing over him, the purple-haired woman tells the boy he needs better defensive reactions.
She stops her lesson to announce that the captain has finally arrived with a guest.
She wonders about the child, while Asha greets the group with a polite bow.
The knight is delighted to meet the rumored genius princess and finds her incredibly adorable.
She introduces herself as Selman Piart, the deputy captain, and Asha finds her very impressive.
Asha peeks over with concern, wondering if the boy on the ground is actually all right.
A heavy, exhausted breath sounds as the brown-haired boy remains collapsed in the dirt. A soft, sparkling aura surrounds the handsome youth as he groans in pain and looks up.
Asha is completely stunned by his pretty face and wide blue eyes.
A sudden, rhythmic thump sounds as a group of knights rushes over to see the princess.
They surround the commander and marvel at how tiny and cute the young princess is.
Selman scolds the men for acting like bears and asks why the commander brought her.
Clinging to his neck, Asha clarifies that she was the one who asked to visit. Selman bursts into laughter, finding it hilarious that the stoic commander is being called father. She teases the knight about his sudden parenthood, while Asha observes her boldness.
Selman orders the brown-haired apprentice to show the princess around since they are rivals.
Asha worries he is too hurt, while the boy accepts the order with a quiet nod. The blonde commander hands the princess over and tells the boy to protect her.
A sudden, warm whoosh sounds as the boy's face turns bright red from embarrassment.
Asha finds his blushing face highly suspicious while she wonders about his identity.
The apprentice extends his hand and politely offers to give the princess a tour.
A soft, gentle pat sounds as Asha cautiously takes the boy's gloved hand.
As they walk, Asha tries to remember where she has heard his name mentioned before.
She focuses on his blue eyes and light brown curly hair to help her memory.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as Asha finally remembers the boy's future identity.
A system profile describes Regent Tigress as a legendary apprentice known for his incredible speed.
Asha is shocked to realize this gentle boy and a future charismatic knight are the same person.
She reflects on his current appearance, noting it does not yet show his future maturity.
Regent looks back at her with confusion, asking why she is staring at him so intensely.
Regent Tigress looks downcast as he admits that his abilities are not actually that impressive. Selman Piart teases the apprentice about his shyness, suggesting his talents make him a suitable match for the princess.
Asha holds the boy's hand while insisting his power is brilliant, explaining the necessity of divine power for knights. A narrative panel explains that divine power is rare and randomly found in people with physical abnormalities.
A golden frame illustrates that those with divine power serve the temple as priests or holy knights.
A sudden, heavy thump sounds as Regent stops in his tracks to reveal he cannot use divine power.
The young princess is visibly shocked, wondering how it is possible for him to lack such a gift.
Regent sadly explains that he will likely have to leave the knights since he cannot stay without power.
Asha becomes confused, desperately wondering if she has mistaken his identity or if he is a different person.
The apprentice looks toward the training grounds and mentions that it was the commander who brought him in.
A vision of the stoic, blonde-haired commander, Sir Parseal, appears as the boy speaks about him.
Regent reflects on how the day he met the commander became the major turning point of his life.
A flashback shows monstrous, fire-breathing beasts invading a village and turning the peaceful land into a wasteland. A younger Regent huddles in the wreckage where his father was killed and his mother was left unconscious.
A sudden, sharp shoom sounds as the blonde knight arrives in the doorway, clad in shining silver armor.
The apprentice describes the knight's sudden appearance as nothing short of a miracle during his darkest hour.
A sudden, loud boom sounds as Regent watches the knight stand amidst the dust and destruction.
A sudden, sharp slash sounds as the blonde commander effortlessly cuts down the towering beasts with his sword. Parseal is surrounded by a crackling blue aura as he moves with incredible speed to finish the monsters.
The knight uses a warm, glowing light from his hand to heal Regan's mother amidst the ruin. Parseal tells the boy to follow him, offering him a place within the prestigious Veritas Knight Order. Regan wonders why he was chosen if he cannot use the divine power the commander surely noticed.
Asha rejects the boy's theory that he was only brought to the palace out of a sense of pity.
She declares that Papa is far too righteous and must have sensed the boy's true latent potential. The apprentice is surprised by her sophisticated words, noting that she knows many complex and mature terms. Asha quickly claims that her advanced vocabulary comes from her great love for reading many different books. A sudden, quick grab sounds as the princess takes the boy's gloved hand and pulls him alone.
A sudden, sharp zoom sounds as Regent is startled while Asha leads him toward a secluded forest area.
Arriving at a massive tree, the girl invites the apprentice to sit so she can help him practice.
Asha reflects on his future greatness while feeling pained by seeing such a beautiful boy so desperate.
The princess becomes defensive, insisting she knows how to use magic and shouldn't be looked down upon. They discuss the differences between their powers, with the girl noting that the underlying principles are the same.
An educational panel illustrates that while magic uses mana, divine power relies on a source known as prana. Asha suggests that the only reason he cannot feel his prana is because he currently lacks self-confidence.
Regin is once again impressed by her knowledge, while Asha attributes her wisdom to her reading habits. The princess recalls her second life, where she went missing because she was too scared to use magic. Asha encourages the apprentice to be confident and believe in the commander's decision to bring him there. Regin wonders if the princess hates the commander as she urgently tells him to hurry up and start. A sudden soft swoosh sounds as the apprentice brings his hands together to begin his focused meditation. A sudden straining sounds as both the boy and the girl squeeze their eyes shut in concentration. The two children sit in silence, focused entirely on the small plant growing in the dirt between them. A sudden heavy sounds as they continue to pour all of their mental energy into the task. They remain motionless and silent, waiting for any sign of change in the small green sprout. Regin opens one eye and asks if he is doing it right, while Asha looks on with intense focus. The princess points excitedly at the small plant, claiming that a certain part looks much fresher than before. The apprentice leans in close to investigate, but notes that the plant looks exactly the same as it did.
Asha remains stubborn and insists that it must be true because she is the one who said it.
Regin looks at the determined girl with a soft, blushing smile as he realizes how hard she is trying.
A sudden happy ha-ha sounds as the apprentice finally breaks into a fit of genuine, lighthearted laughter.
A soft, gentle pat sounds as Regin pats the girl's head, admitting he feels much more confident now.
A sudden soft swoosh sounds as the young princess smiles warmly while expressing her sincere gratitude.
A soft, rhythmic pat sounds as Regin gently strokes her head and admits that it is his very first time being thanked by anyone.
Asha reassures him it is fine and expresses her desire for a brother like him, though she clarifies she definitely does not want a crazy dude as a sibling.
The young apprentice is left completely speechless and stunned by her kind words.
Regin asks the princess to consider him a brother if she can accept someone who feels as useless as himself. Asha is delighted and asks if she can simply call him by his name, Regin.
A sudden loud "hey" sounds as a red-haired boy approaches and calls out to the apprentice from the woods.
Standing tall with his sword, the red-haired newcomer mockingly asks if Regin has been abandoned and why he is babysitting a child. Regin sternly warns the other boy to watch his words because he is addressing the princess. The arrogant redhead smiles mockingly with his sword resting on his shoulder.
He repeats the princess's title with clear disbelief.
The boy introduces himself as Ark Eleanor, the eldest son of Count Eleanor, while acknowledging he has finally met the famous princess.
Asha's visibly irritated by his condescending tone and the way he refers to her as that princess.
She reflects on her distaste for meeting such arrogant nobles and identifies him as a member of the Danitas Knight Order based on his uniform. A narrative panel describes the Danitas and Veritas troops as the two top-ranking royal knight orders. It explains that both orders utilize magic and aura, though Asha notes that Danitas knights are notoriously full of themselves. Ark questions the princess's presence at the training grounds, claiming it is not a place where she should be.
Asha firmly retorts that as a princess, she can go anywhere, explaining she came to see the brave knights who defend the realm.
Ark dismissively suggests that a real knight should be her guide rather than someone like Regin. Regin looks devastated as he begins to wonder if the commander made a grave mistake by taking him in.
A sudden sharp "hey" sounds as the apprentice snaps back, demanding that Ark stop insulting his commander immediately.
Ark mocks the lowlife's lack of formalities while sneering at him. Asha is shocked by his rudeness, noting that people from the Great Temple are supposed to have better manners. The red-haired boy mocks the commoners for their blind praise of a knight whose background they don't truly understand. The princess is confused by the specific mention of the commander's past background. Asha notices that Regin's hand is trembling with rage as he begins to grip his sword. Regin fiercely demands an apology for the insults directed at his mentor. Ark taunts him further, questioning if he really intends to fight without having any divine power.
A sudden metallic swing sounds as the apprentice begins to draw his blade, challenging Ark's assumptions about his capabilities. A sudden sharp no sounds as Asha imagines the two boys fighting and getting into serious trouble. She realizes that things will only get worse if the two are caught and disciplined for fighting.
A sudden, quick thud sounds as the princess slams her hands onto the ground, determined to stop the conflict herself.
A bright, glowing magic circle erupts beneath the girl, signaling her sudden intervention.
A sudden, shocked "what?" sounds as Ark stares in disbelief at the sudden magical display before him. A sudden, powerful whoosh sounds as the trees begin to shake violently from the magical force. A sudden, heavy thump sounds as a barrage of pine cones falls from the canopy onto the red-haired boy.
A sudden, loud crash sounds as Regent asks the princess what kind of magic she just performed. Asha innocently explains that she just recently learned how to manipulate magic power. Ark is knocked to the ground, covered in pine cones, and demands to know why she attacked him so suddenly. The princess coolly states that she was merely taking out the trash, leaving the noble boy fuming with rage. She confronts him with the meaning of his name, accusing him of failing to live up to the honor it implies.
Asha berates him for trampling upon the very dignity that a knight is supposed to uphold. She declares that he has lost the right to be called a knight, leaving Ark speechless and trembling with shame.
The red-haired noble sits in the dirt, completely defeated and shaken by the young girl's words.
A sudden, rapid scurry sounds as Ark flees the scene in embarrassment without saying another word.
A soft, gentle tap sounds as Regent touches the princess's shoulder to get her attention. The apprentice sparkles with admiration, praising the princess for being even more impressive than his own commander.
Asha scolds him for being too quick to draw his sword while he sheepishly apologizes for his temper. Regent wonders how she can sound so mature for her age, while Asha simply attributes her wisdom to her reading habits.
The grand, sun-drenched Eleanor Merchant.
Ark clutches his head in absolute distress.
He remains shaken by the princess's lecture and her formidable display of magic.
He vividly remembers her casual use of advanced magic during the previous festival.
Ark's brooding is interrupted as a maid addresses him as young master.
She informs him that the master of the house is requesting his presence.
The boy nervously murmurs to himself before going to meet his father. He greets Count Eleanor, who sits sternly in a lavishly decorated study.
The count immediately notices and questions the visible injuries on his son's face.
Ark lies about his injuries, claiming they were the result of overtraining. His father sharply inquires if his training has shown any significant results.
The count specifically asks about progress regarding the elusive Flamma Gladius technique.
A legendary flaming sword represents the Eleanor clan's signature martial skill. Ark admits that mastering the fire element remains a difficult and unachieved challenge.
The count erupts in anger, calling his son's lack of progress pathetic. He expresses deep resentment over the illegitimate princess gaining favor and recognition.
The nobleman places the blame for his family's decline solely on Prexskill. He compares Ark to Parseal, who became an official knight at Tem. He demands that a similar title of prestige must exist within their own family.
Ark quietly submits to his father's harsh and demanding orders. A brilliant full moon illuminates the purple sky.
Asha lies awake in bed, overstimulated by the day's events.
She celebrates the successful use of tremor magic against the arrogant noble. A sudden happy ha-ha sounds as the princess rolls around in bed with joy. She decides that the outdoor training field is the best place to practice. The girl plans to train as much as she wants to achieve her goals. She wonders briefly if her treatment of Ark was too harsh.
The name Ark Eleanor begins to trigger a distant memory.
A sudden, sharp realization strikes the young girl as she remembers.
She recalls overhearing maids discuss a tragic death in her past life.
The gossip revealed that the eldest child of Count Eleanor had died.
She realizes the boy she met was her Aunt Stella's deceased fiancé.
Asha sits up, disturbed by how the past rumors were actually true.
Ark gazes out a window into the night.
Parseal firmly rejects a request during their first attempt. The young princess begs for her father's permission with hopeful eyes.
He continues to say no during their fourth attempt.
Asha pleads for him to change his mind just this once.
Parseal expresses total exasperation as his daughter continues to badger him. The princess begins to cry, admitting she was looking forward to this. Parseal is visibly shocked and stunned by her sudden emotional outburst.
A heavy silence fills the ornate hallway.
A knight wonders why Parseal is so consistently strict with the princess.
Asha hugs her father while asking him if he knows how to fly kites.
The golden-haired boy notes that the princess has become much happier recently. He hopes that her joy and happiness will continue to last.
A sudden cheerful ta-da sounds as Regent shows off a red dragon kite.
He admits he just wanted an excuse to visit the training field. Asha's internal thoughts reveal her total lack of interest in childish toys.
Regent frantically chases after the running princess to keep her safe.
A sudden, happy kaya-ha sounds as the princess laughs and tells Regent to look at her kite.
Regent notes she talks like an old lady but remains a child at heart. Asha asks about her father's dragon form, while Regent hopes to witness it someday. The princess offers to ask her father to perform for them.
Regent trembles while asking if she is truly not afraid of the commander. Asha admits she was afraid at first but has moved past it. She reflects on how she usually gets everything she wants.
Regent urges them to leave because they have wandered too far.
Asha thinks the boy is a total scary gat.
They spot a lone figure in the woods.
Asha looks on with a realization. She worries about someone dying in 3 years.
She identifies Ark as Stella's fiancé, who might become an obstacle. Asha warns Ark of his fate while he accuses her of jinxing him. The princess remains lost in her thoughts.
Ark kneels in frustration with his sword.
Regent asks the princess what is wrong.
Ark screams in frustration about his failure to master a skill.
He notes that his aura cannot transform into fire.
Ark feels defeated while Regent notes skills take time to learn. The boy suddenly turns his head in surprise. Asha asks if he mastered the elements before attempting the dangerous skill. Ark asks if she is looking down on him, and she bluntly agrees. Regent tries to lead the princess away as the noble boy fumes. She thinks mastering magic could save him from drowning. The princess offers to help him with the magical elements. A sudden, confused, "Huh?" sounds as Ark stares at her.
Asha explains it is wrong to ignore someone in danger and offers her assistance.
Ark refuses help while Asha notes how Danitas knights neglect magic. He declares that he will not learn from a mere child. The young princess looks visibly annoyed.
Asha walks away while dismissing the boy as another arrogant nebel.
Ark remains behind, determined to succeed alone. Count Eleanor warns his son that his sibling will inherit the throne if he fails.
Ark grips his sword handle very deadly.
The boy invokes the flaming sword technique while a golden magic circle appears.
A sudden, powerful whoosh sounds as the sword erupts into flames.
Ark celebrates his success while panting from the effort.
He stares intently at his work.
An image depicts the boy's knighthood dream. Ark suddenly panics as he realizes he cannot control the fire. A sudden, loud "ah" sounds as the other children look back in alarm. A sudden, sharp "kya" sounds as Asha calls the noble boy a fool.
Asha tells Regent to call her father, but he refuses to leave her.
The princess screams for him to hurry before the boy gets burned. Asha runs toward the fire and tells Ark to drop his sword.
A sudden, pained "kya" sounds as Ark realizes he cannot let go of the blade.
Asha casts a water spell through a glowing blue sepal.
A sudden, sharp hiss sounds as water meets the magical flames.
The princess realizes the high-class magic requires divine power to break.
The red-haired boy cries out in desperation, telling the princess to get out of the way. Asha is frozen in shock as Ark warns her of the danger and tells her to go away. A sudden, loud "ah" sounds as a massive vortex of fire erupts. The sheer force of the explosion leaves a blur of white light across the scene. The pink-haired girl sits on the ground, processing the cinematic intensity of the moment. Asha stares ahead with wide eyes, wondering if she has somehow reincarnated again.
A sudden, heavy thump sounds as the blonde-haired commander appears in a burst of light to shield the children.
Regent calls out his commander's name in relief. A sudden, bright flash sounds as Parciel stands between the boys, halting their movements. The intensity of the clashing forces vibrates through the metallic rod held between them. Asha urges Regent to use his divine powers. Regent is stunned as the princess continues to question if he is truly using divine power. Asha smiles and concludes that Regent must have used his power to protect her, affirming her father's reason for bringing him. Regent worries that Ark's hands are in terrible condition, while Asha asks how he managed to call for her father. The apprentice explains that he was so worried about the princess that he screamed and ran to find help. Regent looks completely drained and shaken by the ordeal. Asha notes that the boy looks like he has seen a ghost and asks what is wrong. Parciel walks forward with a grim expression, followed by two other knights. The blonde-haired man's eyes glow with a menacing red light as he demands to know what happened. Asha and Regent are paralyzed with fear, sensing an overwhelming aura of evil from the commander. Parcio reaches out and places his hand over Ark's burned, glowing hands. A sudden, soft flash sounds as Parciel kneels to apply healing magic to the injured boy. Asha watches her father, noting his completely soulless and detached expression. Parciel coldly informs Ark Eleanor that military rules forbid an apprentice from using high-level magic without an official knight present. The red-haired boy weeps as Parciel asks if he was already aware of the regulations. Parciel declares that Ark has no grounds for complaint regarding being permanently expelled from the Imperial Knights. The surrounding knights remain silent, leaving the children to wonder if such a harsh punishment is actually happening. Asha speaks up, telling her father that his decision is far too hasty.
Parciel asserts that as the leader of Danitas, he has the sole right to decide Ark's fate.
The dark-haired man is identified as Edwan Alter, the general captain of Danitas. Parciel asks Sir Alter if he has any objections to the decision he has made. Edwan watches the scene closely, wondering why the boy has not offered an explanation yet. Asha feels a wave of intimidation coming from the general captain as she watches him. Edwan asks Ark Eleanor for a specific reason why he chose to use that skill in the princess's presence. He kneels and asks if the boy was trying to show off higher-level magic to her. Asha is struck with sudden, overwhelming shock. She feels indignant, believing the man is trying to shift the blame onto her. Parciel argues that Eleanor would never use the skill, even if requested, accusing the boy of being desperate to kill the princess. Edwan suggests there may be extenuating circumstances, noting that the princess never actually made such a request. Ark admits that he acted alone and confesses that the princess was actually the one who saved him. Asha watches in silence as the boy takes full responsibility for his actions. The general captain looks at Ark with a subtle, calculating expression. Asha panics, thinking that Ark is making a huge mistake by being so honest because it will lead to his expulsion.
She wonders if being expelled is better for him, remembering that he is destined to die in battle in 3 years. Ark remains on his knees, tears streaming down his face as he awaits judgment.
Edwan begins to pronounce the official rule, but Asha suddenly screams for them to wait.
Asha frantically claims that Ark is lying and shouts that she was the one who begged him to show her his water sword technique.
The group stares at the princess in disbelief as she scolds Ark, telling him that lying is bad.
Asha insists that Ark was merely following the orders of the royal family and should not be expelled.
Parseal and Edwan exchange a tense, silent look following the princess's sudden intervention.
Edwin Alter suggests they proceed with disciplinary action just this once.
Asha hangs her head, unable to look her father in the eye.
Parseal suggests the princess return home since she must be startled.
Asha trembles, thinking her father sounds much more impressive than usual.
A ban on the gym is issued, leaving the princess despondent.
Asha wails that her grand plans have been ruined.
The princess takes back her claim about not being afraid of her father. Asha laments the lack of reward for helping others until a maid announces a guest.
The princess sits up, wondering who could be visiting her.
Regin and Ark enter the room, the latter carrying a large bouquet of roses. Asha's surprised to see both boys together in her room. A sudden soft pop sounds as the red flowers are presented to her. Ark kneels and asks the princess to accept his loyalty. Regin scolds his companion for being too aggressive with the floral delivery. Asha wonders if Ark is naturally clumsy as she accepts the gift. Ark explains that the princess saved his life from his father's wrath. Asha wonders how to repay the favor while questioning the nature of Ark's father. White flowers drift as a realization about being a savior occurs.
Asha commands Ark to make an oath of allegiance to her for mutual protection.
The red-haired boy is stunned by the request for an oath.
The princess promises to keep the secret since knights usually swear only to the king.
A sudden, loud no sounds as the paladin apprentice interrupts. Regin insists that he will also swear his lifelong allegiance to her. Regin argues that he must join if Ark does, despite his status as a paladin. Regin decides swearing to the princess is acceptable, much to Asha's shock. A sudden, sharp ting sounds as the princess accepts their offers. Asha holds a single rose and calls both boys by their full names. The princess uses the flower to dub them as her officialites. Both boys swear their allegiance in unison. Asha feels like she has gained 2 puppies rather than 2 knights. A maid with glasses informs Asha that the king is calling for her. The boys are shocked by the news of the king's summons. The scene shifts to the royal boss. Edwan tells Parseal that Danitas is being dispatched and Veritas will handle the mission. Parseal asks if there is anything more to the message with an annoyed look.
Edwan observes that the commander has been acting very uncomfortable recently.
He asks if his discomfort stems from the princess's new job. Edwin notes that Parseal still seems quite displeased with the situation. Parseal expresses his belief that it was unfair to force the princess to lie. Edwan stares in disbelief at the commander's statement. A sudden, sharp laugh sounds as Edwan finds the reasoning ridiculous. Parseal insists that the intelligent princess only lied to protect Ark. Edwan finds it hilarious that such compassionate words came from Fion's mouth. A happy princess skips through flowers. A reminder is given that the princess currently lacks a proper guardian. Parseal coldly tells Edwan to stay out of his business. Edwan decides to take his leave first with a dismissive remark. Parseal walks away, leaving Edwan standing alone in the hallway. Edwan laughs to himself while holding his head in amusement. The man smiles at the events. Parseal walks through the palace hallway with a grim, determined expression. Asha's voice echoes through the grand estate as she invites others to enjoy the feast. The king encourages Asha to eat her fill, noting that temple food is likely far inferior to palace meals. Anastasia cheerfully wishes her grandfather a good meal as the narrator marks the arrival of dinner. The princess marvels at the luxurious lobster and chicken, reflecting on how she never had such food in her past lives. Asha feels her appetite vanish as she looks toward the other royal family members at the table. The young curly-haired girl mocks Asha's appearance, claiming the princess's face has doubled in size. Asha grumbles internally that her cheeks have simply grown plump from a healthy routine of eating and sleeping.
The red-haired woman expresses concern for the king's health, noting that his face looks thinner from overwork.
The king reports that war restoration is smooth, but slave hunters kidnapping orphans remain an elusive problem. Asha is gripped by fear, remembering how those same hunters killed her during her 5th life.
The red-haired woman wonders how the hunters evade capture and fears they may return to the capital.
The king promises to deploy Danitas to resolve the issue before turning his attention to Anastasia.
A sudden, heavy thump sounds as Asha stops eating when the king asks if she visited the training ground. Suspecting Edwin of informing on her, the princess quickly lies and says she only wants to practice magic.
The curly-haired girl scolds Anastasia for annoying the knights just to satisfy her own whims.
The king silences the girl, finding Anastasia's desire for self-improvement to be highly commendable. He suggests that Anastasia receive private magic lessons from Prince Loctania, the dean of the academy.
The young girl is outraged by the news, while the red-haired woman questions the king's decision.
The woman argues that court manners and the Bible are more appropriate for a princess to maintain a royal image.
Asha views the challenge as a perfect opportunity, knowing she has already memorized the Bible.
A sudden wet splat sounds as the king spits his wine in shock at Anastasia's bold claim. Asha explains that she read the Bible every day because it was the only book in her previous home. The red-haired woman tests the girl's memory by asking her to recite a specific verse and page. Anastasia begins her recitation perfectly, speaking of divine strength and constant protection. The princess continues her flawless delivery, reciting verses about being saved from deception and traps.
The king is left in total disbelief, amazed that a small child could memorize such complex text.
He declares her superior to her mother, noting that even Triss struggled to memorize the Bible at a higher rank. Asha is confused by the sudden comparison and wonders why her mother was mentioned. The princess questions her mother's past as she recalls the high status of the Naritas royal wizards.
Naritas is described as an elite organization of wizards whose ranks are determined by power and merit.
Asha realizes with a start that her mother was actually the head of the entire royal wizarding corps. The princess walks in a daze, overwhelmed by the revelation of her mother's incredible genius. Asha concludes she has the ultimate bloodline, born to the best magician and the strongest knight. Despite her prestigious lineage, the disgruntled princess laments that she still died like a sunfish 9 times. Parsial waits by a carriage to escort Asha back to the temple as she notes his emaciated appearance. As the king urges her to stay close to family, Asha bluntly requests that they not meet again for a while. The blonde-haired knight suddenly reaches down and lifts the princess into the air.
Asha asks the commander if he has been overwhelmed with work, noting how tired he looks.
Parsial's dark internal resolve swirls around his desire to protect the princess by keeping her in the palace.
The commander places his hands firmly on Anastasia's shoulders, his expression unreadable.
A sudden, tight squeeze sounds as the blonde-haired man pulls the princess into a desperate, protective hug.
Asha is frozen in utter confusion by the knight's sudden and uncharacteristic display of affection.
A sudden, surprised gasp sounds as the princess asks if he forgot he was supposed to put her in the wagon.
A sudden, quick flash sounds as Parsial releases her, blushing and claiming his actions have become a habit.
The flustered knight quickly places Anastasia inside the carriage to hide his embarrassment. Asha remains silent and bewildered, wondering what could have caused such a strange reaction.
A sudden, heavy thud sounds as Parsial sits across from her, his head bowed in quiet thought.
The commander looks away with a troubled gaze, while Asha continues to wonder about his behavior. The princess stares back at him with wide, curious eyes, processing the intense moment they just shared. Asha flails inside the specialized carriage, realizing that being carried by the knight has become a strange routine. A memory of the distant past reveals a colder, more indifferent commander walking away from the princess. Sitting across from the blonde commander, Asha resolves to ask him about her mother's life and his true feelings. The princess gathers her courage. She calls out to her father.
She asks about her mother's history.
The knight's uniform gleams brightly. Parsial is visibly shaken as the princess notes his trembling eyes while he remains silent. The blonde-haired man looks away, explaining that he and her mother once exterminated monsters together. Asha imagines their shared history on the battlefield, wondering if hardship really did cause love to bloom between them. Fidgeting with her sleeves, the princess asks if he knows the true reason why her mother passed away. Parsial stares back, questioning why she has a sudden interest in such a painful topic. Asha reflects on her mother's high rank as a top wizard in Naritas and her incredible magical talent. She questions the cause of death. The commander reveals that Princess Beatrice died under a curse placed upon her by King Kalisa. A dark silhouette on horseback appears as Asha realizes this man must be the infamous Demon King. Observing his struggle to speak, the princess notes how difficult this conversation is for her father.
Parsial recalls how unstable her mother's magic became toward the end of her life.
His expression darkens with anger as he clenches his fist, muttering that it was all because of someone else. A sudden, curious, "Someone?" escapes her lips. The knight looks startled and distressed. Parsial quickly apologizes, asking if she actually heard the words he just let slip.
Asha lies to put him at ease.
A sudden heavy clatter sounds as the carriage jolts, and Asha wonders if her mother's magic failed due to shock. The princess huddles under a blanket. The palace staff discuss the princess's exhaustion, noting she retired much earlier than usual after the dinner. Asha recalls reading that magic becomes unstable when the body is in trouble or suffers a severe shock.
She fears her father ignores and hates her because she is incapable of avoiding the same curse that killed her mother.
The young princess weeps quietly. A sudden wet patter sounds as tears fall, and Asha wonders why she is crying so much. She resolves not to be upset, deciding her father is a bad person if he truly hates her for such reasons. A silent, empty bed remains. Morning light hits the academy spires. A maid expresses facial concern. The red-haired boy asks if she has been crying, but Asha claims she simply slept for too long. Asha imagines the boy strangling her father after he threatens to harm anyone who makes the princess cry. Eleanor proudly declares himself her knight, leaving Asha surprised by how much he differs from her first impression. The princess looks forward to her magic class, enjoying the feeling of being treated with such royal prestige. Eleanor is thrilled to begin his first official mission of escorting the princess through the halls. A sudden transition interrupts them. A sudden heavy boom sounds as they encounter Stella, and Eleanor realizes he forgot their scheduled study session. The curly-haired girl is shocked and demanding, asking why the princess is with her fiancé, Sir Eleanor. Eleanor boasts about their new closeness, while Asha worries that Stella will completely misunderstand the situation. The red-haired boy smiles confidently. Stella is fuming with jealousy. They arrive for their lesson, where a disgruntled Stella complains about her back while they meet their teacher. A gray-bearded man in purple robes introduces himself as Rasulin Loctania, the dean of the Magic Academy. The dean kindly invites them to sit, and Asha is relieved to find he isn't as scary as she expected. Rasulin mentions hearing of her magical talent from the king, and Asha modestly tries to downplay her skills. The dean is thrilled to teach a genius, leaving the princess embarrassed since her talent is just experience from 10 lives. The gray-bearded dean in purple gloves holds a piece of chalk, explaining that there are crucial things she must understand before their magic lessons begin in earnest. Rasulin writes on the chalkboard, noting that magic is primarily comprised of 3 distinct parts: technology magic, elemental magic, and auras. Asha sits in her ornate chair, privately resolved to learn powerful magic quickly to become the strongest, while the dean warns of 2 other forbidden forms of black magic. A sudden, sharp talk sounds as the teacher taps the board, listing mental magic and curses as the 2 forbidden arts practiced in the country of Santra. A sudden, surprised hyok sounds as the princess is gripped by a moment of intense, wide-eyed shock. Rasulin asks what is wrong as Asha reflects on the painful realization that her mother also died from the effects of a curse. A memory of her first life surfaces, showing a younger Asha on the floor near spilled documents, as she recalls being kicked out of the palace when no one would listen to her. The dean sighs over the great loss of Princess Beatrice, remarking that using black magic to kill royalty is a barbaric act from a country lacking the light of civilization. A dark magical crest glows with purple energy as narration explains that Kalisa permits these spells because the royal family intends to use black magic to oppress the populace. From an overhead view of the classroom, the dean reassures the girls that Santra has destroyed all data on black magic, leaving nothing to fear. Stella leans her head on her hand, skeptically wondering if Asha's Kalisa bloodline might lead her to become interested in such forbidden magic one day. The dean scolds Princess Stella for talking too much, while a grumpy, chibi-style Asha continues her work with an annoyed expression. Asha looks at a page filled with complex magic circles, certain that although the data was destroyed, the evidence in her past life must have originated from her own room. Symbolic dark hands reach for a falling Asha as she realizes she was merely a sacrifice intended to appease a public angry over a disaster. Staring at a portrait of the blonde-haired king, the princess worries she cannot rely on her father alone to escape her fate within the next 3 years. A sudden, quiet hyok sounds as the girl remains troubled by the thought that her father hates her and could easily cast her aside. The red-haired boy and brown-haired boy stand at attention, asking the princess what specific mission she has entrusted to them. Standing confidently in a floral red dress, Asha commands the 2 boys to take her to the upcoming Sprout Festival. A decorative announcement describes the Pullulant Festival as an early spring event held in the square near the royal palace. A sudden, bustling waggle sounds as crowds fill the festive streets of Salis, where people are granted rare freedom of movement during the celebration. A sudden, soft ah sounds as the princess's eyes sparkle with wonder at the vibrant sights of the festival.
Regin carries the princess past a fruit stall as Asha exclaims in delight at seeing so many people for the first time. The scene shifts back to the palace, where an exclamation of disbelief rings out regarding Her Highness's desire to visit the festival. A sudden, firm tuck sounds as the boys initially reject the idea, insisting the plan is far too much to handle. Ark suggests seeking the king's permission so guards can accompany her, but Asha insists she wants a normal tour and knows her father would never agree. She recalls living with foster parents who would leave her alone to go out together while their angry son forced her to handle all the chores. The red-haired boy comforts the princess, reminding her to stay calm because those people have already been imprisoned for their actions.
Standing in the grand hallway, the princess explains that she has seen nothing but her cottage and the palace and desperately wants to see the outside world.
An aerial view of the market reveals Asha's true objective is the foreign merchants area, which is only accessible during the festival. The brown-haired boy looks on with a troubled expression, wanting to help but noting they lack the authority to take her out without permission. Asha strikes a determined pose and beckons them closer, announcing that she has developed a secret plan for their excursion. The princess explains that they will pretend to play behind the temple before slipping away to the square in Ark's carriage.
Both boys are visibly panicked, with the red-haired boy asking in shock if it is truly okay for them to kidnap the princess in such a manner.
Standing with her arms crossed, Asha tells them to trust her and suggests they simply claim to be taking a quick tour of the palace grounds.
A sudden rhythmic dagodag sounds as the carriage rolls through the palace gates, successfully sneaking the trio out of the temple.
While Regin holds the girl, she celebrates their success but feels a pang of bitterness, realizing the ease of their escape means the guards do not care about her much.
The red-haired boy encourages her to enjoy herself while she can, asking where they should begin their secret adventure.
Asha is determined to find the foreign merchant area but is suddenly distracted by something surprising nearby. A sudden loud wah sounds as the crowd cheers for a group of acrobats performing impressive balancing feats on a stage. A sudden bright wah sounds as a magician bows, having just produced a flurry of white doves from his top hat. Sitting high on Regin's shoulders, the princess is mesmerized by the show, thinking the performance is as amazing as real magic. Passers-by watch the happy group, with a maid and Ark both thinking about how adorable the princess looks, while a man laughs at the cute sight. Deciding the performance was worth the reward, the red-haired boy approaches the magician to pay for the show. The boy's hand drops a coin into the upturned hat as the magician offers his thanks. The performer is stunned to find a gold coin, asking if the young master made a mistake, while the boy realizes nobles have no concept of a gold coin's value. Ark claims the girl is his little sister to hide her identity, leaving Asha feeling quite strange at being called his sibling. When the magician questions why her hair color is different, Ark hurriedly urges them to move on, loudly suggesting they go find some skewered chickens. Asha reflects that only royalty possesses platinum hair, remembering that no one ever suspected her true identity during her time as a beggar. As they search for a disguise, the red-haired boy suggests they visit a nearby costume shop. The princess emerges in commoner's attire, wearing a pink floral bonnet and a simple red dress.
Aisha happily thanks Ark and Regin, while the red-haired boy remains struck by her loveliness, and Ark notes she can now move about freely.
A hand grasps another firmly, and the group prepares to set off on their adventure. Dragging the two boys along, the princess excitedly calls them her brothers as they head into the crowd. Ark and Regin share a warm, knowing smile as they walk together. Ark hands a skewered snack to the young girl, reminding her to be careful with it. The red-haired boy puts on a pair of funny glasses with a fake nose and mustache, making the princess burst into laughter. While they eat ice cream and explore the vibrant streets, Asha thinks about how many interesting things the world holds. In the middle of her treats, the girl suddenly remembers her primary objective, finding the foreign merchants area. They turn down a quieter, more rustic street as Asha urges her companions to follow her. Regin remains skeptical, noting that the area looks suspicious and is likely filled with low-quality foreign goods. The princess notices the atmosphere is much darker than the festive square, feeling a bit intimidated by a man smoking a long pipe. Narration reveals that in 3 years, an incurable infectious disease will spread across the mainland, immune to both medicine and divine power. A map indicates that the only herb capable of curing the plague grows exclusively in desert nations like Callista and Batias. Asha reflects on the difficulty of obtaining the cure, as Callista is a hostile nation and Batias has long refused any cooperation. Although Santra once exhausted its national treasury to obtain a few herbs, they failed to research a way to mass-produce them in their climate. Asha hopes a traveling merchant might have the herb, but Regin insists they should return to the safer square. The princess refuses to leave so soon and points toward a specific plant shop she wants to investigate. Ark questions why they are visiting a plant stall when there are more beautiful flowers elsewhere. The shop is filled with bizarre vegetation, including a plant covered in realistic, unblinking eyeballs.
Asha looks around anxiously, worried that different regional names for the herb will make it impossible to identify.
Peering at jars of strange flora, the girl laments her usual bad luck and fears she will find nothing. Her eyes suddenly widen in absolute shock as she spots something unexpected.
A dark purple flower with distinct serrated leaves stands prominently in a display. Asha is overjoyed to find the legendary super herb from her previous life, while Ark remains distracted by other plants.
To hide her true intent, she tells Regin that the purple blossom is her favorite flower. A woman in elegant green shoes approaches, commenting that the flower's color is quite bleak and somber. The beautiful foreign merchant demands 10 gold coins for the plant, stating firmly that she will not negotiate on the price. Ark is horrified by the steep cost, but the woman quickly offers a discount because she finds the young princess so adorable. Adorned with gold jewelry and intricate tattoos, the woman smiles as Asha wonders if she hails from Batias.
Regin thinks the merchant is a swindler and tries to leave, but Asha insists on staying. The girl begs Ark to purchase the flower for her, promising to pay him back tenfold in the future.
Success is achieved as Asha holds a small purple patterned bag containing the precious seeds.
As they walk away, the merchant invites them back while the boys remain confused about the girl's strange taste. The princess clutches the bag, relieved that she has successfully secured the future elixir of Santra.
A sudden loud wah sounds as a massive cheer erupts from a nearby crowd, drawing Regin's attention. They look toward a group of knights in blue and white uniforms, wondering if another performance is beginning.
A tall, handsome man with long blonde hair and sharp red eyes stands in the center of the square.
A sudden, sharp "pa" sounds as the trio is paralyzed by the sight of the legendary knight Phaon.
The crowd goes wild for Sir Lexus Ambassador, cheering for him as the hero of Santra.
Asha is struck by panic, desperately wondering why someone like Phaon would be present at the festival. A sudden, quick quack sounds as the blonde man turns his gaze, his hawk-like eyes scanning the area. A sudden, panicked sounds as the boys realize they have made eye contact with the commander from a great distance. A sudden, surprised "huh?" sounds as Regin looks down and realizes the princess has completely vanished from his side. Asha crouches behind a wooden barrel, terrified of being caught and causing severe trouble for Ark and Regin. The commander approaches the two boys with a stern expression, asking them what they are doing there. Looking visibly nervous, the boys claim they are simply enjoying their day off together at the festival. Phaon narrows his eyes suspiciously, asking if it is truly just the two of them alone.
Chibi Ark explains that a man asked for directions to the festival, while Regin asks about the commander's stern behavior.
Phaon explains that while festival scouting is usually a job for the royal knights, they have been dispatched to the provinces. The blonde commander walks away, instructing the two boys to report any suspicious movements they might witness. Emerging from behind a wooden barrel, the trio is relieved they were not caught, with Ark inviting the princess to come out.
Asha suggests they hide in the alleyways to avoid running into the knights again on their way back to the clothing store.
Regin asks the princess if there is anything else she wants, expressing a sincere desire to repay her.
The boys bicker over their finances as Ark insists the temple paid him a monthly wage and he has enough money.
They continue their walk through the city streets, with the boys trailing closely behind the princess. A hand holds an orange flower.
A somber girl with long dark hair holds a basket, begging the trio to buy a blossom from her.
The young flower seller looks up with a timid and fearful expression. Ark and Regin both notice how thin the girl is, suspecting she hasn't been able to eat properly in a long time.
Asha recalls her own past life as a flower seller, struggling to earn enough for even a single loaf of bread.
The princess and Ark share a silent, contemplative moment as they look at the girl. Regin steps forward to address the young flower seller. With a radiant smile, the boy offers to buy her entire stock, leaving both the girl and Asha stunned by his kindness. The flower seller blushes deeply in shock, barely able to process the boy's generous offer. A hand reaches for the flower basket. An unsettling aura surrounds the girl as her face suddenly shifts into an expression of deep distress. A sudden, sharp "talk" sounds as the girl turns and bolts away, leaving the group behind in total confusion.
Chibi Regin wonders if he did something wrong, while Chibi Asha shakes her head in disbelief.
A sudden, heavy thud sounds as the girl trips and falls hard, her flowers scattering across the pavement. They rush to her side, with Regin anxiously asking if she is all right after her fall. Clutching her arm, the girl begins to respond with a pained and fearful tone. She insists she is fine as the trio gathers around her to help retrieve her scattered orange blossoms. Her eyes widen in terror as she shouts for them to stay away and not touch her. A sudden, crackling zap sounds as a strange energy erupts from the girl, and she screams for them to keep their distance. Ark and Regin are instantly knocked unconscious and collapse to the ground among the flowers.
Asha's horrified, calling out the names of her fallen companions in total shock. A hand grips a glowing flower that crackles with mysterious, sparkling energy.
The princess stares in disbelief, her vision blurring as she realizes the gravity of the situation.
Asha wonders how such a young child is capable of wielding such a dangerous and overwhelming power.
Phaon looks troubled, Where a female knight in a matching uniform asks Phaon how popular he is, noting that people always gather to talk about him. The commander tells her to stop talking nonsense, while she suggests he relax his stern battlefield expression. She remarks that festival reconnaissance is merely a formality and not a very serious mission for them. Phaon disagrees, stating firmly that he senses something deeply weird and unsettling in the air. Surprised by his intuition, the woman asks if he has actually spotted any genuine suspicious movement. The commander admits he cannot explain it, but a creepy feeling is making him incredibly nervous. A knight suddenly runs toward them, shouting that there is a major problem they need to know about. He explains that he attempted to contact the temple as ordered and has dire news regarding Princess Anastasia. A sudden, heavy thump sounds as the knight reveals that the princess is nowhere to be found in the temple. From a hidden location, kidnappers gloat over catching 3 precious targets and their plan to set sail tonight. They discuss the value of their captives' magical and divine abilities, noting the temple's habit of seizing those with divine gifts. Tied up on the floor, Asha listens as they mock her potential, but plan to sell her for a high price due to her rare hair color. The princess is paralyzed with fear, recognizing the voices of the hunters who kidnapped her during her 5th life. Looking at her bound friends, she realizes these humans are using the festival to kidnap children and take them abroad. Seeing her purple seed pouch on the ground, she is relieved they ignored it for appearing worthless. The scarred man in the hood orders the weeping girl to stop crying, reminding her that she successfully completed her task today. Sobbing uncontrollably, the dark-haired girl realizes she has no choice but to cooperate and has abandoned all hope of fleeing. A sudden, heavy quang sounds as the man slams the door, instructing the girl to guard the captives while they prepare for departure. Asha watches the girl with pity, recognizing she was coerced into this role and condemning the kidnappers for their cruelty. Tears fall as the princess laments her seemingly unchangeable fate, fearing she is doomed to repeat her tragic past. A sudden firm quack sounds as Asha clenches her bound hands, her expression shifting from despair to fierce determination. Looking at her unconscious friends, she finds strength in the realization that she is not facing this trial alone. A sudden, rolling Del Gall sounds as Asha rolls toward the flower girl, advising her that crying will only make her hungry. The dark-haired girl is startled by the captive's sudden movement, bewildered that the child has already regained consciousness. With a serious expression, Asha declares their shared goal of escaping from their captors together. In the city square, the blonde commander gazes intently at the pink bonnet he discovered on the ground. Phaon identifies the accessory with absolute certainty, confirming it belongs to the missing princess. The purple-haired knight reports their unsuccessful search of the area, while the commander senses a trace of lingering magic. The female knight reasons that the princess must still be nearby since she left her belongings at the clothing shop. Phaon dismisses the idea of a simple disappearance, concluding that the princess is in immediate and grave danger. Looking concerned, the woman asks if there is any lead that might help them track her location. A sudden, tense cook sounds as Phaon's hand tightens around the bonnet and he begins a powerful incantation. The female knight reacts with shock, questioning the commander's sudden and intense behavior. A sudden, radiant hua sounds as a massive pillar of divine light erupts from Phaon, illuminating the entire square. Horrified, the woman screams for him to stop. Horrified, the woman screams for him to stop. Horrified, the woman screams in the middle of a crowd. The scene shifts to the outskirts of the capital, where a weather vane sits atop a quiet building under an orange sky. Asha explains that she awakened her dormant abilities independently, hoping to convince the girl to join her cause. Chibi Asha confirms her power to the skeptical teenager, who remains stunned by the child's incredible potential. Despite her small size and bound hands, the princess exudes an air of authority and serious purpose. A heavy silence falls between the two girls as they evaluate one another in the dim light of the room. The dark-haired girl finds the child's claims absurd, while Chibi Asha grows increasingly frustrated by the lack of trust. Asha reveals her true identity, declaring herself the daughter of the late Princess Beatrice. She explains that her disappearance has surely triggered a massive search, and their only hope for safety is a quick escape. The flower girl is completely overwhelmed by the revelation, struggling to process that she is speaking to royalty. Demanding their current location, Asha projects an aura so powerful it makes the older girl feel completely dominated. The girl reveals they are hidden in a liquor store outside the capital, an area likely overlooked by the royal searchers. She warns that fleeing is impossible because the building is heavily guarded by dozens of men.
Recounting her brother's death during a previous escape attempt, the girl insists that any effort to leave will end in tragedy. Asha refuses to accept defeat, asserting that they can never know the outcome unless they are willing to try. The princess points to the unconscious boys, noting their training as apprentice knights and their innate magic and divine powers. Confident in their collective strength, she insists that her own magic will be the key to their success. The teenager looks at the young princess with growing awe, unable to believe the maturity of the child before her. Asha's intense and unwavering gaze finally begins to break through the older girl's fear and skepticism. Faced with a life-or-death situation, the flower girl decides to put her trust in the small princess's plan. The alliance is formed as the girl moves forward to untie Asha's bound hands. A sudden, quick swoop sounds as Asha's feet touch the floor, her hands finally free from the ropes. Asha stands over her fallen companions and casts an intricate, glowing magic circle to wake them from their stupor. A sudden, bright bianjak sounds as the light of the spell hits Ark and Region. A sudden, startled arg sounds as the boys jump up, and Asha quickly orders them to keep their voices down. Region immediately points an accusing finger at the flower girl, suspecting she was the one who kidnapped them. Asha defends the girl, explaining she was a victim of the kidnappers and that they must prepare to fight the guards outside. Looking at her trusted companions, the princess asks if they are ready to follow her lead into battle. The boys agree with loud enthusiasm, forcing Asha to urgently remind them to stay quiet to avoid detection. With the team assembled, Asha turns her attention back to the flower girl to determine her next move. The dark-haired girl agrees to the plan, noting that she can sense the young princess's overwhelming charisma. Asha prepares to lead the group out, declaring that it is time for their escape to begin. A sudden, heavy quang sounds as the children break through the constraints of their holding cell. Outside the room, the kidnappers hear the commotion and realize something is wrong at the warehouse, shouting for their guards to keep a closer eye on the captives. A sudden, sharp quack sounds as the first guard to open the door is struck down by the escaping party. The group makes a break for the exit, leaving the remaining guards in the hallway paralyzed with shock. Asha uses a bottle of wine to focus her magic, causing a glowing circle to form on the floor as she ignites a distraction. A sudden, roaring hua sounds as a massive pillar of fire erupts from the spilled liquor, engulfing the interior of the shop. A kidnapper screams in terror as the fire spreads, warning his companions that the blaze will ruin their entire operation. Recognizing the situation, the scarred man in the hood shouts that they must focus on the children who are fleeing. The children sprint through the burning storehouse as the guards shout for their immediate capture. One man grabs a bucket of water but ignores the flames, following the order to capture the valuable children at any cost. A sudden whistling seuk sounds as Ark swings his weapon at the pursuing guards with a fierce shout. The criminals warn one another to be careful, realizing with shock that the red-haired boy is capable of utilizing aura in combat. A sudden, heavy quang sounds as the chase continues, with the men insisting the children are worth more than the building they are burning. Region draws a sword and prepares to defend his friends, cursing their terrible luck as more guards surround them. A sudden, quick tuck sounds as Region catches a thrown dagger in midair, marveling at his own reflexes. Ark unleashes a surge of purple aura from his blade, daring the criminals to come closer if they think they can defeat him. A sudden, blinding whack sounds as a blast of energy catches Ark off guard, nearly knocking him back. A man with a dagger steps forward with a malicious grin, mocking the boy for thinking he was the only one capable of using aura. Region is stunned by the realization that they are fighting skilled warriors and urgently tells the princess to run while they hold the line. Asha struggles to maintain her composure, realizing her energy is almost completely drained from the effort of setting the fire. Grabbing the dark-haired girl's hand, Asha runs with all her might and cries out for her father to find them. Looking up at the sky, the princess screams for her papa to help because they are about to be killed by their pursuers. A sudden, fast seung sounds as a massive white dragon streaks across the orange sky toward the children's location. A sudden, deafening quang sounds as a shockwave hits the ground near the children, sending dust and debris flying. The kidnappers are thrown back by the force of the blast, wondering what sort of power has just intervened in the fight. A sudden, soft poo-doo-doo-doo-doo sounds as Asha's eyes widen, her pupils reflecting the majestic white dragon hovering above. The dragon spreads its wings and roars, casting a massive shadow over the warehouse district. A sudden, explosive twang sounds as the dragon unleashes a barrage of divine energy, decimating the kidnappers' ranks. Asha stands perfectly still as the dragon's power washes over the area, her expression one of pure wonder. Tears of relief finally spill over as the princess realizes that she has been saved from her tragic fate. Standing atop a nearby roof, Phaon looks down at his daughter, and Asha realizes that her father arrived just in time. The princess runs toward the blonde commander and leaps into his arms, crying out to him in a voice filled with emotion. Feon catches her securely and asks with intense concern if she has been injured during the kidnapping. A sudden, rhythmic kodok sounds as Asha nods against his chest, unable to stop her sobbing as the terror of the day fades. The commander's face is a mask of cold fury as he adjusts his grip on his daughter and prepares to settle the score. One of the kidnappers recognizes the uniform and realizes with horror that they have kidnapped the daughter of the paladin commander. A sudden low bryururung sounds as the air around Feon begins to vibrate with the intensity of his murderous intent. A sudden, high-pitched ki-ai-ai-ai-ai-ai sounds as the dragon prepares to unleash its full power on the remains of the warehouse. A sudden, devastating quang sounds as the building is obliterated by a beam of light, scattering the surviving criminals. Watching from her father's arms, Asha is awestruck by the sheer scale of his power, wondering if any foe could ever survive it. Theon gently tells the princess to stay put and wait for him, while Ark eagerly asks if he can help finish the job. The commander coldly refuses the boy's assistance, making it clear that he will handle the remaining kidnappers himself. Ark is completely intimidated by the commander's presence, realizing that he is finally seeing the man's true combat form. The scarred boss of the kidnappers tries to crawl away through the wreckage, gasping in pain as he realizes escape is impossible. A sudden, crunching quack sounds as Feon's heavy boot comes down on the man's hand, drawing a scream of agony. A sudden, metallic chu-ung sounds as Feon draws his sword and looms over the broken man with a terrifying expression. The commander's red eyes burn with a lethal light as he prepares to deliver a final judgment on the person who dared touch his daughter. Looking up with a defiant smirk, the man taunts Feon, claiming that even if he is killed, the mastermind behind the plan will never be found. A sudden, sharp swook sounds as the kidnapper screams in agony while his hand is pinned down. Feon demands to know the identity of the group's boss as he looms over the broken man. The criminal mocks Feon's status as a slave to the temple, questioning the existence of a god. Shocked by Feon's sheer brutality, Ark and Regin watch as the princess's father continues his grim work. A sudden, heavy diop-sok sounds as Feon grabs the man by his robes, promising him a lethal end. A cold inner monologue reflects on the immense value and rarity of using divine power. Feon stands in silence, his red eyes filled with an unsettling, murderous intent. A sudden, wet pyauk sounds as the air is filled with more screams and the spray of blood. The commander unleashes a wave of energy that leaves the remaining kidnappers broken on the stone floor. A sudden, heavy tio-biok sounds as Feon walks away, his hand dripping with the blood of his enemies. Seeing her father finally finishing the fight, Asha runs toward him with a desperate cry. Feon turns to face his daughter, his expression a mixture of fatigue and lingering rage. The princess stops in her tracks, asking her father why he resorted to such violence. Exploding with pent-up fear and stress, Feon bellows at Asha for her recklessness and the chaos she caused. The paladin commander stands tall and imposing, scolding the small child for putting her life at risk. A sudden, quiet okyuk sounds as tears well up in the young princess's eyes from his harsh words. Asha's internal voice reveals the heartbreaking fear that her father never intended to protect her. A sudden, wet jaruk sounds as the girl's tears fall, mirroring her father's accusation about her mortality. Struck by the sight of his daughter's despair, Theon's anger vanishes, replaced by immediate shock. Dropping his sword and kneeling, the commander offers a soft, sincere apology to the crying princess. A sudden, soft duk sounds as Asha's attention is drawn to the blood dripping from her father's hand. The little girl's fear for herself vanishes as she gently takes his hand, crying out that he is hurt. Ignoring his own dismissal of the injury, Asha urgently calls for the manifestation of her divine power. A sudden, bright pawak sounds as Asha's hands glow, healing Feon because she cannot bear to see him suffer. Feon watches in absolute silence, his eyes fixed on the miraculous light emanating from his daughter. A sudden, light siuk sounds as Asha releases his hand, the wounds completely vanished. The commander is left speechless by the healing, while the princess asks why he looks so troubled. Surrounded by a floral aura, Asha is identified as the one who truly wielded the divine power. Feon corrects her confusion, insisting that she was the one who performed the miracle. The realization hits the commander that the princess has manifested the legendary power of divinity. A hidden truth of the world is revealed. Mana and prana are fundamentally incompatible forces. The impossibility of a single person holding both powers is compared to the sun rising in the west. Worried about the strain on her body, Feon asks the princess if she feels any ill effects. Asha admits to feeling a strange trembling and a sense of being completely overwhelmed. A sudden, heavy hui-chung sounds as the princess loses her balance and collapses into her father's arms. Feon screams in panic as his daughter loses consciousness from the sheer weight of her new power.
Elsewhere, a servant informs his lady that the army is conducting strict checks in the city square. The woman in green is surprised by the sudden checkpoints, noting the difficulty of their current operations. She inquires about their search for the prince, learning that his location remains a secret to the nobility. The news of an illegitimate princess suddenly appearing reaches the woman, catching her off guard. Her informant adds that while details are scarce, the child is said to resemble Princess Beatrice. A sudden, light pio rung sounds as the woman recalls seeing a child with gray hair and green eyes earlier. A sudden, quick whick sounds as the woman laughs off the connection as a ridiculous thought. Resuming her serious demeanor, the lady decides there is nothing more she can do for the moment. In the distant room at twilight, a small, lonely boy sits on a grand bud. The child is revealed to be the only prince of Kalisa, looking out with a somber expression. A sudden, loud "ang" sounds as a memory of a past life shows a baby crying in solitude while ill. A sudden, soft "ew-ang" sounds as the baby's cries are ignored by a callous caregiver, deepening the child's loneliness. The perspective shifts to the current reality, where a strong, protective hand holds a small one tightly. Feon watches over his sleeping daughter, fulfilling her lifelong wish for someone to be there when she is weak. Feon is sleeping deeply after the battle.
Looking at her father, Asha notes that it is the first time she has seen him sleeping.
A sudden, jolting wah sounds as the commander wakes up and stands with a start. Feon frantically asks the princess if she has woken up and if she is injured anywhere. Asha blinks in surprise, admitting that she feels relatively fine despite the ordeal. A sudden, bustling stung sounds as the palace staff rushes into the room, shouting for the princess. The servants are overjoyed, explaining that she had been unconscious for 3 whole days.
Asha is stunned to hear she was out for 3 days, recalling the kidnapping and her father saving her.
A hazy memory returns of her father mentioning that she had used divine power during the fight. The girl wonders what his words meant when a strange, painful spark suddenly occurs near her. A sudden, gasping hook sounds as the princess's face contorts in shock and pain. A sudden, crackling bzz sounds as Feon and the blonde boy rush to the suffering girl's side. Asha screams in agony, describing a burning sensation that feels like her body is exploding from the inside. A sudden, brilliant flash sounds as Feon grasps her hands and begs her to endure the pain for a moment. The intensity of the pain fades slightly, and Asha feels a small sense of relief. Feon kneels by the bed as the princess asks for an explanation regarding her condition. The commander explains that her illness was caused by a clash between divine and magic power, which he is now suppressing. Asha is horrified to learn that her father has been using his power for 3 days without eating or sleeping. Feon dismisses his fatigue as nothing compared to her pain, while Asha fears the strain might kill him. The princess asks if there is any other way to handle the situation, fearing this can't go on forever. Feon explains that training her body to accept both forces will eventually allow her to use both without pain. Asha's eyes sparkle with excitement at the thought of being able to wield both divine and magic power.
A heavy silence falls over the room as the adults look on with somber expressions.
Terrified by the silence, Asha imagines the worst-case scenario where everyone has died or failed. The blonde servant clarifies that while theoretically possible, no one has ever successfully mastered both powers. Bursting into tears, Asha laments that she has become a living bomb and that everyone is doomed. Feon remains silent, his expression unreadable but filled with a sense of deep responsibility. Looking at his daughter with a soft gaze, the commander solemnly vows that he will definitely protect her. Asha is flustered by the sudden declaration, finding the change in her father's demeanor quite strange. Outside the room, 2 maids discuss whether Sir Parseal should still deliver a report to the king. Feon refuses, warning that the princess could be imprisoned in the Tower of Nihilim if her condition is discovered. One servant wonders about the tower, while Feon describes it as a prison for dangerous war criminals that blocks all power. Asha is appalled by the idea of lifelong confinement, but the servant notes that suspicions are unavoidable. Feon realizes that he must act quickly to buy more time for his daughter's recovery. A sudden, imposing boom sounds as Feon stands in full military regalia while holding the princess. The white-haired king looks at the pair and comments that they make for an unexpected picture. Feon asks for forgiveness, explaining that the trauma of the kidnapping has forced the princess to limit her social visits. The commander claims the girl trembles when anyone but him approaches, while Asha inwardly notes his talent for lying. The king expresses deep concern, noting that the aftermath of such a trauma can haunt a child for life. Feon acknowledges the difficulty but promises to do his best to help the princess recover if given more time. While the king accepts the request, a red-haired nobleman named Eleanor protests the decision. Eleanor argues that the paladin commander must remain at his post and leave the princess to court healers. Feon counters that he will entrust his duties to Sir Shaimon because the princess is afraid of strangers.
A heated argument breaks out as one man accuses him of neglecting his job while the king tells Eleanor to stop. The king shuts down the debate, asking Eleanor if he will take responsibility if the princess suffers a seizure.
Eleanor is left stuttering and speechless, unable to provide an answer to the king's challenge.
Watching from a distance, a man with dark hair and a scar on his cheek hums thoughtfully. The scene shifts to a moonlit view of Alentia Palace as the night deepens. A woman in a floral dress asks her visitor why he requested a meeting at such a late hour. Addressing the man as Sir Alter, the noblewoman allows him to bow and show his respect. Sir Alter slyly asks the noblewoman why he would secretly seek her out in the middle of the night. The auburn-haired lady pulls her hand away with a sudden, sharp "papat" sounding, telling him to stop joking. Her green eye narrows as she mentions that the Senate meeting will not be held for several days. They exchange cryptic words, noting that they both already understand the true nature of the situation. Standing beneath a massive chandelier, they discuss the identity of the true heir to the throne. The noblewoman looks dismissive, noting that she is unable to participate in the aristocrats' meetings regardless.
Sir Alter reacts with a sudden, light "hawk" sounding as he listens to her complaint.
He turns to walk away, insisting that there must be a way to resolve their current predicament. A sudden, soft "sock-duck" sounds as he leans in to whisper a secret plan into the lady's ear. The noblewoman is visibly stunned, her purple shoes shifting as she expresses her immediate shock. She reminds the man that he was once the fiancé of her sister, Beatrice. She repeats the point, emphasizing that he was the one engaged to her late sister. The lady finds the idea of him now proposing marriage to her to be completely ridiculous. He asks if she is unsatisfied with the proposal, while she admits she never imagined such a scenario. The thought of the young princess becoming her adopted child enters the noblewoman's mind. Sir Alter admits it may be annoying, but argues there is no better solution for their goals. A flashback shows Phaon surrounded by the women of the palace during a peaceful moment. A dark vision of the princess appears, underscoring the difficulty of removing her from her position. An inheritance genealogy chart explains how adoption would eliminate the girl's right to the throne. The noblewoman considers the title, but wonders if her father would ever allow such an arrangement. The lion crest of the Alter family represents the immense social influence they wield at court. The auburn-haired lady falls into a deep, silent contemplation regarding the man's offer. Sir Alter gazes at her intently, curious about her true thoughts and motives behind her reaction. He declares that he simply cannot stand by and watch an illegitimate child become the king.
An oppressive darkness underscores his claim that there is someone else who deeply annoys him.
The portrait of the long-haired Phaon remains a silent, looming presence in the conversation. Outside the palace towers, someone cries out in exhaustion about feeling like they might faint. A sudden, heavy pulsak sounds as Sir Lux collapses onto a plush sofa and asks for water. The blonde boy laments how quickly his energy has drained after only 3 hours of work. Use explains that using divine power to suppress magic is inherently exhausting and difficult work. A sudden, light "tadak" sounds as she describes the fierce internal battle between mana and prana.
Accepting a cup of tea, Lux wonders how the commander has managed to do this for days.
He notes that only someone with nerves of steel and deep love could accomplish such a feat. They agree that the commander and the princess look exactly like a real father and daughter. Realizing they have spoken out of turn, they quickly hush each other with a sudden, sharp oops.
Lux sits up on the sofa, wondering how an angel-like girl has to deal with such pain.
A thought bubble reveals a lingering confusion about why Sir Lux acted the way he did. A sudden, loud "didung" sounds as Phaon and Asha prepare to practice using her new power. The princess looks at a vision of difficult training, fearing that the practice will be extremely hard. Phaon explains that he will gradually increase her endurance time without his suppressing power. A sudden, startled "wah" sounds as Asha is shocked by the apparent simplicity of the method. Phaon looks down with a serious expression, preparing for the first stage of the lesson. Beyond the palace balcony, the commander acknowledges that he understands the princess's deep-seated fear. He encourages her, telling her she can succeed because she is brave like her mother, Beatrice. A final, heartfelt plea for the young girl to believe in him fills the air. Phaon's intense red eyes are fixed on his daughter as he offers his sincere encouragement. Asha looks up in surprise, finding her father to be strangely reliable and affectionate. The princess stands before him, her hands held tightly in his as they prepare to begin. The little girl offers a soft word of gratitude to her father for his support. Phaon prepares to release her hand, agreeing to count to 3 before letting go.
Believing in her father's words, Asha repeats a mental mantra 5 times until she eventually loses consciousness from the strain.
A sudden, quick swish sounds as Phaon gently places a cool, damp cloth on the forehead of the unconscious princess. A soft, rhythmic snore sounds as Asha remains in a deep, feverish sleep while her father watches over her. Overwhelmed by grief and helplessness, Phaon remains silent as a single tear escapes his eye. The commander laments how incredibly cruel the situation has become for his innocent daughter. Phaon questions why a child who has done nothing wrong must suffer such intense pain, wishing the punishment were his instead.
In a desperate outburst of sorrow, he begs for his own power to be taken and for him to endure the suffering in her place.
A sudden, tight grip sounds as Phaon clutches the bedsheets, realizing that his wish is impossible because the past cannot be changed.
A somber flashback recalls the tragic death of Princess Beatrice and the beginning of Princess Anastasia's relentless cycle of pain.
A hand reaches out toward a vision of the late Beatrice, a memory of a woman with long, flowing, pinkish-white hair.
The memory shows Phaon in his younger days, standing proudly alongside Beatrice in a moment of shared elegance. Beatrice is remembered with a tearful, happy smile, reflecting the deep love that once defined their lives.
The couple shares a tender kiss in the memory, a fleeting moment of pure affection, before tragedy struck.
Looking at a royal portrait, the narrator notes that Beatrice would have had a bright future had she not lost her magic and met her enemies.
Haunted by the past, Phaon recalls how he initially tried to keep his distance from the young girl to avoid further complications.
The distance was shattered when Asha brightly declared that she would call him her father.
The little girl's warmth was undeniable as she reached out and begged for a hug from her new papa.
With sparkly eyes and a wide smile, Asha called out to him, melting the commander's cold exterior.
The two are shown in a blissful moment in the palace gardens, fully embracing their roles as father and daughter.
A sudden, soft brush sounds as the commander tenderly strokes the hair of his sleeping daughter in the present.
Surrounded by a divine star pattern, Phaon vows to live his life for the sake of his guardians and maintain his loyalty and love.
Kneeling in prayer by her bedside, the father desperately pleads for the heavens not to take the princess away from him. Framed by delicate roses, the narrator triumphantly concludes that the young princess successfully survived the ordeal.
Through weeks of Phaon's intensive care and rigorous training, Asha slowly begins to stabilize her condition. The recovery was also made possible by the dedicated and exhausting efforts of the priest sisters, who worked until they collapsed.
Excited by her progress, Asha grabs her father's arm and urgently tells him to hurry up and look at what she has done. Phaon is caught off guard in his bathrobe, having been in the middle of a bath when the princess burst in.
The commander looks on in shock as he realizes something incredible has happened in the room.
A sudden, light float sounds as a small, round, white divine beast appears hovering in the air. Asha excitedly asks if the creature is a divine beast, celebrating the fact that she has actually managed to summon one.
Sparkling with joy, the girl explains she followed the instructions in a book and is amazed to find she truly possesses divine power.
Phaon examines the tiny creature skeptically, wondering what kind of animal it is and noting it doesn't look like an adult yet.
A sudden, sharp clap sounds as Phaon brings his hands together to test the manifestation of the power.
A sudden, shocked crack sounds as the creature vanishes instantly, leaving the princess completely stunned. Phaon warns her that divine beasts consume power very quickly and tells her she shouldn't summon them so carelessly.
Asha bursts into tears and collapses on the floor, accusing her father of killing her new divine beast.
Panicked by her crying, Phaon kneels down and quickly explains that the beast was simply absorbed back into her and can be summoned again.
A sudden, sly peek sounds as the girl looks up with a playful expression, revealing she was only pretending to be upset.
Laughing at his reaction, Asha notes that spending every day together for weeks has made them much closer, allowing her to play pranks on him. Her laughter is cut short as she suddenly clutches her chest, noting that her endurance time without his power has increased.
The princess cries out in pain and falls to the floor as her internal forces clash once again. Phaon immediately places his hand on her to suppress the surge, while Asha inwardly admits she was arrogant about her progress.
Exhausted, Asha realizes it hasn't even been 20 minutes, while Phaon scolds her for draining her power on the divine beast.
Sir Lux and Yus enter the room with a strawberry cake, startling Phaon, who is still only wearing his dressing gown. Realizing his state of undress, Phaon flees the room to change, while Asha finds his sudden embarrassment quite amusing.
Observing his retreating figure, Asha notices the large scars on her father's chest and wonders if they were there before he gained his power.
The girl reflects on how little she actually knows about the commander, including his true origins, his age, or his parents.
The servants encourage her after her hard morning of training, presenting the strawberry cake as a well-deserved reward.
A sudden, bright ta-da sounds as a delicious strawberry jelly dessert and tea are served on the table. As they eat, the priests express their disbelief and admiration for the princess's rare ability to summon a divine beast. Yus asks about the beast's appearance, while Feon describes it as fluffy and small.
Asha claims it must be a dragon because she is her father's daughter.
Lux insists on protecting her pure innocence despite the dragon's lack of fur. He claims Sir Parseal's beast started as a small tuft of fur. Feon corrects him, noting his beast had no fur and was nearly fully formed. The group realizes the commander has absolutely no sense of humor. Yus asks if she can report the princess's significant progress. Both the father and daughter immediately Feon warns that the princess is not yet used to dual powers. Asha rushes to her father, who worries about her daily endurance limits. He warns that a report would lead to her being locked in the tower.
Ancient texts reveal that those with dual powers face a quick, painful death.
Historical records describe how being trapped in magic-blocked spaces leads to madness.
Asha shudders at the thought of a woman being imprisoned for doing nothing.
She clings to Feon, terrified of being locked away forever.
A sudden, soft tudak sounds as her father promises to protect her.
Asha remembers his past coldness, but now feels his deep affection. A sudden, rhythmic tuk-tuk sounds as a visitor knocks at the door. A sudden, quick psh sounds as Asha runs toward her friend Ak.
Feon tries to stop her from letting an outsider into the room.
A sudden, heavy keek sounds as Asha pulls the large door open.
A sudden, loud dudung sounds as she finds Sir Alter waiting outside. Alter comments on her health, making Asha wonder why he has come.
Feon senses a trap as he approaches the unwelcome guest.
Alter asks if they are prisoners while claiming he has a message. He kneels mockingly, asking if they are trying to hide from him.
Asha hides behind her father's leg and calls the man Mains. Feon demands the message and warns him away from his daughter. Alter claims he can become her real father, causing a dark tension.
The princess is completely confused by his strange and bold claim. A sudden, quick suck sounds as he presents a formal envelope. He invites them to his wedding with the late Beatrice's sister, Akola.
Asha is stunned, knowing this never happened in her previous lives. She notices her father looks unusually startled by the news.
Alter questions Sir Parseal's reaction as he crushes the invitation.
Feon asks if Alter wasn't previously engaged to Princess Beatrice.
A sudden, loud qua sounds as Asha realizes the man's past connection.
A sudden, sharp tuck sounds as Alter claims he was the one wronged.
Asha realizes Alter views her existence as a sign of her mother's betrayal.
Alter prepares to leave after delivering the message, calling for Eleanor. Asha asks Ark what happened to the girl who escaped with them.
Ark admits that Eleanor has been sent to the prison.
A sudden, heavy kung sounds as Asha demands to the way.
Eleanor sits chained in a dark cell for using forbidden magic. Asha demands her release, arguing she was a victim of kidnapping.
Alter dismisses the plea, citing the absolute laws regarding forbidden magic.
A sudden, thick gultuk sounds as Asha asks what he truly wants.
Alter explains his plans to marry Akola and take control. He offers a terrifying solution, asking Asha to become his adopted child.
A sudden, dark, sick sounds as he smirks at Feon's silent fury.
3 knights walk through the sunlit palace courtyard. A brown-haired man questions the identity of the blonde boy wearing the official chivalry uniform.
The focus shifts to a young, blonde-haired boy with striking red eyes. The brown-haired man identifies him as the new treasure of the Veritas household, named Feon.
2 high-ranking officials discuss Feon's meteoric rise. They note the high priest's deep favor and the meaningful name bestowed upon the formerly lowly child.
A dark silhouette depicts a brutal gladiator battle. The imagery serves as a grim reminder of Feon's harsh origins.
Observing Feon from a distance, the brown-haired official muses on how the boy's noble appearance masks his past as a gladiator slave.
Feon senses the gaze and turns with a piercing look. A sudden, quick shh sounds as he catches the man watching him.
The official flinches under Feon's intense scrutiny. The man's reaction is marked by a sudden, quick flinch sounding.
Close up on Feon's eyes, radiating cold authority, the nobleman inwardly fumes that a former slave would dare to stare him down.
The officials walk away, plotting their revenge. The brown-haired man vows to beat Feon during the upcoming annual tournament.
The scene shifts to the tournament arena under a bright sky. A sudden, loud end of the match rings out, followed by a sudden, sharp whistle sounding.
Feon stands victorious but bloodied in the middle of the arena. A sudden, heavy thud sounds as his opponent collapses in defeat.
The brown-haired man lies face down in the dirt, bleeding and broken. His pride is shattered along with his body. Feon wipes blood from his face, his expression hollow despite the win. A sudden, loud cheer sounds as the crowd reacts.
From the ground, the defeated nobleman glares at Feon with pure hatred. He curses the boy for his overwhelming skill. Witnesses observe Feon's departure, noting that he has become a legitimate threat. They are amazed at how quickly he is increasing his power levels.
Years later, commanders gather in a war tent to discuss strategy. They debate the merits of reconquering Gallius under the king's orders. An older Phaon, now with long flowing hair, proposes a calculated strategy. He suggests cutting off enemy supplies during winter to force an isolation.
The council agrees to follow Parciel's lead, much to the chagrin of his rival. A sudden, sharp tsk sounds as the man's jealousy flares.
A golden scale tips against a backdrop of royal emblems. The narrator reflects on how the entire kingdom's balance shifted because of one man.
Phaon appears as a divine figure, seemingly devoid of human weakness. He is seen as a man wholly devoted to his sacred duty.
Everything changes when Phaon meets the young princess. He holds the small girl tenderly, her presence softening his cold exterior. His rival watches from the shadows, recognizing a new vulnerability. He realizes that the illegitimate child is now Phaon's greatest weakness.
In the present, Phaon's anger reaches a boiling point. He shouts at Sir Alter, blaming him for the technique that nearly killed Asha.
Phaon commands Alter to stand down and stay away from the princess. His authority is absolute and his tone is dangerously sharp. From the throne's perspective, Phaon makes a major political move. He announces he is transferring his chivalric power to Shaiman for now.
Phaon's face is a mask of desperation and righteous fury. He is pushed to the edge by the threats against his daughter.
Alter laughs mockingly at Phaon's protective display. A sudden, rhythmic chuckle sounds as he enjoys seeing the commander's distress.
Alter holds his hand out as if grasping something small. He vows to manipulate the princess and destroy everything Phaon loves.
Standing in a moonlit hall, Alter revels in his villainous ambitions. A cold blue light shines through the windows as he envisions his victory. Back in their quarters, Phaon and Asha sit in a heavy, miserable silence. A sudden, heavy thrum sounds as the gravity of their situation sinks in.
The household staff peeks through the door with worried expressions. They wonder what happened during the meeting to leave the pair so devastated. Asha's mind races as she realizes the story has diverged from her memories. She is horrified by the prospect of Akola becoming her mother.
Alter maintains a smug, shameless smile despite the tension. He shamelessly vows to eventually win over the reluctant princess.
Asha recalls Alter's reputation as a manipulative noble. She suspects he has already secured support from other powerful families through collusion. The girl realizes that adoption means a forced return to the palace's dangers. A sudden, quick peek sounds as she glances at her father's reaction.
Phaon is visibly shaken, his head bowed in deep thought. Asha watches him with concern, wondering if he can find a way out of the crisis.
Asha notices the shock on her father's face. She worries that he might actually let her go to protect his own position. The young princess feels a pang of loneliness as she considers her fate. She desperately hopes Phaon wants to keep her by his side. Asha visualizes her enemies as tiny, annoying insects. She vows to find a way to stop the adoption and free the imprisoned Eleanor. She imagines herself holding a winning hand of cards. Recognizing her status as God's child, she realizes she has more influence than she thought. A single royal card represents her final move. Asha's expression hardens as she prepares to fight back for her family. The scene shifts to a grand balcony where Akola meets with an older noble. They sit at a table prepared for tea amidst blooming trees. The man, Akola's father, questions her true feelings. He asks if she genuinely wishes to marry a man like Alter. Akola explains that Alter provided comfort during her darkest moments. She claims to see a gentle and friendly side to the man. She challenges her father to bless the union. The man remains stoic, his silence speaking volumes about his disapproval. The nobleman admits the marriage would benefit their family's prestige. A sudden, light clink sounds as he puts down his cup. Turning his back on his daughter, the man delivers a harsh truth. He warns Akola that Alter is incapable of loving her. Akola scoffs at his hypocrisy with a cynical laugh. A sudden, quick scoff sounds as she brings up his own past. She accuses her father of valuing succession over love. She points out that her sister and mother were merely tools for his legacy. The man is stunned by her bluntness, his face contorted in shock. He desperately maintains that he truly loved her mother, despite his daughter's accusations. As she stirs her tea, her thoughts drift to the one person she believes her father truly loves. Akola suggests to her father that neither she, her mother, nor Stella hold his heart, but rather her late sister Beatrice. Akola expresses surprise that her father would protect an illegitimate child who resembles Beatrice, prompting a shocked reaction from the man. The nobleman angrily denies that his actions are based on a physical resemblance, claiming he is merely following God's will. Looking at the tiered dessert stand, a cynical observer considers that his claim might actually be the truth. Akola stares resolutely ahead while drinking her tea, vowing that she will not live her life the way her mother did. A few days later, Asha stands at a door in a frilly pink dress asking if her father is ready for her to enter.
Inside, a sudden, quick hudadak sounds as Feon hurriedly hides an envelope in his formal uniform jacket.
A sudden, sharp bullcock sounds as Asha pushes the doors open and playfully scolds him for taking so long. Dressed in a striking white and purple uniform, Feon apologizes for the delay and addresses his daughter with formal respect. Asha is momentarily stunned by her father's appearance, thinking to herself how dazzling he looks whenever he dresses properly. In a lighthearted moment, Asha questions why he is so handsome if he cannot get married, leaving Feon utterly confused. Noticing a blank sheet of paper on his desk, Asha wonders if he was secretly trying to write a letter to someone. Walking through the palace, Asha skeptically wonders who her father would even write to, while Feon checks on her health before entering a crowd. Asha confidently claims she can now last 30 minutes without his divine support, but Feon seems hesitant to agree. A sudden, heavy hum sounds as Feon looks away with a troubled, solemn expression. Feon reluctantly admits that she is correct, though he still appears deeply uneasy about the situation. Asha points the way with excitement, urging her father to hurry so they can join the event. Feon observes Asha's lack of sadness regarding her upcoming adoption, inwardly wrestling with the complex political benefits versus his own painful feelings. Asha pauses and looks back over her shoulder, sensing her father's sudden shift in mood. A sudden, sharp hyak sounds as Feon flinches, startled when Asha calls out to him. When she asks what is wrong, Feon dismisses it as a passing thought, though he privately wonders why he is feeling so possessive. In the quiet of his room, Feon reflects on his sacred vows of loyalty, horrified that his growing bond with the princess makes him want to break them. A sudden, tight quack sounds as he grips his cloak in frustration, cursing himself for being so pathetic and weak-willed. Looking at his daughter's innocent face, Feon decides he cannot stay by her side and views the adoption as a final chance for repentance. With a look of grim determination, Feon resolves that he will eventually resign his position and leave her life forever.
A sudden rhythmic sickle sounds as the palace glows with light during the evening of the grand banquet.
As Feon carries Asha into the ballroom, guests whisper in surprise at seeing the legendary commander in such a social setting. Two noblewomen admire Feon's charm, though they lament that a man so handsome is bound to the priesthood as God's knight.
Marchioness Alter interrupts their praise, coldly reminding them that despite his current status, he still comes from a lovely background.
The younger women flinch in shock as they recognize the formidable Marchioness Alter standing before them. The women offer their polite congratulations on her son's marriage, claiming to be touched by the romantic story of the union.
The Marchioness remains skeptical, wondering aloud if the marriage is actually something worth celebrating at all.
Noticing her sour mood, one of the guests nervously comments that the older woman seems to be having a difficult time.
Carrying his daughter past the judgmental group, Feon stoically acknowledges that he cannot deny the reality of his past.
The Marchioness views Feon as a burden she must take responsibility for, while Asha fumes internally, knowing exactly how much they are insulting her father.
A sudden, quick ahaha sounds as the guests flatter the Marquis family, while Asha realizes they are only praising Sir Alter to win favor. The herald formally announces the arrival of King Ferdinand and Princess Akola to the gathered nobility. The king and his daughter make a grand entrance at the top of the stairs, framed by massive royal portraits. A sudden, rhythmic wah sounds as the crowd begins to clap and cheer for the royal pair. A sudden, rhythmic jack sounds as the applause intensifies while the king and Akola stand before their subjects. A sudden, quick suck sounds as Akola looks out over the crowd with a composed and regal expression. A sudden, sharp tuck sounds as Asha and Feon watch the display, their expressions unreadable amidst the celebration.
Asha glares at Akola's smug smile, thinking bitterly that the woman hasn't actually achieved anything of value yet.
A hidden observer watches the pair from the shadows, hoping the formal ritual ends quickly so he can make his move. Two stern noblemen fix their gazes on Feon and Asha, identifying them as their primary targets for the evening.
A sudden, rhythmic juk sounds throughout the hall as the narrator notes that this boring ritual must be brought to an end. Couples begin to dance to the music, marking the first major banquet celebrated by the kingdom since the end of the war. Clinging to her father, Asha realizes that she can feel the intense, hostile gazes of everyone in the room fixed upon them. A sudden, quick hilkum sounds as a guest glances back, confirming Asha's suspicion that they are all watching her father. The blonde commander stands alone in his formal uniform. Asha notices her father looking down and realizes they must separate for her to approach her target. Chibi Feon suggests returning home, much to the shock of the young princess. Staring at her blue heels, Asha tells herself that she cannot leave the banquet yet.
A young noblewoman with brown hair asks Sir Parciel for a dance.
Feyan looks surprised as the woman acts as an unexpected savior for his daughter's plan.
A sudden, sharp thud sounds as the woman makes her move toward the commander. The blonde man is visibly startled as he is pulled away from his daughter.
Feyan tells Asha to stay put while he is away, and she urges him to go.
He looks conflicted as he is led toward the dance floor.
Asha watches them go, thanking the unknown woman for the distraction that allows her to slip away.
While her father is busy mingling, Asha observes the dancing crowd from above.
She decides to run while she has the chance. Outside the palace, a whisper notes that the Alter family is full of themselves.
Two nobles discuss how Akola will likely hand over powerful positions to her allies once she is enthroned. They express frustration that they cannot stop the impending marriage despite their disapproval.
TB versions of the men discuss the need to stop the inheritance to prevent the nobles from oppressing the king.
Asha rushes past the two men as they comment on the princess's lack of power.
The mustached man and his balding companion are confused when they realize Princess Anastasia is running toward them. The crest of the Rosells family represents a lineage that acts as a rival to the Alter household. Years ago, Asha learned through eavesdropping that these two families are secret rivals who despise one another. The war left the Rosells family in crisis after both heirs died and their command, Loire, was destroyed. The pink-haired girl stares ahead with a look of firm determination.
Asha approaches the pair, wondering how she can secure a private conversation in the middle of a ball.
Marquise Rosells asks the princess if there is something she wishes to tell him.
The girl hesitates for a moment, appearing nervous as she prepares to speak.
She tells the nobleman that his mustache is very cool to start the conversation. The balding noble laughs and suggests his friend ask the princess for a dance. Marquise Rosells kneels and asks why she is alone without any servants to attend her. Asha claims she needs to use the bathroom as an excuse to get him away from the crowd. Believing she is helpless and without power, the Marquis offers to escort her himself. He picks her up and tells his companion he will be gone for a moment. The nobleman thinks she is as adorable as the late Princess Beatrice while she playfully touches his face. She leans in and whispers for him to take her to the balcony instead of the bathroom. The Marquis is stunned that the child correctly used his last name when he hadn't introduced himself. Once they are alone, Asha tells the man that she wants to make a deal with him. The two figures stand on the grand balcony under the moonlit sky.
Marquise Rosells feels a sense of unease, thinking it is like being enchanted by a demon.
Looking at her innocent face, he dismissively wonders if she wants a deal for candy.
The princess stares up at him with a serious and knowing expression.
Asha, standing on the railing, promises to give him useful information to help his struggling family. Her condition for the information is that he must stop Princess Akola from adopting her. She tells him to hurry up and decide because she does not have much time. Marquise Rosells is utterly bewildered by the child's sudden change in demeanor. He demands to know what she is talking about and what secret information she could possibly have. Asha describes magic stones that have the power to double a person's magic capacity. She recalls that the Alter family would have monopolized these stones in the future and decides the Rosells are a better choice. She offers to reveal the location of the stones if he promises to help her avoid the adoption. The Marquis becomes dizzy with confusion, asking the child who told her to say these things. Asha confidently claims that she knows everything because she has the power to prophesy.
Marquise Rosells is staggered, struggling to process the mention of a prophecy.
Amidst celestial imagery, Asha reveals herself as the legendary godchild who possesses visions of what is to come. She confidently asserts that every one of her predictions, no matter how small, has proven to be an absolute truth. The nobleman begins to sweat, nervously asking if the high priest is aware of her extraordinary gift. Standing on the moonlit balcony, the girl explains that she has kept this secret from everyone, prompting the Marquis to question why she would hide something so vital. With a somber look, Asha confesses that without the power to protect herself, she fears being exploited or killed by those who learn of her ability. Marquise Rosells remains speechless, his eyes wide as the weight of her revelation sinks in. The narrator observes that her path is one that cannot be dictated by the commands of others. Swallowing his nerves, the Marquis proposes a bet as the chippy princess wonders what other price he could possibly demand beyond the magic stones. He gazes at a family portrait, lamenting the loss of his sons and noting that his grandson is now the sole heir to their lineage.
A portrait depicts a young boy with light red hair, whom the Marquis describes as a talented and handsome prodigy.
To her utter surprise, the nobleman asks if the princess would be willing to enter into an engagement with his young grandson. Stunned by this sudden proposal, Asha feels as though she is being treated like a business asset rather than a child. Elsewhere, a frustrated noblewoman scolds Feyan for stepping on her feet during their dance while he desperately searches for his daughter. Back on the balcony, Asha is amused that the Marquis is ready to offer up his heir before even verifying her claims. The girl reluctantly agrees to the terms, provided that the formal arrangement does not need to happen immediately. She privately reasons that an engagement is a small price to pay, as she has no intention of actually following through with a marriage.
A sudden, sharp sensation courses through her, making the princess worry if a dangerous magical reaction is beginning.
Alone in her thoughts, Asha wonders if this strange tightening in her chest is actually a lingering attachment to her home. Inside the banquet hall, guests raise their glasses to congratulate Prince Alter on his upcoming union. The black-haired prince stands beside Akola, listening as a guest expresses regret that he declined their celebratory gift. Prince Alter dismisses the need for presents, stating that the only thing he requires is the signature for a specific person's documents. The onlookers quickly realize he is referring to the official adoption papers for Princess Anastasia. Suddenly, a young noblewoman named Stella voices her loud objection, demanding to know why an orphan is being chosen over other candidates. Princess Akola sternly addresses Stella, who defensively asks if her opposition is somehow misplaced. As Stella continues to rant about the dangers of black magic, Asha watches from the stairs, pleased to have found such a vocal, if unwitting, ally. Feeling successful in her mission, the princess begins to slip away through the crowd to find her father. She clenches her fist in triumph, only to be stopped when a voice calls out her location to the gathered nobles. Prince Alter approaches with a forced politeness, thanking her for appearing despite her supposed illness, while Asha recoils in dread. Ignoring her discomfort, the prince lifts her into his arms, causing the girl to panic at his unwanted physical contact. Fuming with rage, Asha demands to know who gave him permission to touch her. The man offers a chilling smile, telling her that her resistance is futile because her future is already decided. Ethereal wisps of mana swirl in the air as the narration ponders the sensation of raw magical energy. As the prince holds her aloft, the narrator describes the overwhelming feeling of two different powers colliding and mixing together. Asha struggles against his grip, desperately shouting for him to put her down as he stands immovable on the ballroom floor. He suddenly pulls her into a crushing embrace, shocking the princess with the intensity of his hold. Sparks of red energy flicker as his hand rests on her pink hair, signaling a dangerous surge of power. Asha's eyes widen in terror as she realizes the prince is doing something horrific to her. A sudden, sharp "arg" sounds as Asha screams in agony, drawing the confused attention of the surrounding guests. Writhing in pain, the princess feels as though she might explode from the sheer force of the divine power being forced upon her. Thayan suddenly lunges forward, tearing his daughter away from the prince's grasp with a look of pure fury. Blood trickles from Asha's mouth as she sobs for her father, her face pale from the violent magical encounter. Glowing with protective light, the blonde commander holds her close and assures her that she is finally safe. The guests murmur in confusion, unsure if the child's sudden collapse is due to her illness or the encounter. A sudden, quick hic sounds as Asha realizes she survived, though she wonders if anyone noticed her vomiting blood during the chaos. Prince Alter feigns concern, asking if she is in pain, while Asha inwardly curses the man who just tried to kill her. Thayan's eyes glow with a menacing red light as he stares down the prince, his patience for royal diplomacy completely gone. A tense silence falls over the grand staircase as the two men face off while the princess cowers between them. The commander takes a resolute step forward, his intent to protect his daughter overriding all other concerns. A gloved hand reaches out with a sudden, quick whack sounding. Thayan pins Prince Alter to the ground as a table is overturned, making guests cry out in shock at the violent clash. Chibi Asha is overwhelmed with shock and confusion as she watches the two men fight. With glowing red eyes, the blonde commander demands to know what the prince did to his daughter. Prince Alter mocks his attacker's sensitivity, privately pleased that he has successfully provoked such a volatile reaction. A firm grip tightens on the prince's collar as he reasons that some things are better left undiscovered. Asha rushes forward to stop her father, frantically claiming she is fine and was only startled by the prince's sudden embrace. The emperor enters the hall with a booming demand for an explanation for the unfolding chaos. Prince Alter brushes off the incident as a minor misunderstanding with Sir Parciel while offering a hollow apology to the emperor. Guests murmur about the scandal as a noblewoman watches with a cold and judgmental expression. The prince stands with wine-stained clothes as onlookers gossip about his disheveled appearance following the scuffle. Madame Marquise seethes with visible rage, her face flushed with indignation. A hand firmly grips a glass of red wine, trembling with anger. With a sudden, quick yak sounding, the noblewoman douses the blonde commander in red wine as the princess looks on in horror. Red wine drips from Thayan's face in uniform while he stands stoically under the woman's blatant disrespect. The noblewoman hurls insults at him, mockingly questioning his low-born origins. Fuming at the insult to her father, Asha realizes the woman is deliberately sabotaging the engagement ceremony.
As a companion tries to defend Sir Parciel's high rank, the prince tells his mother to stop because the emperor is watching.
Madame Marquise scoffs at his accolades, calling him a tax-funded bastard in a fit of elitist rage.
Looking at the cruel woman, the princess realizes that one should never judge people solely by their outward appearance.
Asha turns and runs away from the crowd, determined to take matters into her own hands. The princess grabs a wine bottle from an ice bucket to use as often. The pink-haired girl sprints back toward the crowd carrying the heavy ice bucket. In a moment of justice, Asha splashes the entire bucket of ice water onto the shocked noblewoman with a sudden, quick chwak sounding. As ice cubes clatter across the floor, a voice commands the princess to stop her retaliation.
Drenched and humiliated, Madame Marquise demands to know why she should stop her tirade.
Asha shouts back that she won't tolerate any more insults toward her father, calling the woman a narrow-minded old lady.
Marquise Rousseles looks on in disbelief as the scene shifts to the red-haired Akola watching the fallout.
Tears of anger well in the girl's eyes as she stands her ground against the high-born bully. Phaon stands in silence, covered in wine, as the surrounding guests continue their hushed whispers.
Madame Marquise is speechless, her mouth agape at the child's blunt and disrespectful label.
While Phaon kneels to calm her, Asha fiercely asks if the noblewoman has ever fought monsters or served on a battlefield.
She reminds the silent crowd that it is her father's protection that allows them all to live in peace and safety.
Marquise Rousseles intervenes, telling the princess to stop while demanding that his wife apologize to Sir Parciel for her behavior.
Onlookers observe that even the Marquise has sided with the princess, agreeing that his wife's words were beyond the pale.
Phaon dismisses the need for an apology and requests to leave the ball early, citing his daughter's distress as the reason.
Prince Alter watches them depart, sensing that the commander is retreating, while Princess Akola asks for an update.
The prince turns to Akola with a dark look, telling her that he has good news for their plans. As he carries her away, the narration suggests that the prince intends to remove Phaon and Asha from his path permanently.
Under a moonlit sky, the princess asks her father why he didn't force the woman to apologize.
Phaon reasons that a forced apology from such a woman would never be sincere, choosing to ignore her spite. Surprising the commander, Asha leans in for a warm and affectionate embrace.
The girl softly thanks him for standing up for her during the confrontation.
She boldly promises to personally defeat anyone who dares to speak ill of her father in the future.
A system message notes that her actions might lead to detrimental consequences for her royal standing. Looking at him with deep affection, Asha realizes that Phaon truly treats her with the care of a biological father.
The Grand Palace glows under the moon, marking a turning point for the future.
Back at their residence, the servants are worried to see Sir Parciel's clothes stained with wine. Phaon heads off to clean up, entrusting the maids with taking care of the princess. A maid gasps in alarm when she notices a dark stain on Asha's dress, wondering what could have caused it. Phaon's servants are horrified to see a bloodstain on the princess's dress and demand to know what happened.
Asha touches her chin as she prepares to explain the origin of the stain.
While the princess sits in a bubble bath, the servants express their realization and pity regarding her explanation. The blonde servant questions Viscount Alter's sanity, noting that different types of magical energy cannot be arbitrarily shared. Submerged in bubbles with a rubber duck, Chibi Asha labels Alter a psycho for realizing she possesses dual powers. The princess catches her servants off guard by suddenly asking if her father was once a slave. The brown-haired maid explains that Phaon's past is irrelevant because he rose to his high rank through personal strength.
Asha observes that her mother must have been truly in love with him.
Imagery of Phaon's scarred body and the judgmental glares of nobles reveals the hardships he overcame to reach his status. As a servant brushes her pink hair, Asha reflects on the disrespectful treatment of her father and the burning rage it caused her. A moment of quiet realization follows as she ponders a sudden internal shift.
The princess looks downward with a somber and thoughtful expression.
Asha wonders if she is finally beginning to develop genuine feelings of affection for Phaon.
Recalling her agony, Phaon realizes her collapse wasn't a seizure and suspects Alter will strike again soon.
Prince Alter smirks while lounging, privately noting that he has begun to see through the princess's condition. Phaon leans his head against his hand, resolutely deciding that a man like Alter could never be Asha's true father. Sitting alone by the bath, the commander vows to use all his power to stop the prince's schemes. Later, Asha walks through the room in her floral nightgown, wondering why her father is taking so long. Her attention is caught by a pile of discarded clothes and a mysterious letter. The pink-haired girl looks intensely curious about the abandoned document. Noticing the letter isn't sealed, she decides to take a quick peek at its contents. The camera focuses on the elegant handwriting of the unsealed letter. Asha's eyes widen in absolute horror as she processes the words on the page. A flashback shows Phaon at his desk, writing that he has received more honor than he deserved.
The commander stamps a document declaring his intent to resign as captain and become a wandering knight. A sudden, loud click sounding occurs as the door opens while Asha is still holding the mitre. Feon enters the room and gasps when he realizes his daughter has discovered his secret. Clutching the paper to her chest, the princess tearfully asks if he is planning to leave her.
The blonde man tries to approach, but Asha recoils and shouts for him to stay away.
Sobbing uncontrollably, the girl accuses him of intending to abandon her once again.
Feon stands frozen in shock, his eyes wide at her unexpected reaction.
The commander stares down at the crying child, his mind fixated on her use of the word again.
The scene shifts to the north of Santra as a sudden, loud boom sounding echoes across the sky.
Massive water geysers erupt from the center of Rubor Lake amidst the snowy mountains.
A servant tells Marquis Rissels that his decision to follow a child's lead is completely unbelievable. The Marquis stands firm, asking if his assistant has ever known him to misjudge someone's potential. A messenger runs forward shouting that they have finally discovered the magic stone they were seeking. With a sudden, quick whack sounding, the Marquis demands that the stone be brought over for inspection immediately. An intricate magical device begins to glow with a brilliant, swirling light. The noblemen watch the machine with bated breath as the experiment reaches its climax. A worker excitedly reports that the stone has successfully increased the mana output by 50%. The surrounding crew breaks into a chorus of cheers to celebrate their incredible success. A chibi version of the Marquis laughs triumphantly, proud that his gamble paid off. The Marquis orders his men to immediately contact the other nobles and follow the Alter family's example. Back at the residence, the two servants confront Sir Parciel to ask what he did to the princess. The blonde commander remains silent, looking away with a guilty and stressed expression. The servants explain that the girl has been locked away crying for hours and they cannot comfort her. They demand that he tell them the truth about the mistake he must have made. Feon continues to stare into the distance, unable to find the words to explain the misunderstanding. Inside the bedroom, the maid watches helplessly as Asha lies on the bed, sobbing into her pillow.
The brown-haired maid asks if the princess is withholding the truth because of the engagement.
Sitting in her floral nightgown, Asha asks Yuz to leave her alone for a moment. The maid tells the princess to rest but reminds her to call if her condition worsens. Quiet settles over the room after she leaves. Tears stream down the child's face. A painful memory of her foolish hope.
She feels betrayed by his false love.
Thinking he's no different, she remembers leaving again. Despair consumes her lonely, dark thoughts. The servants react with shock and outrage at the news of Sir Parciel's sudden resignation.
Feon stresses it's a private matter and claims he has decided not to submit the letter at all.
The blonde servant scolds him for the distress he caused the princess. They demand he immediately apologize for failing to submit the document sooner.
A sudden, loud click sounding as the bedroom door is opened.
Startled, Asha wonders if it is Yus or Sierra returning to the room.
The commander identifies himself to the surprised child. Anger flashes in her teary eyes. Shouting for him to leave, she declares that she no longer needs a master. With a sudden, quick thud sounding, Feon drops to his knees before the bed. The man apologizes profusely, promising that he truly intends to keep his position. Clenching her fists, the girl accuses him of being a liar.
She shouts that he is only staying because the sisters told him to do so.
Feon attempts to refute her desperate claims. Princess Asha falls back onto her ball. She screams for him to get up.
Without a word, Feon pulls her into a firm and protective embrace.
He softly apologizes and vows that he never had any intention of abandoning her. Though still crying, the girl listens to his heartfelt promise. Sunlight hits the Grand Alter family estate. Using a magical communication tool, Viscount Alter confirms that the girl possesses dual talents. The prince laughs, noting that if separated from Feon, the princess will soon perish. Akola notes that Sir Parciel cares deeply for her and might interfere with the cabinet's decision. Alter plans to demand Feon's dismissal for hiding the truth before sending the child away.
Chibi Akola questions the plan's feasibility.
The prince intends to label her powers a curse so the king will reject her status.
Akola agrees to put her trust in Lord Alter's scheme.
Days pass as the cabinet convenes. Alter demands that his assistant repeat the unbelievable report he just delivered. The man explains that 18 noble families, including the Rissels, have formally rejected the adoption agreement. With a sudden, quick swish sounding, Alter looks at the pile of rejection letters. A dark, menacing look fills his eyes. He is furious that the letter fails to explain the reason for the mass rejection. In a fit of rage, the prince strikes his assistant as the letters fly everywhere. He scoffs at the noblemen, calling them scum for backstabbing him. Ordering his carriage, Alter vows to remember their names and destroy them all once this is over. The high-ranking officials gather around the large table for the meeting.
Viscount Alter sits silently, his expression hardened.
He wonders why the surrounding nobles are whispering and grinning at him.
The moderator opens the meeting, announcing that Duke Rissels will be the first to speak. The meeting begins with a formal greeting.
Rissels presents a revolutionary magic boosting stone.
Alter is stunned by the unexpected news.
The king supports Russell's new venture. The council unanimously supports the king's proposal.
Russell's offers a generous profit-sharing deal.
The king praises Russell's before calling Uther.
A heavy, foreboding atmosphere sows.
The king asks Alter if there is trouble.
Alter denies any issues despite his agitation.
Alter formally requests to adopt the princess.
Alter defends his guardianship proposal to the king.
Alter presents the Senate's approval for adoption.
Russell's reveals he refused to sign Alter's document.
Russell suggests the princess should decide her fate.
The nobles argue over the child's autonomy.
The meeting is interrupted by a sudden, loud thud sounding as the doors are thrown open.
Asha makes a cheerful and confident entrance.
Asha questions the nature of their discussion.
Alter tells Asha his plan to adopt her. Asha bluntly questions the adoption clan.
Asha accuses Alter of imprisoning her friend.
Asha demands justice for her imprisoned friend.
Alter tries to bribe her with compliance.
Asha rejects Alter's manipulative offer entirely.
Asha drops a bombshell accusation of murder.
The king is horrified by the accusation.
Asha explains Alter's secret magical assault.
The king demands the truth from Alter. Asha reveals Alter's true motive was her power.
The council gasps at the mention of dual powers.
Alter admits he discovered her rare dual talents.
The king's attention is taken by a sudden, quick dirk sounding as he jumps up in disbelief.
The king asks for confirmation of her power.
The room is filled with a sudden, quick whack sounding as magical energy swirls.
The king stares in absolute disbelief.
A divine beast suddenly manifests before her. The crowd witnesses her summoning a divine beast.
Alter desperately warns of the danger of her condition.
Alter shifts the blame onto Sir Parciel's secrecy. Parciel admits he hid the truth for her safety.
Parciel expresses his deep fear for Asha's life.
Alter continues his frantic assault on Parciel's character.
Parciel questions Alter's suspicious delay in courting.
A silent Parciel stands firm under scrutiny.
Alter's motives are publicly questioned as nefarious.
Alter tries to talk his way out of suspicion. The king asks Parciel if survival is possible. Parciel explains the treatment while Alter remains skeptical.
The silence is broken by a sudden, quick dwerk sounding as Russell stands to disagree.
Symbols of divinity surround Asha as the prophecy of the children of God and her rare divine power is discussed.
Phaon embraces the princess, his highest duty identified as protecting the child of God as Santra's guardian.
The room is filled with a sudden, quick whack sounding as Russell demands the council's immediate agreement.
Looking down at the long council table, the gathered noblemen collectively voice their unanimous support for the proposal.
Chibi Asha giggles at her clever manipulation, while Alter looks distressed by her harsh insult.
The king turns to the blonde commander to ask for his professional perspective on the current situation.
A tense silence falls over the room as the king questions if Phaon can truly take responsibility for her life.
The silence is broken by a sudden, quick thud sounding as Phaon drops to one knee before the child.
Clenching his fist against his chest, the blonde man declares he is willing to bet his entire life on her protection. Phaon looks up with a determined gaze, promising to ensure the safety of the princess at all costs.
The king's hand clenches on the table as he accepts the commander's vow and addresses Lord Alter.
With a stern and foreboding expression, the king warns that placing magic on someone is inherently life-threatening.
Citing the nobleman's past engagement, the king cancels the adoption while Chibi Asha laughs at the outcome. A bubble of pure delight appears as Asha reveals she is thoroughly enjoying the turn of events.
Marquise Russell gives a knowing wink to the princess.
Standing triumphantly with her arms crossed, the child celebrates her victory over the frustrated and defeated brown-haired nobleman.
In the quiet library, the king asks the priest for his assessment of the girl's ability to adapt. The priest explains that with Phaon's constant support, she could become the first perfect polyops in all of history.
Divine symbols glow as it is noted that Santra's status will soon be raised beyond any comparison.
The brown-haired man questions if it would be acceptable for the commander to temporarily pause his monster subjugation duties.
Sitting in his study, the king agrees to increase the number of royal knights to accommodate the change.
The priest observes that the monarch seems to place immense confidence in the fulfillment of the prophecy.
Looking down at the table, the king admits he cannot doubt Priestess Sejane's divine interpretation of the events.
An ornate golden cross shines brightly on an altar as they reflect on the nature of human mistakes.
The king notes that consecutive miracles confirm the validity of the explanation they have received regarding the child. The priest is taken by a sudden, quick startle sounding at the mention of the girl being called illegitimate. A suggestion is made to use magic to investigate the bloodline of the elite army accompanying her. A memory of travel surfaces as they wonder if her mother, Beatrice, hid the biological father's identity in her will. Clasping his hands, the king firmly rejects the idea as a poor and potentially harmful course of action.
A swirling magic circle appears, serving as a reminder that such intrusive tests would only cause the princess pain.
The king decides against further investigation, noting that the child is still far too young to endure it. The priest confirms that the princess is currently training her body to adapt to the two distinct powers. The brown-haired man looks on with a solemn and focused expression, aware of the gravity of the situation. 3 glowing green stones are revealed as part of the prophecy regarding the one destined to find them.
The scene shifts to the exterior of the grand castle, bathed in the soft, brilliant light of a new day.
Alter informs his red-haired fiancé that their goal has failed and their marriage can now be cancelled.
The air is filled with a sudden, quick jack sounding as a slap echoes through the room.
Startled and stinging, the nobleman turns away with a bright red mark visible across his reddened cheek.
Furious, the woman demands to know if he thinks their engagement is some kind of laughable joke.
The redhead warns that breaking the engagement now would result in her father marrying her off to another country.
Sweat beads on his face as Alter apologizes profusely, admitting he was not thinking clearly.
The woman turns her back on him, stating that his foolish actions have left them with no other options.
Looking out at the room, she wonders if things will truly be all right if they stay in this state.
With a sudden, quick thud sounding as she sits, she declares that the princess will inevitably die anyway. The green-eyed woman notes that such an end is simply the unavoidable limit of a half-blood child.
The group arrives at Eudidium as the sound of pained cries echoes from deep within the prison.
Carrying Asha in his arms, Phaon leads the group through the dark and imposing hallway of the dungeon.
The commander tries to persuade the girl to turn back, insisting this is no place for her to visit.
A red-haired girl urges the princess to stay put, wondering if she has become exhausted from the journey.
Inside the cold prison cell, the dark-haired girl sits surrounded by toys as a soft, magical light begins to glow. Rushing to the bars, the white-haired child urgently asks if her friend is unhurt. The dark-haired girl reassures her that she is fine, noting that the 2 knights have been bringing her supplies and earplugs daily. The princess is stunned that visits were allowed, but the red-haired knight clarifies that the commander granted special permission.
Looking back at the stoic blonde man, the child realizes he found a way to show mercy, even while following official protocols. The commander remains silent, his expression unreadable as he reflects on the weight of his duty and his inability to resign. Standing before the cell, the blonde man formally orders the guard to release the child immediately. A small chibi version of the dark-haired girl wonders if it is truly safe for her to leave given her knowledge of forbidden magic. Radiating pure joy, the princess confirms her freedom and asks the girl to finally reveal her name.
Looking up with wide, hesitant eyes, the girl introduces herself as Prija Isutare.
Delighted, the princess decides to call her Prigia and announces that she will be attending the prestigious Royal Academy.
Prija is awestruck by the sight of the Grand Academy, questioning if a commoner like her is truly allowed to study there.
The princess explains that magical talent is the only requirement for entry and reveals she has already secured Prija's free admission. Her excitement is met by a sudden, quick click sounding as the heavy iron cell door is finally unlocked.
The happy moment is shattered by a sudden shout as an angry voice calls the girl an ungrateful brat for her success.
Chained to the wall, a scarred and battered prisoner glares at Prija with intense hatred.
The man snarls a violent threat, claiming that his captain will hunt Prija down and destroy her for her betrayal. Prija stands her ground, her expression hardening with a newfound resolve against her former captor. Looking at the miserable man, she vows to avoid capture and eventually arrest the person who ruined her brother's life. A sudden, powerful beam of purple magical energy shoots across the room toward the captive man. The air is filled with a sudden, quick gasp sounding as the prisoner is struck by the magical force. The blonde commander observes the man's defiance, noting that he refuses to provide any information, even in the face of death. The prisoner mocks the group from behind the bars, claiming his leader possesses a far more noble bloodline than the princess.
He laughs manically, asserting that the princess is impure and that his captain is the only one fit to be king. A final, dark declaration confirms the captain's own status as a child of mixed blood.
His mockery is cut short by a sudden, quick cough sounding as the man begins to violently choke on blood. The knights and the commander look on in shock as the prisoner's condition takes a sudden, lethal turn.
A pained silence falls as the man's limp foot dangles from his chains, the life having fully left his body.
Sensing the darkness of the moment, the commander orders the knights to usher the princess away from the dead man.
Prija trembles with fear as she realizes that the organization's deadly curse has claimed another victim.
Both the princess and the knight are startled, demanding to know the nature of this mysterious curse.
A dark silhouette represents the lethal magic that kills anyone who attempts to reveal the leader's secrets.
Prigia explains that she was spared because she was too young to be a main member, though the organization's reach is terrifying. Overwhelmed by the constant danger, Chibi Asha shivers and wishes to escape the perils of the kingdom as quickly as possible. Prigia looks toward the princess, wondering about their next destination now that she has been released.
Chibi Asha explains that Priya will move into the academy dorms today, but they have one important stop to make first.
Standing before the Grand Palace, Priya gazes at her reflection in utter disbelief at the change in her appearance.
Dressed in a beautiful ruffled purple gown and matching headband, Priya looks like a different person as the princess praises her.
A maid holding scissors explains she had to trim Priya's damaged hair, much to the girl's quiet satisfaction.
The palace staff gushes over the two girls, delighted to see them finally safe and happy together.
The princess playfully pushes the shy, embarrassed Priya forward to show off her new look to the waiting knights.
Peeking through the doorway, the princess catches the two knights in the middle of a quiet game of chess.
The red-haired and orange-haired knights are completely stunned into silence by Priya's elegant transformation.
While the orange-haired man offers a cheerful compliment, Priya notices that the red-haired knight has become strangely speechless. His attention is taken by a sudden, quick tap sounding as the red-haired knight accidentally knocks into the table. The chess pieces fall to the floor in a sudden, quick clatter, sounding as the knight's composure crumbles.
The orange-haired knight scolds his companion for his clumsiness as they both look down at the scattered board.
Blushing furiously, the red-haired knight avoids eye contact as the others laugh at his obvious embarrassment.
Noticing the knight's intense crush on her friend, Chibi Asha grins mischievously as she begins planning a playful prank.
A horse-drawn carriage approaches a grand castle as someone wonders if the princess has truly gained a double power. Inside the carriage, the red-haired knight expresses his shock at the princess's divine power, though Asha modestly notes her training is not yet finished. Reflecting on her regression, Chibi Asha thinks about how her painful days are over, while the knights discuss how no royal has ever possessed divine power before.
Asha explains that, while rare, some nobles with divine power can choose where they belong.
The orange-haired knight notes he's never seen a noble knight, prompting Asha to ponder the unfairness of commoners being manipulated while nobles enjoy freedom of choice. Looking out the window, the princess admits she often doubts the existence of God Lux because of such unfair teachings.
Asha bangs on the carriage window, shouting for the deity to give her a hint to end the regression, while the red-haired knight warns her it's dangerous.
The carriage finally arrives at the massive, ornate academy under a clear blue sky.
Priya is completely awestruck, hardly able to believe she will be living in such a magnificent place.
The grand courtyard and majestic architecture of the academy leave the young girl feeling overwhelmed by its noble splendor.
A butler in a tuxedo formally gestures toward a set of large, ornate doors, informing Priya that her room is on this side. The scene shifts to a luxurious and bright study room filled with fine furniture and a warm fireplace. Asha reassures her friend that everything necessary has been prepared and invites her to call if she needs anything else. Overwhelmed with emotion, Priya begins to cry, prompting the princess to ask if she is all right.
The air is filled with a sudden, quick wah sounding as Priya lunges forward to embrace the princess.
Holding on to her benefactor, Priya tearfully expresses her deep gratitude for being rescued from jail and given a new life. Asha dismisses the thanks, warmly stating that it was Priya who actually saved her.
Priya recalls the dark memory of being kidnapped and forced by her captors to use mind control magic before she even knew of her divine power.
Looking at an old tome, she resolves never to use that dark magic again, now that she can officially learn proper magic at the academy. With shining eyes, Priya vows to become a powerful mage so she can support Asha when she eventually becomes empress.
The princess is stunned into silence by the sudden and intense declaration from her friend.
Chibi Asha thinks that she now has another devoted follower like a loyal puppy, even though she has no desire for the throne. The blonde commander, Feon, suddenly appears and sternly orders the princess to stop her activities and return immediately.
Picking up the small child, the commander announces their return to the military headquarters while the knights acknowledge his command.
Feon is surprised when the child hugs him tightly, wondering if her affection comes from being apart for so long.
As they walk through the gardens, Feon mentions his resignation letter, but Asha insists on being let down so she can walk on her own. The commander looks flustered and awkward as the princess asserts her independence.
Looking back with a serious face, Asha asks why he looks so pitiful and if he recalls her father's nickname.
She then walks away briskly, claiming she doesn't remember anything, and leaving the commander standing alone. Feon calls out to the princess, asking her to wait and pleading to know if she has finally stopped being angry with him. The princess pauses for a moment, her expression unreadable as she considers his plea.
Looking at the blonde man, Asha wonders if people are made weak by forgiveness, yet she questions if he truly thinks she will forgive him.
She demands to know if he has stopped writing his resignation letters, keeping her arms crossed defiantly. Kneeling before her, Feon solemnly promises that it will never happen again, and vows never to leave her side. A pensive silence follows as the princess stares at the commander's sincere expression.
Asha reaches out her hand, addressing him as Ida and declaring that because she is a good child, she will forgive him. Feon looks moved as she asks what he is doing and demands a conciliatory handshake from her papa. The commander takes the small child's hand, thanking her as a soft glow surrounds their reconciled bond. Walking away with a determined stride, Asha secretly resolves not to truly forgive him and plans to leave the palace before she turns 12. Looking at a portrait of the king and the red-haired Aquila, Asha thinks about her status as a child of God and the danger her aunt poses to her future. Walking hand in hand with the commander, she realizes she must stay for now, but knows she will eventually have to act on her own. The two characters hold hands tightly, signaling a period of waiting and watching for what the future holds. A series of floating gears and celestial symbols represent the steady passage of time. As years pass through spring, summer, autumn, and winter, onlookers notice with excitement that the princess has grown significantly taller. Standing in a field of blue flowers, a young girl with long, flowing white hair looks out toward the horizon. Surrounded by stuffed bears and sweets, Asha enjoys a peaceful moment in her room. Now 8 years old and taller than before, Asha credits her growth to drinking plenty of milk as a sudden, quick, ta-da sounding accompanies her pose. Clasping her hands, the princess wonders happily if she will continue to get even bigger as she grows up. Her maids look on with delight, jokingly asking if she wants to be a giant and how tall she actually plans to get. At the training grounds, Asha points toward the soldiers and declares her goal is to be as tall as Papa so she can defeat anyone. Riggin playfully covers the pink-haired girl's mouth as he mentions a man named Mr. Parciel is nearly 2 meters tall. Reflecting on her companions, the princess thinks about how her 3 sisters remain gentle and warm while she has grown. A sense of deep gratitude fills the girl as she considers the wonderful people currently in her life. A transition occurs as a sudden, quick step sounding marks a boot striking the dusty ground. The blonde commander addresses the young girl as princess while Regan looks on with a surprised expression. Looking serious, Feon asks if they can begin her training for the day. Asha enthusiastically tells her sisters to watch her be fierce, though she notes Feon's intimidating reputation among the knights. As they walk, Asha asks if she can skip school, but her father insists she must adapt to prevent future seizures. Reflecting on her progress, the princess notes she can now divide mana and prana after fully adapting to her dual powers. Standing tall, the commander asks if she is ready to proceed with her lesson. Enclosed in a glowing magical sphere, Asha is lifted into the air by a powerful beam of light. The air crackles with intensity as the princess focuses her energy, causing white light to surge around her. Magical beams crisscross violently as the young girl's power reaches a fever pitch. A massive shockwave erupts across the training field as Asha unleashes the full weight of her magic. Rosa, Regin, and their companion are left completely speechless by the sheer scale of the princess's power. Struggling to maintain the spell, Asha winces as sparks of electricity jump around her. The girl exhales as she reaches her limit, letting the magical energy slowly dissipate from her hands. Asha wipes her brow, sighing that she only managed to hold the powerful state for 3 seconds. Regan and Ark approach the princess as she recovers from her intense training session. The 2 knights praise her rapid growth and ability to block the commander's strike, though Asha privately suspects Feon held back. Recalling the recent appointment ceremony, Asha thinks about the day the 2 puppies were officially knighted by the king. During the ceremony, Ark surprised everyone by asking the king to let Princess Anastasia take an oath of allegiance. Regin immediately joined the request, much to Asha's shock as the court began to murmur. The white-haired king chuckled at their enthusiasm and half-jokingly allowed it, while Asha felt like she might faint from the chaos. Back in the present, the girl asks her father why he won't praise her for her significant improvement. Looking away with a faint blush, Feon awkwardly tells the princess she did a good job. The commander maintains his stiff posture while repeating his compliment, clearly uncomfortable with expressing his feelings. Asha observes that even after 3 years together, her father is still incredibly awkward. Tucked into bed by her father, the princess feels safe knowing Akola cannot reach her with her guardians nearby. A collection of chibi allies represents the protective wall surrounding Asha, keeping the threat of her aunt at bay. Looking out the window, the princess worries about a future where monsters become smarter and her pain returns. Asha looks sadly at a withered plant, lamenting her failure to secure a glass garden as a birthday present. Stepping out of a carriage, the girl resolves not to rush her research and to take things one step at a time. With a bright smile, Asha waves goodbye and asks her father to meet her for dinner after her magic class. The princess enters the academy as her father watches her go, offering a final word of encouragement. Asha pauses at the doorway, looking back with a confused expression. Staring at her father's retreating form, she wonders if he was actually smiling just a moment ago. Chibi Asha dismisses the thought, certain that a man like him wouldn't smile without a very good reason. Inside the study, the elderly mage informs the students that the king has granted Asha special admission to the academy.
Stella reacts with shock, arguing that the princess is too young, while Asha is equally surprised by the sudden news. The teacher explains that because Asha is already proficient in intermediate magic, she will be placed in the graduate class immediately.
While Stella fumes over the decision, the princess worries about how her older classmate will react to her promotion.
The mage announces the end of their private lessons and asks Asha if there is any specific magic she wants to learn before starting.
Asha eagerly requests to learn teleportation magic, believing it will be essential for escaping future emergencies. The teacher suggests starting with a theory and a 1-meter jump, which the princess happily accepts. The two girls focus on their studies as they prepare for their transition into the academy's advanced curriculum. Eager to practice what she has learned, Asha stands up and prepares to attempt her first teleportation spell.
The princess concentrates her mana, forming a bright pink magical circle between her outstretched hands. The air is filled with a sudden, quick whoa, sounding as a massive pillar of blue light erupts, signaling a powerful cast. The elderly mage teacher points at a blue portal, exclaiming it is the most important thing for the princess.
The teacher explains that Asha must visualize her destination and coordinates simultaneously, leaving the princess wondering how to focus on both.
Her foot steps into the portal, followed by a sudden, quick hop. While Stella continues her muttering, Asha is suddenly caught off guard by a feeling of shock. Falling through a celestial void, Asha panics as she realizes she forgot to visualize her coordinates. A sudden, loud crash sounding followed by a boom marks her violent arrival.
Finding herself in a dark, cramped space filled with books, the princess blames Stella's muttering for her lack of concentration.
Asha looks around the small, dark, warehouse-like space with a worried expression.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick creak, sounding as the cabinet door opens to reveal a dark-haired boy.
The young boy with bright blue-purple eyes looks down at the unexpected intruder in silence.
Sitting atop a pile of books inside the wardrobe, Asha stares back at the stranger in the large room.
A close-up highlights the boy's pitch-black hair and strangely vibrant, gem-like eyes.
The boy addresses her with a simple greeting, while Asha wonders where she might have seen him before. A sudden, quick rumble sounding startles the princess as the stack of books beneath her begins to tip.
Asha falls face first onto the floor, prompting the boy to ask what she was sitting on as he looks on in confusion.
Noticing the books on the floor, the girl realizes they are related to magic study. Asha assumes she is in an academy dormitory and feels relieved that she didn't teleport too far. Chibi Asha explains her failed teleportation attempt and asks if the boy is a student while eyeing his books. A sudden quick grab sounding occurs as the boy lunges forward to cover the princess's mouth. The princess is stunned into silence by the sudden action, wondering why he is reacting so aggressively. While Asha struggles to break free, the boy is surprised by her physical strength as a sudden, quick thud sounding rings out. A crackling magical sphere erupts around the two children, isolating them from the outside world. Recognizing the sound-blocking magic, Asha resolves to overpower the boy with her own abilities. Her eyes glow as she attempts to cast a spell, but a sudden, heavy thump sounding signals her failure to use magic.
Asha breaks free from the boy's grip, looking annoyed as she gasps for air.
Walking away, the boy notes her royal hair and eye color, deducing her highborn status. The princess indignantly asks who the boy is and how he dares speak to a royal without honorifics. Standing before a backdrop of red flowers, the boy identifies himself as Basilio Arteo Piraeus, the first prince of Kalisa. The prince explains that he was taken as a hostage 4 years ago and remains locked inside the Nilam magic tower. Asha is completely speechless upon hearing the identity of the boy and his location. Remembering her father's words, Asha realizes the tower is a prison for dangerous war criminals. She feels a pang of pity while picturing the young prince trapped in isolation for years. The boy questions how she knows magic, reminding her that mana is restricted within the tower walls. He explains that the space is designed to prevent the radical division of mana. His foot slides against a magic book, followed by a sudden, quick tap, sounding as he discusses the 117 types of mana. The prince mentions a unique type of mana only the Kalisa royals can perceive and manipulate. Purple sparks dance in his hand as Asha realizes he can use a mysterious magic that might endanger her. The boy's expression turns chilling as he tells the princess she won't be leaving the room alive. Panicked, Asha asks if he truly intends to kill her as she jumps to her feet. The prince claims that because she is a Santra royal who discovered his secret books and magic, he has no choice. Asha wonders if he used teleportation to smuggle the books in and desperately searches for a plan. Looking into his glowing eyes, she realizes he possesses the fierce gaze of the legendary Demon King's son. Feeling vulnerable without her magic, the girl wonders if her divine power will still function. A soft white glow illuminates her hand as she realizes that prana, unlike mana, is not restricted.
Nervous, the princess tries to stall for time, knowing her defensive divine power isn't enough for a counterattack.
Asha suddenly clutches her forehead in agony as a sudden, sharp, sounding escapes her lips.
The princess collapses onto the floor, leaving the boy startled and confused by her sudden seizure.
Clutching her head as a sudden, sharp throb sounding rings out, Asha gasps as she finally remembers.
A sudden, loud boom sounding echoes as Asha recalls the destruction and death that ended her previous life.
In the present, the dark-haired boy hovers over the princess in concern, asking if she is all right. Looking out from her bed, the girl reflects on her 9th life and how exhausting it is to have died 8 times before. A sudden, quick mumble sounding occurs as Asha studies the Bible, recalling how staying at the shrine maximized her survival rate.
Staring at the tear-stained pages of her magic book, she thinks about how rare it is to find even one person to trust.
A sudden, loud boom sounding interrupts her memory of a trip to a great temple conference where explosions tore the air apart. A sudden, loud crash sounding marks the chaos as knights desperately try to shield a princess from the spreading fire in a past life.
A sudden, quick thud sounding signals the girl's fall to the cobblestones as she watches the temple's destruction in her memory.
Prostrate on the ground, the previous version of Asha pleads for them to wait, desperately wanting to follow her protectors.
A sudden, loud boom sounding accompanies the sight of massive stones falling from the collapsing temple toward the helpless girl. Looking at the burning ruins, the princess wonders if the royal family was betrayed by traitors within their own ranks.
She remembers a boy standing alone against the knights, displaying a level of strength that seemed impossible for his age.
Staring at the boy's cold, determined eyes, she recalls her past self, wondering how he could face the knights by himself.
The memory turns dark as Asha recalls being unable to avoid the falling building, meeting her death instantly in that previous existence.
Returning to the present, Asha groans as she lies on the floor, fully remembering the events of her past lives.
A sudden, quick lift sounding occurs as the boy startles the princess by picking her up in his arms. Blushing with confusion, Asha wonders how a child his age possesses the physical strength to carry her so easily. A sudden, quick stomp sounding echoes through the room as the boy marches purposefully toward the bed while holding the girl.
A sudden, quick thump sounding marks the moment he sets her down on the mattress and pulls her toward the pillows.
Looking down with a worried expression, the dark-haired boy asks the princess if she is feeling okay. Asha sighs in relief, noting that her condition seems to be improving after the sudden rush of memories.
The princess looks at him and asks why he isn't going to kill her, leaving the boy stunned by her bluntness.
An awkward silence fills the room as the 2 children stare at one another, neither knowing what to say next. A sudden, quick whoosh sounding accompanies the boy clenching his fist as he insists that he still has to kill her to keep his secret. Asha stares back with a calm, unblinking gaze, making the boy's threats feel powerless against her composure.
Turning her head away, the princess tells the prince that he won't kill her, catching him completely off guard.
The boy reacts with utter shock, demanding to know what she could possibly mean by such a statement.
Asha remembers the boy running toward her in a past life with a desperate face, even though he didn't know her then.
The princess sits quietly on the bed, her mind filled with the complex history they shared in a different time. A promotional banner displays other Manhwa titles and encourages readers to visit the website. Looking at the library shelves, Asha deduces that the boy likely uses teleportation magic to steal books and enter the tower. She recalls the day she felt a strange magic power through a door and realized the boy was the source. The memory shifts to when the boy was 12 years old and was eventually caught and confronted by the Citadel's knights.
Chibi Asha laments another sad ending, remembering that she met her death at the temple during the ensuing chaos.
Looking at the boy's frantic expression in her memory, she realizes he was running toward her to try and save her. Back in the tower room, the boy stands silently before the bed as the princess processes his true nature. The boy is outraged that she used a nickname, while Asha simply notes that Leo sounds beautiful and suits him. A sudden bright sparkle sounding occurs as the girl introduces herself as Anastasia Lumiere Entomos and invites him to call her Asha.
A voice from within the room shouts out a reminder that he had promised to kill her just moments ago.
Ignoring the threat, Asha points toward the balcony and asks the boy if the window is currently open. A sudden, quick grab sounding occurs as the princess takes the boy's hand and tells him to come with her. The boy follows in bewilderment as Asha leads him across the room toward the open balcony doors. A sudden, quick clatter sounding rings out as she steps onto the balcony, noting that they are too high up for anyone to notice them. A sudden, quick jump sounding marks the princess climbing onto the railing, causing the boy to shout in alarm.
Horrified by her reckless behavior, the prince asks if she has gone crazy and demands to know what she is doing. The boy's face turns pale with shock as he watches the girl balance precariously on the edge of the high tower. Looking down at the glass building below, Asha realizes the path leads toward the greenhouse garden she once failed to secure. Standing on the railing, the princess tells Leo that her current situation is the result of her lack of magical skill. Asha claims that since she is destined to die anyway, it is better for her to die alone rather than let the innocent Leo get his hands dirty. Leo looks on in horror as Asha balances on the railing, asking if she truly has no fear of death. Asha admits she is frightened, but insists she must ask Leo one important question. Pointing toward her magic books, the princess proposes that if Leo breaks the tower's mana barrier, she can use her magic to help them escape. She offers to keep his presence a secret and promises to help him return to his home in Kalisa. The prince reacts with intense skepticism, shouting that her words must be a lie and demanding a reason to believe her.
While chibi versions of the children argue, Asha firmly declares that she is betting her own life on the success of their promise.
Leo's wide purple eye reflects the image of the girl standing precariously on the high tower railing. Lunging forward, the boy lets out a desperate cry as a sudden, quick grab sounding occurs when he reaches for her. The princess is yanked backward into the room, caught by the boy's surprising physical strength. The two children tumble backward together as a sudden, loud boom sounding marks their heavy impact with the floor. Asha lands directly on top of the prince, causing a sudden, sharp, sounding to escape his lips as he groans in pain. Looking down at him with a mischievous glint, the pink-haired girl asks if his rescue can be taken as an official acceptance of her offer. An awkward silence follows as the boy stares up at her, his face flushing with visible embarrassment and confusion. The scene shifts to the exterior of the royal palace at night, where a frantic voice calls out for the princess. Back in her own chambers, Asha peeks out from a doorway as a sudden, quick slide sounding occurs, sensing that her father's arrival spells trouble. The king, a blonde man with red eyes, confronts his daughter about the dangerous teleportation magic he heard she attempted earlier that day.
Chibi Asha nervously tries to downplay the incident, claiming she simply got the coordinates slightly wrong and ended up outside the academy.
Her father sternly questions why she would attempt such a perilous spell, emphasizing the grave risks involved. Recalling her secret success, Asha remembers the sudden, quick sizzle sounding of the magical portal she created and wonders if Leo is a natural genius.
To appease her father, the princess promised that she will refrain from using that magic again until she is much older.
The king experiences a sudden, sharp pause, sounding as he studies her face, momentarily suspicious of her uncharacteristically easy compliance. Asha beams brightly and holds out her hand, offering a pinky promise to seal her word. Overwhelmed by her charm, the blonde man lets out a long sigh as the tension leaves his face. The two lock pinkies to finalize the agreement, with the father reminding her that she is now bound by her word. Inwardly, the mischievous princess smiles, fully intending to continue her secret magical activities despite her promise. Back in the tower, Leo sits alone on his bed, contemplating how lonely the princess must be to have risked so much to visit him. Looking at a book describing the Kalisa people as monsters, Asha reflects that the prince actually has a very noble appearance. Writing in her diary, the girl muses that she is the true devil for manipulating the situation and forcing things to go her way. Under a full moon, she admits to feeling a mixture of guilt and worry about the path she has chosen. Staring at the distant palace towers, she resolves to return to the tower as soon as possible. The princess sits at her elaborate desk, focused on her writing as the night deepens. Sitting across the room, her father invites her to come sit with him while he continues his reading. The king tells his daughter that he intends to stay until he is certain she has fallen asleep for the night. Asha quickly objects, telling him she won't be able to sleep at all if he remains in the room. When her father offers to fetch tea to help her rest, the chibi princess loudly insists that there is no need. Frustrated, she scribbles insults about her father's stubbornness into her notebook, annoyed by his constant surveillance and interference. A sudden, quick dash sounding occurs as the girl runs toward her bed, planning to fake sleep until her father finally leaves. Asha lies perfectly still under the covers, keeping her eyes tightly shut to complete her deception. A sudden, quick squeeze sounding occurs as she shuts her eyes even tighter, wondering if she is simply too hardworking. Isolated in his tower room, the dark-haired prince stares blankly at the wall, lost in his own thoughts. Asha's voice echoes in a memory, thanking Leo and promising to find him again within the next few days. In the silence of the room, the boy whispers his agreement to himself. Leo settles into bed, concluding that the princess's promise to keep his secrets must be nothing more than a brazen lie. A chibi character with light blue hair weeps while asking for support and reader's help. The scene shifts to a past memory where the hem of a pink dress stands near a bush as a voice calls out for a priest.
Asha, looking younger and wearing a different pink dress, raises her fist with a bright smile and begs for a promise. A young blonde boy with red eyes looks on in utter surprise as she holds out her pinky finger toward him. The princess tilts her head in confusion, asking the boy if he has never heard of a pinky swear before. An anatomical illustration of a heart appears as the narrator explains how the pinky finger connects two hearts and minds. In a past memory, child Asha tells the young blonde boy that a pinky swear is only for someone close to them, like family or friends. The young blonde boy a memory bubble declares they are friends as the adult king rests his head in his hand while a sudden, quick blink sounding occurs. Focusing on his weary red eye, a sudden, quick blink sounding marks the king as he begins to stir from his heavy thoughts.
Looking around the dimly lit study, the blonde man notes that he must have dozed off while sitting at his desk.
A sudden, quick approach sounding marks the father walking across the ornate rug toward the large bed where the princess is resting.
Asha lies peacefully asleep on her pillow, her long pink hair spread out as she breathes softly in the quiet room.
A sudden, quick flop sounding rings out as the king sits at the edge of the bed watching over his sleeping daughter. The blonde man gazes downward with a heavy heart, his red eyes filled with a deep, silent contemplation. The narrator notes that 3 uneventful years have passed since that day as the king leads a slightly older Asha through the palace. Sitting together on a blanket, the king and Asha enjoy a peaceful picnic in the lush royal gardens under the warm sun. The narrator reflects that every single moment he gazed at the princess, he felt a happiness as if his heart was melting. Beaming with joy, the pink-haired girl holds up a drawing she made of her father, feeling a sense of pure happiness. His gloved hand rests on a book as the narrator admits to a constant anxiety that accompanied his joy. The king remembers a dark moment holding a baby before a hooded figure, worried he might be punished at the peak of his happiness. Reaching out toward the bed, the father admits he does not know the will of Lord Rooks, but wants to stay with her. Staring at the girl, he remains uncertain of the divine plan, but clings to the hope of their continued life together. Recalling a memory of Asha sobbing and accusing him of wanting to abandon her, he resolves never to see her cry like that again. A sudden, quick glow sounding occurs as the king uses a touch of magic while wishing Her Highness pleasant dreams. The scene shifts to the exterior of the academy buildings as a sudden, quick chirp sounding rings out from birds on a branch. In her bright room, Asha lets out a long yawn while stretching her arms above her head after waking up. A sudden, quick drowsy sounding occurs as the girl sits up, feeling like she had a nice dream that she can no longer remember. Rosa asks if Her Highness is awake, to which Asha cheerily wishes her a good morning while noting it is an important day. As maids help her dress, the narrator explains she will enter the academy today to meet the noble sons and daughters of Santra. A sudden, quick dun sounding marks the arrival of the red-haired Ark, who waves and tells Her Highness to hurry. Taken completely by surprise, the pink-haired girl stares wide-eyed and stammers out his name with a sudden, quick S sounding. When Asha asks what he is doing in a school uniform, Ark reveals that he will be attending the academy alongside her. The princess is confused, pointing out that a full-fledged knight would usually be too busy with training to attend school. Ark explains he insisted on it because she needs an escort, even though his commander initially reacted with outrage at the request. He tells her the king eventually agreed to a 1-year permission, leading Asha to happily suggest he can learn magic properly. Ark clarifies that he only requested attendance to serve as her escort, causing the girl to offer a shy, slightly confused thank you. A sudden, quick sweat sounding occurs as Ark declares himself her closest follower, while a tiny Ryzen weeps in the background. Inside the carriage, Ark admits things worked out well despite the scar his father gave him, making Asha exclaim his dad is mean. Looking at the Grand Academy, the princess resolves to gather as many allies as possible to survive in the desolate environment. A sudden, quick clunk sounding marks the ornate royal carriage rolling toward the gates with its team of white horses. Students in various uniforms watch from the gate, amazed by the sheer number of people gathered for the start of the term. A sudden, quick murmur sounding arises as students notice the royal carriage and wonder if Princess Anastasia has arrived. Peeking through the carriage window, the pink-haired girl lets out a quiet gasp as she takes in the bustling scene. A memory of being judged surfaces as the girl clenches her sleeve with a sudden, quick clench sounding while thinking of her past. Ark steps out and loudly demands to know where the students' greetings are for Her Highness the First Princess. The crowd of students is stunned into silence by the red-haired boy's sudden and authoritative outburst. A sudden, quick bow sounding occurs as the gathered students all bow deeply, offering their greetings to the Jewel of Santra. Blushing with visible discomfort, Asha notes that the situation is embarrassing, as she is simply not used to such grand attention. Ark informs her they have morning chapel before classes and mentions she is expected to sit at the very front of the hall. Pointing toward the pews, Ark notes their destination while Asha realizes they will be seated right next to Princess Stella.
The pink-haired girl suggests Ark sit on her right to be near his fiancé, but he nervously objects that things are complicated. Pointing her finger, Asha insists that as her right arm, he must sit on her right side, leaving Ark to groan.
Ark begrudgingly offers a greeting to Princess Stella, who turns around in shock at seeing him standing there. The brown-haired princess is thrilled to confirm he is attending the academy, while Ark sheepishly explains it just worked out that way. Stella invites him for tea at her palace, prompting a relieved Asha to think that it is good the girl is fixated. The chapel service begins as the pink-haired girl muses on the difficulty of Ark breaking his royal engagement with Princess Stella. Peeking over the pews, Asha scans the room for Frisia Ishtar, eager to reunite after their long time apart. The large wooden doors of the chapel open with a sudden, quick creak sounding. A girl with short purple hair and red eyes hesitates at the entrance, appearing nervous as she enters. The woman at the podium reprimands Frisia for her repeated lateness to the service. Offering a sudden, quick bow sounding, the purple-haired girl apologizes profusely to the instructors. The instructor instructs her to stand in the back and reflect while Frisia dejectedly agrees. Asha watches her friend with concern, realizing that being late is completely out of character for the girl. Noticing her friend's worn-out appearance, the princess notes that Frisia looks quite haggard. A sudden, quick giggle sounding erupts from the other students, leaving Asha to feel that something is wrong. The princess remains suspicious of the atmosphere, certain that some ulterior motive is at play. An announcement board highlights an urgent search for new staff members to assist the team with various roles. A sudden, quick clang sounding rings from the clock tower as birds take flight over the academy grounds. A sudden, quick dash sounding marks the girl running off to find her friend despite Ark's warnings about starting classes. Frisia is taken by surprise when their eyes meet, gasping in shock at the sight of the princess. Despite the silent connection, the purple-haired girl immediately flees through the hallway once the service concludes. A sudden, quick ta-da-da sounding echoes as Asha chases her down the stairs, ignoring the danger. Speeding up as she descends the blue-carpeted steps, the girl loses control as Ark shouts a warning. Terrified and unable to stop, Asha screams for others to watch out as she hurtles forward. A sudden, quick poof sounding marks the moment the girl crashes into a student who catches her mid-fall. A sudden, quick flop sounding occurs as the peach-haired boy asks if she is okay, while she thanks him breathlessly. Looking up at her rescuer, Asha asks if he managed to escape the collision unharmed. A sudden, quick dazzle sounding emphasizes the handsome appearance of the peach-haired boy, reminding the girl of a young Ryzen. The boy kneels and addresses her as his dear princess, causing nearby students to react with total bewilderment. As other students whisper about the bold address, Asha wonders what in the world the boy is thinking. A sudden, quick bonk sounding occurs as Ark strikes the boy on the head, demanding to know who he thinks he's talking to. Melvian complains about the sudden physical harm while Ark calls him a cocky little brat for his behavior. The chibi boy introduces himself as Melvian Lascelles, explaining he was simply overjoyed to finally meet Her Highness. The girl is stunned by his name, recognizing the Lascelles family lineage immediately. Asha recalls the nobleman with the mustache who previously promised to become her ally. Looking at the smiling boy, the princess realizes that the man's claims about his grandson weren't exaggerations. A sudden, quick, harmonious sounding rings out as Asha greets Melvian politely, while Ark reacts with shock to the boy's noble status. The narrator reflects on being too busy for contact previously, but hopes the boy doesn't expect an engagement. A sudden, quick smile sounding Melvian's happy expression as he stands before the princess. Curiosity piqued, Asha asks the boy how long he has been a student at the academy. The princess pivots the conversation, asking if he has any knowledge of Frisia Ishtar's situation. A sudden, quick, hesitant sounding occurs as Melvian explains that Frisia is the only commoner in the upper class. Pressing for more information, Asha demands to know what else he has heard about her friend. Melvian remains silent for a moment, looking flustered as the princess stares intently at him. A sudden, quick, shy sounding occurs as Melvian blushes, admitting that the princess is even cuter than his grandfather's description. A sudden, quick goosebump sounding marks the total shock felt by Asha and Ark at the boy's sudden flattery. Asha wonders what kind of education the Marquis gave his grandson while imagining the man winking at her. Melvian reveals that the student council has been frequently punishing Frisia for no valid reason. Outraged, the princess questions the nature of the punishments, while Melvian notes the council's dislike for commoners. The boy explains the punishments involve menial chores like laundry, leaving Asha horrified by the unfair treatment. Looking at an old letter, the princess feels guilt, realizing Frisia was suffering in silence to avoid worrying her. Asha urgently asks Melvian to lead her to the dormitory to find her friend. Ark is left stressed and bewildered as the princess decides to cut classes on her very first day. A sudden, quick do-done sounding marks the arrival of lunchtime at the bustling academy exterior. The group hauls a massive pile of laundry away as Ark vents his fury at the student council's cruelty. Students murmur about the pile of clothes and the commoner girl being punished while witnessing the spectacle.
Ark wonders what the princess intends to do with the massive pile of clothing belonging to the students. A sudden, quick thump sounding occurs as Asha ignites the laundry pile with a powerful magical blast. Onlookers are horrified by the presence of a fire on the academy grounds and suggest calling a professor. Asha turns toward the gathering crowd with a sharp, authoritative shout to silence them. The princess warns everyone that she will not tolerate bullying or treating classmates like servants. The bullies flee the scene, lamenting that they will have to replace their ruined uniforms. Ark is struck by how charismatic and cute the princess looks even when she is acting so boldly. Melvian is left completely dazed and captivated by Asha's righteous display of leadership. The peach-haired boy offers glowing praise, but Asha worries his flattery is a bit too generous. Seeing the two interact, Ark is visibly fuming with an intense and silent jealousy. The red-haired boy commands Melvian to keep his distance while the narrator muses on his protective brotherly instincts.
Later that night, Asha asks her father if he was ever bullied during his time as a knight.
King Ryzen is visibly stunned by the unexpected and personal nature of her question. He immediately asks if someone is bothering her at school, though she claims it is only curiosity. Ryzen admits to facing early sabotage, but notes that his rising rank eventually solved the problem. Asha concludes that rank and influence are the most reliable ways to protect herself and her friends. The girl muses on the difficulty of protecting Frisia when they are separated during the day. A sense of worry clouds her expression as she thinks about potentially leaving the academy prematurely. The princess resolves to help Frisia become the student council president to reform the academy's cruel customs. Sensing that something major must have happened at school, King Ryzen continues to question his daughter. Asha attempts to dismiss his concerns by urging him to relax and enjoy more of the tea.
She questions why he likes the sweet beverage so much despite his general dislike for sugary things.
The king drinks from his porcelain cup while keeping his eyes fixed on the letter he is reading. A sudden, quick pff sounding marks Ryzen's reaction to Asha asking if her mother also liked the tea. The king begins coughing violently, prompting the princess to rush over with water and a napkin.
Asha is surprised by the sheer shock and intensity of her father's reaction to the mention of her mom.
His face flushed with embarrassment, Ryzen turns away and remains silent as he tries to recover. The king apologizes for making such a mess of their quiet tea time. The princess teases him about being so surprised, asking why he reacted with such shock. The two bicker in their cute chibi forms as Ryzen stubbornly denies being rattled by her words. Asha repeats her question, desperate to find out if her mother shared his taste in tea. Defensively, Ryzen asks how he could possibly know such a specific detail about her late mother. The pink-haired girl reminds him that they were teammates during various monster extermination missions. The king remains completely silent and sweaty, unable to come up with a valid rebuttal. Abruptly, the blonde-haired man stands up and announces he is finished for the night. Asha is disappointed that he is running away before she can finish teasing him about his reaction. A sudden, quick scamper sounding occurs as the girl runs to prepare for her nighttime visit. The princess begins stuffing a large satchel full of magic books and other mysterious items. Clad in her pink dress and holding her heavy bag, she declares herself ready to leave. Her collection includes rare magical texts, writing supplies, and a variety of delicious baked treats. A sudden, quick hoo-hoo sounding follows her hope that the bribe will keep a certain boy from killing her. A sudden, quick flash sounding occurs as light reflects off a window of the Grand Academy at night. In his room, the dark-haired boy is caught completely off guard while in the middle of changing. Asha stands at the entrance, seemingly unfazed by the boy's surprised expression or state of dress. The boy reacts with a frantic silent scream as the girl tells him to cast a sound-deadening spell. He angrily demands to know what she is doing back in his room in the middle of the night. Asha explains that she always keeps her promises while comparing the boy to an angry, hissing cat. A sudden, quick rummage sounding occurs as the girl pulls out gifts to show her gratitude for his help. Asha reaches into her bag but stops as Leo's voice rings out, demanding to know if she is stupid or something for returning. A sudden, quick, angry sounding marks the girl's frustration as she vents about the boy's bratty attitude despite her long journey to see him.
Leo yells at the princess, questioning why she would return to see a state enemy who tried to kill her instead of reporting everything to the king.
A sudden, quick holding back sounding occurs as Leo clenches his fist, asking if she understands the fear he has lived through this past week. The scene focuses on the girl's wide, sparkling eye as she observes the hidden pain in the boy's expression. The narrator reflects on how scared Leo must have been, fearing his books would be seized and he would never leave his room again. Attempting to cheer him up, Asha suggests they share snacks while they talk, noting she has more time today than during her last visit. Leo stubbornly rejects the bribe, claiming he isn't a beggar, but a sudden, quick growl sounding from his stomach betrays his resolve. A sudden, quick poof sounding follows as Asha teases Leo about his hungry tummy while he frantically tries to deny his interest in the tasty food. A sudden, quick do-done sounding marks the shift in atmosphere as the two children sit side by side on the sofa with a plate of treats.
The dark-haired boy stares silently at the snack in his hand, looking pensive and slightly hesitant.
A sudden, quick nom sounding occurs as Asha bites into her snack first to prove it is safe, encouraging the boy to join her. A sudden, quick, slowly sounding marks the moment Leo finally brings the chocolate dip snack to his mouth. A sudden, quick please sounding rings out as Asha watches the boy eat happily while he enjoys the treat with a satisfied nom nom. Recalling her own past, the princess thinks about how the boy likely never had anything delicious to eat, much like her own experiences.
Asha points toward a grand wooden cabinet, asking if it is safe to keep his magic books there, or if servants might find them.
Leo explains that there are no servants to clean the place, leaving the princess stunned by the realization that he does all the work. The narrator confirms her suspicions, reflecting on how her own servants used to neglect their duties and leave her with all the chores.
The boy notes that only those delivering necessities visit him, meaning his secrets would have remained hidden if not for her.
A dark premonition shows the girl imagining Leo being discovered by knights in the future, leading to a tragedy that causes her own death. Leo turns his gaze back to her, seriously asking who she exactly is and why she lives in the palace.
Asha is caught off guard by the question as Leo concludes that her residence in the palace means she isn't just a distant royal relative.
A regal portrait shows a noble woman with red hair standing beside a young girl, both looking solemn amidst a floral background. A sudden, quick fidget sounding occurs as the princess nervously identifies herself as the daughter of the late Princess Beatrice.
Leo was puzzled, noting he heard Beatrice never married, while Asha becomes increasingly flustered and unsure of how to explain further.
The dark-haired boy asks bluntly if she is an illegitimate child, his expression unreadable as he stares at her.
Looking down sadly, Asha admits it is a long story and expresses her fear that he will find her status disgraceful.
Leo dismisses her shame, stating that her status isn't her fault and he has no reason to think badly of her for it. The girl is completely taken aback, her eyes widening in total shock at his unexpected kindness and acceptance.
Relieved, Asha asks if he truly doesn't judge her, while Leo confirms he lacks the prejudice she expected from him.
Leo recalls his mother's wise words, explaining that children should never suffer for the mistakes or biases of the adults in their lives. Eyes sparkling with admiration, Asha praises Leo's mother for being a truly wonderful and kind person. A sudden, quick flinch sounding marks the boy's embarrassment as the princess's sincere flattery causes him to blush.
Acting tough, the chibi boy insists he won't judge her for stupid reasons, but claims he still doesn't like her at all. Undeterred by his grumpy attitude, the girl excitedly suggests that the two of them should become friends.
Leo shouts in disbelief, asking if she listened to anything he just said while calling her an unbelievable person. A sudden, quick point sounding occurs as Asha offers him more magic books as a bribe to accept her friendship. A vision of a humble cabin appears as she recalls the horrendous and lonely days of her past existence. She remembers her imprisonment at the palace, forced to do chores while maids whispered cruelly behind her back. A warm but bittersweet memory shows a blonde-haired man watching over her as she slept, highlighting her long-standing desire for connection. Asha gazes at Leo with a hopeful and determined expression, asking once more if he will agree to be her friend.
A small Shiba Inu dog lets out a cheerful bark as a message thanks the reader for following along.
The princess repeats her heartfelt request for friendship, her large eyes shining with sincerity. A heavy sigh drifts through the night air as the scene shifts to a wide view of the Grand Academy under a starry sky. A sudden, quick flop sounding occurs as Leo collapses onto the sofa, drained by the intensity of the princess's visit. A sudden, quick pounding sounding marks the boy's racing heart as he wonders why he is reacting so strongly to her presence. Leo lies back and thinks about how she suddenly appeared and demanded his friendship, sensing there is more to her than meets the eye. He questions why he spoke so gently to her, noting that if she were Princess Beatrice's daughter, they would be enemies. Holding his hand to his head, the flustered boy remains lost in thought as he processes everything that just happened. In a dreamlike space, a mysterious person resolves to use her for their own benefit. Rumors spread at the academy that Prince Lascelles has been following Princess Anastasia since the morning. In the shadows, students gossip about the Marquis risking inheritance and Eleanor swearing her allegiance. A red-haired girl worries about a returned favor, while her friend calls the princess cocky.
The red-haired girl wonders how to handle the situation after the princess gained magic runly.
The lavender-haired girl plots to humiliate the young genius by pushing her out of her comfort zone. She reveals that the upcoming team exam was organized by her acquaintances to target the princess.
Asha wonders if a hunting festival with beasts will be as easy as it sounds.
The princess asks the pink-haired boy if winning the festival secures the student council presidency. Asha's lighthearted laughter fills the air with a sudden, quick, ha-ha-ha sounding as the boys watch.
Lascelles nervously asks if she will attend, knowing Lord Parciel is likely to object. With a sudden quick smile sounding, Asha declares she will defeat her father to hunt those people.
Walking through the courtyard, the princess wonders why Free has been avoiding her all day. Hidden behind a stone pillar, Free watches Asha from a distance with a heavy heart. The girl's hiding spot is ruined by a sudden, quick surprise sounding when Asha calls her name.
Asha chases after the fleeing girl, demanding she stop before she truly loses her temper.
Trembling with a sudden, quick fidgeting sounding, Free stops and addresses the princess with a look of guilt. Asha confronts her friend, asking why she hid the bullying instead of trusting her for help. Blushing, Free explains she didn't want to bother the princess since she is graduating soon anyway.
Asha insists that since Free is her person now, they must be completely honest with each other.
Lascelles and the pink-haired boy react with shock to being excluded from Asha's special group.
A wave of intense jealousy washes over the chibi Lascelles as he questions why others feel chosen.
The sun shines over the academy as an announcement notes that Princess Anastasia is running late.
Asha apologizes to her teacher, explaining that dealing with her crybaby friend delayed her arrival.
Professor Geiser scolds the princess for her absence and questions her disregard for school rules.
A notice board highlights that Period 1 is a theory class led by a highly awarded professor. A memory shows Geiser being honored with a sudden, quick clapping sounding during a grand ceremony.
Two elegant ladies gossip in the hallway as the young princess walks quietly behind them.
From his podium, the professor doubts whether Asha can handle the difficulty of his graduate-level class. He challenges her to demonstrate her ability by drawing the complex spell for a message stone. Surrounded by blooming flowers, a confident Asha agrees to show off her recent experimental findings. Her concentration is marked by a sudden, quick drawing sounding as she begins on the chalkboard. The room is filled with a sudden, quick scratching sounding as her hand moves with perfect precision. The other students watch in awe, a sudden, quick ooh sounding as they witness her speed. Asha finishes the elaborate circle with a sudden, quick tapping sounding, satisfied with her purposeful work. Geiser examines the spell circle, forced to admit to himself that her work is not bad. He critiques the recipe as imperfect, causing Asha to ask exactly what he means by that. The princess returns to the board, explaining that she recently tested a way to improve the spell. Her modified spell uses significantly less mana while allowing communication between a larger group of people. Angrily, the professor insists that the original 50-year-old formula by Duke Linnea is already perfect. Asha counters with a sudden, quick grin sounding, reminding him that magic truly has no limits. The chibi professor begrudgingly agrees to take her improved recipe to the testing institute for verification. Dismissing her with a sudden, quick snapping sounding, Geiser irritably tells her to return to her seat. The silence is broken by a sudden, quick creak sounding as Asha sits to observe the teacher. Her curiosity is piqued by a sudden, quick huh sounding as she notices something on her desk. A secret note asks if she truly created the modified spell she just drew on the board. Beside her, Eleanor watches with a sudden, quick twinkle sounding in her eyes, clearly starstruck. Asha's reply is accompanied by a sudden, quick scribbling sounding as she explains her self-led research. A sudden, quick glowing sounding reflects Eleanor's joy as she continues her secret conversation with Asha. The red-haired girl sends a final note hoping the spell passes and sharing her dislike for the professor. Asha, pink hair, sits beside Milla, brown hair, completely shocked by their conversation.
Milla introduces herself as Viscount Estevan's daughter and asks to be called by her name.
The brown-haired girl asks Asha if she can see the beast after class.
Asha reflects on how rare divine power is while considering the girl's request.
Milla is overwhelmed as the princess takes the initiative in their conversation.
Lord Parciel questions Asha about whether she showed the beast to the other students. Holding the round white creature, Asha happily claims that everyone really liked it.
Milla and Eleanor gush over the beast, begging for a chance to hug the adorable creature.
Asha cuddles the beast, noting how cute it remains despite having no special powers. Parciel warns her that the beast isn't a toy and summoning it drains too much mana.
The princess is annoyed by his constant and repetitive nagging.
Asha argues she can maintain the summon for an hour and asks about its growth.
Parciel continues lecturing her about her lacking defenses while Asha cries from the boredom. The princess pleads for him to try summoning his own beast just once.
He repeatedly refuses, fearing his beast is too large and dangerous for her to be around.
Asha counters that his strength should allow him to make the creature appear smaller. She holds her small beast and asks him one last time to agree. Lord Parciel sweats nervously as the princess stares at him with hopeful, sparkling eyes. Defeated by her persistent cuteness, the man finally agrees to summon it just once. Asha celebrates her victory with a joyful shout of excitement. A text box explains that beasts have egos and often reflect their owner's personality. As Parciel summons his beast, Asha thinks its sharp personality matches his barbaric appearance. The princess asks her little creature if it is also frightened by the large dragon. A sudden, quick oof sounding marks the princess being knocked over by the massive dragon.
The giant white beast begins licking her face as she lets out an uncomfortable mice. Flowers bloom in the background as Asha screams out in confusion at the beast's behavior. Lord Parcial panics as his enormous white dragon affectionately pins the princess to the ground. Two cute characters wave goodbye, thanking the reader for following the story.